And we are live for week 13. How's it going, everyone? It is the final 2 weeks of the fantasy football regular season in almost every single league. We had a fantastic Thanksgiving. I hope you guys had a wonderful Thanksgiving as well. It was the best prop slate of the year for me on Thanksgiving. We went 6 for 7 on the free player prop shared on the Thanksgiving morning live. I know there's going to be some very difficult start sits today before we jump into it. Year 5, week 13 of the Sunday morning lives. Grateful for you all. Shout out to the OGs, the people already in this live stream with me here at 9 a.m. Eastern time. Seriously grateful for you all. Shout out to all the WalterPicks subscribers as well, and all the brand new viewers on the live stream today. We're going to be getting after it. We are locked in for a smaller week 13 slate than usual. We've already had 4 games played, but there are no buys this week, so it feels like a somewhat normal slate, even though there's been 4 games played already. Of course, we're going to have the touchdown scores, my favorite touchdown scores of the day, like we've been having on the live stream the past many weeks. Now, these have been going pretty well. We're hitting these at an over 50% clip. Not bad for these touchdown scores. I will pull these up in a second. I do have a lot of longer shots to score today. A lot of good takes coming in the games today. We're going to have Samps joining in a couple of hours. Of course, we're going to start by going game by game. We're going to talk about every single game on this live stream. We're going to talk about every single relevant fantasy player in every single game as well. These are the start sits we got to nail at this point in the season to get into the fantasy playoffs and then win in the fantasy playoffs. I know there's going to be a lot of Michael Wilson and Marvin Harrison Jr. questions today. We're going to get to those, I promise. We're going to start out today, though, with the game-by-game slate. Let me pull up. We'll hop over to the QB rankings. Let me pull up the QB rankings here. Really, I'd like to start with the QB ranks to get a sense of the overall slate. But we're going to start with this 49ers and Browns game today. This game opened, 49ers were 6.5-point favorites. We're getting Shedeur Sanders' second start. He is 1-0 as a Cleveland Browns starter. He was the first Browns starter in my lifetime to win in their first game. Now, Shedeur Sanders still not good at football, in my opinion, but this game is the one weather game to really be aware of today. Let me pull up the weather report, actually, just as we jump to this. Weatherman Sam's here today. There's going to be a lot of fear-mongering in the weather streets today. There's really only one game that I'm concerned about at all. There's some rain out there in some other games, but it's really this 49ers-Browns game. This game is in Cleveland. This game has 30 to 35 mile an hour wind gusts. The sustained winds are closer to 20 miles an hour, which is below that 25 mile an hour threshold of concern. But there is going to be snow, like pretty steady snow throughout this Browns 49ers game. So definitely going to impact deep passing and kicking. There's also going to be some possible rain in the Jaguars, Titans, Falcons, Jets, Rams, Panthers, but I'm not overly concerned about that. So keep that weather report in mind as we talk through this game. 49ers offense finally at full health. Brock Purdy looked awful on Monday night. I mean, I was irrationally excited for this Monday night game last week between the 49ers and the Panthers. Bryce Young was coming off his career best game. The 49ers defense has stopped nobody. And the Panthers defense, I thought, had no hope at stopping this 49ers offense. Bryce Young goes out there, throws only 193 passing yards. He throws 3 interceptions. Should have thrown a 4th or 5th interception in that game, too. I don't know how he could possibly start Brock Purdy here in the snow, in the wind against the Browns. I mean, he's definitely not startable. Christian McCaffrey, on the other hand, he's still a must start no matter what the weather report is. It's tough not to have flashbacks to last season in the snow for Christian McCaffrey. That was the last game he played last season, ended up with a new injury after the Achilles injury, playing in the snow last season. So hopefully he can keep his footing today. George Kittle still a must start, even in the snow. Everyone else in this team, though, I'd really prefer to bench. Juwan Jennings is in play, but I don't want to start him. And Ricky Pearsall's like now suddenly in this category, if you can't start him and you can't drop him in most leagues, because this schedule after the bye is so good. Titans, Colts, Bears. But yeah, playing in the snow, in the wind against the Browns, he had 2 catches Last week, only 1 catch. He has 3 catches for 6 yards his last 2 games. I'm just completely unstartable here for Ricky Pearsall. But still, I think too talented, too good of a playoff schedule to drop. So I'm holding Pearsall, but I'm not starting. I think Brian Robinson will get some run today as well. He's been running pretty strong. I do like the 49ers to win and cover in this game. The 49ers defense is in play. As injured as they've been, they're in play here because they get Shedeur Sanders and the Browns offense. The Browns, Shedeur, this is like the worst case, I think, for Shedeur in terms of weather reports. His whole game, like we saw in his first start, is going to be connecting on some deep passes. He doesn't have the accuracy in the short or intermediate parts of the field. He does have a strong arm, though. Completed 55% of his passes against the Raiders. I believe that game was in a dome. Now he goes in the snow with 35-mile-an-hour wind gusts. I'm pretty nervous for Shedeur Sanders in this game. I'm not really sure you can scheme around Shedeur in this weather, even though the matchup's really not that bad. That being said, the 49ers did kind of completely stump Bryce Young last week. Judkins is a start for me this week. He ranks as running back 22. I think he should probably rank a little bit ahead of that. He's not going to catch passes. He had 0 catches last week in Shedeur's first start. He now has 0 catches over his last 2 games on only 2 targets in his last 2 games. In the snow and the wind, maybe they gave him some short passes, but yeah, he's really not a factor in the receiving game, so he needs to score. He needs to score to go over 10. I think he probably will score today. Given this weather report, he probably gets near 20 carries in this game. In Shedeur's first start, he had 16 carries, only 60% rush share. Dylan Sampson took a screen pass to the house. I think he'll continue to be involved, especially in the pass game. But not a single one of these Browns players, other than Judkins, can really be started. And Njoku projects under 4 points today. He definitely can't be started. Pull up the wide receiver rankings here. He certainly can't be started. Fannin did have a role in Shedeur's first game at 8.4 points, 4 for 40, played 90% of the snaps. So this is actually a career high snap percentage for Harold Fannin. Also had a 33% target share. That was a career high too. First game over a 30% target share. Only 6 targets though. Not his most targets of the season. And there's just no way the Browns drop back enough for any of these guys to really have a really big ceiling. But yeah, if I had to guess, Fannin would be the leader again in target share today in that short part of the field. All right, that's the 49ers and Browns game. Browns defense obviously in play as well, given those weather reports, and Myles Garrett's on pace to break the all-time sack record in a single season. He's going to be the defensive player of the year already. There's still a month left in the season. He's pretty much locked it up at this point. He's probably going to get a few more sacks today. All right, on to the next game, this Jaguars versus Titans game. There's actually a lot to talk through in this game because Brian Thomas Jr. is back. And Brian Thomas Jr., I think, really needs to be started in a lot of leagues. This is a very good matchup for the Jaguars receivers. The Titans, we talked about it last week on Live. We were all over it. The Titans have been horrible against outside receivers, and it ended up being an absolutely dominant game by Jackson Smith and Jigba last week. We thought Rashid Shaheed was kind of an interesting sleeper because of this matchup last week, but it ended up being just the stud. JSN, completely unstoppable. He had 37 points in this game, 8 for 167 and 2 on only 80% of the snaps. Did have 10 targets for a 40% target share last week for JSN. Yeah, one of Jacoby Myers, Brian Thomas Jr., is going to have a big game, go over 20 points. Here, Jacoby Myers projects a little bit better than Brian Thomas Jr. in his first game back, but I'm not sleeping on Brian Thomas Jr. And as I looked back at his game logs from the season, I do feel like he's getting a little too underrated right now as Brian Thomas Jr. He has had pretty consistent targets. He's had at least 6 targets in basically every game. Yeah, the one game he didn't hit 6 targets. He got hurt early in that game, only played 65% of the snaps. Every other game, he's got at least 6 targets. You can book him for 6+ targets every single week. I know he hasn't been the most efficient on those targets this season, but we do have a pretty large sample size of him being pretty efficient in his rookie season. I still have faith here for Brian Thomas Jr., and this is a really good bounce back spot for him to come back against the Titans. The Jaguars are 10-point favorites in this game. Only a 5.5 point favorites in this game. There is rain projected in this game. I'm not scared about the rain. There is absolutely no evidence that I have found that rain negatively impacts offenses in the NFL. I mean, these teams can play through rain. They really can play through snow too. It is the wind that gets me concerned, and it's the wind, rain, or wind, snow combos that get me concerned, like that Browns 49ers game today. But yeah, the Jags opened as 7-point favorites. Now they're only 5.5-point favorites in this game. And I do think some of this has to do with Cam Ward, who we'll talk about in a second. But Brenton Strange, he suddenly is he suddenly is in the conversation to be a top 10 tight end rest of season. In games that Brenton Strange has played this season, he leads the Jaguars in receiving, guys. He leads the Jags in receiving. He's averaging 4 catches for 50 yards a game. That includes the game that he got hurt, where he only played 38% of the snaps, only had 1 catch. If we remove that game, he's averaging closer to 60 yards per game, like 5 catches, 60 yards a game. It's like his average this season. Titans haven't been bad versus tight ends, but yeah, Brenton Strange is gonna have a big role. He only played 71% of snaps last week. That probably goes up closer to 80% this week. Really helped improve the Jags offense a lot last week. Sam's talked about it a lot on the live. I was a little more scared than Sam's about Brenton Strange last week. Sam's was right there about Brenton Strange. Travis Etienne, he's a must start, and Bashaw Tutin is one of my favorite sleepers of the week. I was in on him last week too, so you got to take this with a grain of salt. He had 1.7 points last week, and I liked him as a sleeper last week. Only played 21% of the snaps. Bashaw Tutin is going to get the hot hand approach. We saw this in week 11. When he's running well, he could beat Etienne in carries in any given game if he is looking really explosive. Didn't see that in week 12. Really good matchup here, though, in week 13. They're big favorites in this spot. I do think he's got a good chance to score a touchdown. I'll pull up my touchdown scores of the day here on the YouTube Live. Saw, I think it was Nikki asking for that in the YouTube Live. Guys, shout out to every single one of you in this live stream right now. Shedeur going to have a field day against the 49ers defense. Yeah, Nikki, I'm really not sold on this narrative. And I think we did actually, in the WalterPicks app, we did identify Shedeur's passing prop as a high-value prop. If you guys haven't checked out the WalterPicks app yet, I really don't know what you're waiting for. It is an absolute cheat code for fantasy if you're really serious about winning down the stretch, but it's also huge for player prop if you're into player props. And we were cashing the props, man, on the live on Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving was the biggest betting day of the year for me. But yeah, Shedeur's passing props in the 140s. And I'm honestly a little nervous about that one, just because of the snow and the wind. Without the snow and the wind, I think he would go over 150 passing yards against this 49ers defense. But yeah, with the snow and the wind, I'm pretty concerned. I got my TD scores up. Are we starting Michael Wilson even though Marvin Harrison Jr. is back? Yeah, guys, we're starting Michael Wilson. We're going to get to that Cardinals game here in a second. But I'm still not benching Michael Wilson. I'm still pretty in on Michael Wilson. I think he should be started and projected ahead of Marvin Harrison Jr. So yeah, for this Jaguars game, Jacoby Myers is a good start. Brian Thomas Jr. is a good start. Travis Etienne's a good start. And I think Bashaw Tutin's a pretty good sleeper. And Strange is startable as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of guys I want to start on this Jags team against this Titans defense. Again, one of these two receivers, Jacoby or Brian Thomas Jr., is going to go over 20. I like mixing them both in DFS. And I like the Bashaw Tutin to score prop today as well. I think his rushing line's in the high 20s. I like that also. And Trevor Lawrence, he's a back-end QB1 with the quarterbacks remaining, at least this week. Still not a guy you're really starting in any league. Jaguars defense certainly in play, but Cam Ward's coming off his best game as a pro. Definitely his best fantasy game as a pro. He was the QB4 last week. Guys, the QB4. 23.9 points for Cam Ward last week against the Seahawks. One of the better defenses in the league. Completed 67% of his passes. He also started running. He had 37 rushing yards last week on 6 carries, a 27% rush share. All those were career highs for Cam Ward. Coaching staff talked about after the game, like, yeah, this is the next progression for Cam Ward. And that's pretty exciting for fantasy. Now he gets the Jags, who rank 3rd worst against quarterbacks this season. Cam Ward, kind of sneaky for DFS this week. I think a pretty sneaky sleeper. I got him on my sleeper list this week. Cam Ward, he was the first overall pick in the NFL draft. He's coming off his best game as a pro. He ran the most he's ever ran last week. Now he gets the Jags. He's a 5.5-point underdog. There is rain in this game. We just saw Jacoby throw for 300. Davis Mills threw for 292. Geno threw for 284. I mean, we haven't seen a QB other than Herbert in that game, the epic collapse. We'll talk about the Chargers coming off that bye in week 11, but we have seen a lot of good performances from QBs against the Jags. Almost every QB since week 3 has gone over 18 points against the Jags. Cam Ward, kind of an interesting sleeper if you're really desperate. Gunnar Helm, he also finds the sleeper list this week. He's coming off his best game as a pro as well. 6 catches for 51. Chigakonkwo was questionable coming into this game. He is going to be active in this game, but it seems pretty clear like Gunnar Helm is starting to run away with the primary tight end role in this offense. Alec Imanor is going to be active too, so a little bit of a muddy pass catching group, but Gunnar Helm is worthy of a sleeper shout out on the live today. Shamir Adike, I feel like we get comments every week, questions every week from those of you with punt return yards. You got to be starting DK if you got punt return yards in your league. Even without the punt return yards, though, he's in play. 15.4 points last week, 5 for 44, 80% snap percentage. With Alec Imanor back this week, I don't really want to start DK. Xavier Restrepo projects for 7 points. He had 4.6 last week, only 25% snap percentage. Van Jefferson's going to be active in this game too, but you got to give Restrepo, I think, some run over Van Jefferson if you're the Titans. All right, so really not anyone you need to start here for the Titans, but I do think Gunnar Helm's a sleeper. I do think Cam Ward's a sleeper, and DK is at least on the radar still as well. Let's hop over to the running back ranks here. We do have Tajay Spears ahead of Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard is probably droppable in most leagues at this point. We'll hop over to the running back ranks. I am going to take the Jags in this game as well. They are favored, but I do think the Titans keep this game probably closer than that 5.5 point spread. All right, let's jump to the Cardinals-Bucs game because I've already seen a ton of questions in this game. There's a lot to get through for the Arizona Cardinals, but Marvin Harrison Jr., Maserati Marv, he's back here in week 13. And what does that mean for Michael Wilson? Well, it means his projection is certainly going to be worse. We do have Michael Wilson. Let me hop over to the wide receiver ranks here, actually. Do you have Michael Wilson a decent bit lower than we've had him? I mean, he was up there with CeeDee Lamb and Nico Collins in the last few weeks in terms of the projections. He was there before Marvin Harrison Jr. was ruled in for us. I believe on that Thanksgiving Live, we were looking at Michael Wilson right next to CeeDee Lamb in the ranks. But yeah, I'm still starting Michael Wilson. I still think he's a top. I think he should be even a little higher than we have him projected right now. We got him at I got him at wide receiver 14 on the TikTok Live. He's down at wide receiver 16 here on the YouTube Live. But yeah, I'm starting him in almost every spot. I'm not benching Michael Wilson right now. This connection he has with Jacoby Brissett, the matchup he has against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Guys, he has 25 catches for 300 yards in his last 2 games. It's just not a guy I'm benching at this point of the fantasy football season. In Marvin Harrison Jr., I think he's more of dart throw territory, borderline sleeper territory. I know he's not a sleeper. He's Marvin Harrison Jr., but I do think he's closer to that category than the Michael Wilson category, which I would put in a must-start list here in Week 13. It is a very good matchup for the Cardinals passing attack. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they've been pretty cooked in terms of stopping the pass this season. We've seen 3 straight games. I mean, they have played 3 MVP candidates, to be fair, over their last 3 games. Drake May went for 19. Josh Allen went for 45. That was with 3 rushing touchdowns for Josh Allen and 3 passing touchdowns. Stafford went for 23. He had 3 passing touchdowns as well. That game was kind of over before it started. He probably could have thrown 4 or 5 passing touchdowns in that game if it was close. I mean, Brissett has a real chance at 2 or 3 passing touchdowns today. I think Michael Wilson catches his first touchdown in the last few weeks. He has 25 catches for 300 yards, no touchdowns. I think that changes today. He is on my touchdown list today is Michael Wilson. So yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr., he's startable if you need a ceiling. And this is a unique Sunday morning live where, guys, you really got to give me the context in these start sits. You got to give me the context in these start sits. Dude always takes forever for tight ends. Yeah, let me hop over to the tight ends for you. You got to give me the context for your start sits this week of, do you need a ceiling or a floor? I know there's a lot of different circumstances out there because there's been 4 games played already. Are you in a big lead or are you behind by a lot? I mean, you really should be using that information to help you choose in some of these closer ceiling versus floor decisions. You know, if you're already projected to lose by 20, I might play Marvin Harrison Jr. in a spot like that. But if you're already up by 20, projected to win by 20, I'm probably staying away from Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, Michael Carter arguably has a safer floor than Marvin Harrison Jr. today here against the Bucs. And it's going to be Bam night in Michael Carter. There's no DeMarcado. Trey Benson, surprisingly, not activated for this game. There's been a lot of talk about trading for Trey Benson in fantasy. It's not looking great right now for Trey Benson. Not like this rushing attack has done all that much either. There's been some offensive line injuries on this team. I'm starting to get a little bit nervous for the teams out there with Trey Benson stashed in the IR, hoping that he could do something in the fantasy football playoffs. Jacoby Brissett, by the way, he's a smash start. If you still have quarterbacks that you need to start this week, he ranks ahead of Jackson Dart, Justin Herbert, CJ Stroud. Only Stafford, Bo Nix, Drake May, Josh Allen rank ahead of him left this week. So yeah, I'm starting Michael Wilson. I'm starting Jacoby. Obviously, we're starting McBride. Didn't even talk about him, but you obviously got to start Trey McBride. And then Marvin Harrison Jr., he's a ceiling play. Bam Knight and Michael Carter, these are desperation running back plays, but you could do worse than these two running backs. And these two running backs are going to combine for 30 touches in this game. I mean, they're going to be near 30 touches combined, Bam Knight and Michael Carter. So they're not the worst desperation options. On the other side of this game, we got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This game is another one of the games with potential rain in it. The Bucs opened as 6-point favorites. They are now only 3.5-point favorites at home. And my favorite play in this game, one of my favorite plays on the slate today, is Emeka Egbuka. The Cardinals have been pretty good against receivers this season, but I think Egbuka is very due for a huge game. We saw a 23.5-point game against the Pats a couple weeks back, but really other than that, we haven't seen much from him since the first 5 weeks of the season. He had been battling a hamstring injury in there, but he's playing over 90% of the snaps. Now he's seeing very consistent target shares. We've not seen him under a 24% target share in the last month plus. This game is projected to be pretty close. I don't think the Cardinals offense is stopped by the Bucs defense in this one. I think we could see a really big ceiling game here from Emeka Egbuka. You'll find him in my DraftKings lineup later. Bucky Irving, he returns to the lineup today. I know there's going to be a ton of Bucky Irving start sits. Because we're not benching Egbuka today. I'm really not going to bench him in almost every single start sit. Let me hop over to the wide receiver ranks again. I'll hop into the tight end ranks. I had those up on TikTok. But on TikTok, I'll jump to the wide receiver ranks. But yeah, I really don't want to bench Egbuka. I'd probably start him over Diggs and McConkey and Olave and Ted, personally. So the only guys I'm starting over Egbuka are Devontae, Jefferson, Wandale, Jalen Waddle, Nico, Puka, and JSN. End of list for me. Then I'm starting Egbuka. I'm starting Egbuka over Ted, Olave, McConkey, and Diggs, who are all just ahead of him in our current projections in the WalterPicks app. Baker Mayfield, he's down at QB9. I'd prefer to start a bunch of QBs over him, but he's startable in this matchup. But yeah, let's talk about Bucky Irving, because this is the first game Bucky Irving's been back since, week 4. And he was doing really well, guys, before he was injured. I mean, Bucky Irving looked like a great fantasy pick prior to the injury. He's averaging 18 fantasy points per game this season. That's good for running back 7 on the season. And I've been saying this really since he went down, because it's been true basically since then. Guys, there's only 2 running backs averaging more catches per game than Bucky Irving. It's McCaffrey and Achane. He's got more catches per game than Bijan, more catches per game than Jahmyr Gibbs. It's on a smaller sample size, but man, this is exactly what we want for league-winning running backs. And then you look at the schedule for Bucky Irving. I've been talking about trading for Bucky Irving, I feel like, for several months now. So I'm excited to see him back. I don't think he's a smash, must start here in his first game back. Sean Tucker and Rachaad White are both still going to be involved. It sounds like he's going to be on some type of touch count. But you can start him depending on your options. I would start him over Michael Carter and Bam Knight, for example. I think he's got a better chance at a touchdown than both those guys. I think he has a good chance at a reasonable receiving role as well. And the matchup's definitely not bad here for Bucky Irving. So yeah, I'm okay starting Bucky in his first game back, but he's not like a must start either. I wouldn't put him in the must bench or must start category. Chris Godwin, he's projecting behind Tez Johnson and Sterling Shepard. He just has not looked the same really since he's been back from that injury. We haven't seen him go over 6 points once this whole season. He's played in 3 games now this season. You got to hope he gets back to what he once was, but it's tough to see at this point in the year. K. Dotton, he ranks his tight end 10, startable, but not really a must start either. All right, that's the Bucs Cardinals game. I'm starting Michael Wilson for sure. In almost every start sit, I'm going to be starting Michael Wilson. Show running backs. Yeah, I got you with the running backs. Both the running backs here on both lives. We are just getting started here on this Sunday morning, week 13 live. Guys, shout out to every single one of you already in this live stream. If you have not already, if you're on YouTube, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button. Seriously helps us out a ton here down the stretch of the season. If you're watching live on TikTok, hit the follow button. I'm going to get to hundreds and hundreds of start sit comments on the live. I promise. Ceiling needed, down bad. Want to start Wilson over Egbuka. Yeah, that's a really interesting one. We just talked through that game. Michael Wilson versus Egbuka. I know I just talked about both these guys. I don't think there's a bad choice between these two. I would honestly think I'd argue that the ceiling for Ibuka is higher than Michael Wilson, only because Michael Wilson has not managed to get into the end zone. Despite his 25 catches for 300 yards, he has no touchdowns. And Marvin Harrison Jr. is probably going to be a better touchdown scorer than Michael Wilson, plus Trey McBride has grown into this elite red zone threat all of a sudden, with Jacoby Brissett too. So I think I probably would go Ibuka over Michael Wilson. One of the few probably start sits I'll answer today where I say to bench Michael Wilson. But yeah, I think Ibuka does have a higher ceiling than Michael Wilson, but it's close. It's not like Michael Wilson doesn't have a ceiling there, of course. Okay, are you still starting Ibuka with Baker out? Yeah, let me see this here. Yeah, so it looks like Baker is expected to start. He's playing through an AC joint sprain. The only news we're waiting on is Dalton Kincaid, Josh Palmer, Jerome Ford, and some confirmation on Tyler Warren. Bucky Irving's expected to play. Baker Mayfield's expected to play. Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to play today. Bam Knight is going to play. Chiga Konku and Alec Imanor. We've already talked about all this on the live, but just to recap, Chris Olave is in. Darren Waller is back today too. And then Tyler Warren, he's questionable with an illness. We'll see if he goes, but he probably will. Usually guys play through that. So the only question marks today are Dalton Kincaid, Josh Palmer, Jerome Ford, and Tyler Warren. I do wonder if Keon Coleman's going to continue to be a healthy scratch. I sort of assume so unless we hear otherwise. Don't think that's like super noteworthy though. All right, that is the Cardinals-Bucks game. I think the Cardinals keep this game close, but the Bucks ultimately win this one. All right, Texans at Colts. We got CJ Stroud returning in this game. And CJ Stroud in the WalterPicks app right now, he projects as the #1 value play at quarterback in DFS. And he's priced incredibly, incredibly low here. We have him as QB8 among the quarterbacks left. We haven't seen him play since week 9. He missed 3 weeks with a concussion. Plenty of time, though, that he has had to recover at this point. You got to think he's at 100%. We did see him go for 23 points in his second last game. That last game he played was against the Broncos. Now he gets the Colts in a game where the Texans are underdogs. I believe 3.5-point underdogs here. Mahomes went for 352 in his last game against the Colts. Didn't throw a single touchdown, though. But yeah, the Colts are allowing the 5th most passing yards per game in the NFL this season, 264 passing yards. We have seen multiple big passing games. The pass volume, I think, will be there for CJ Stroud today against the Colts. And on the Colts side of this game, you got to be a little bit scared for Daniel Jones. Let me just finish talking about the Texans side, though. Obviously, we're starting Nico Collins. The Texans defense is in play every single week. I think there's a very good argument that the Texans defense is the best defense in the NFL right now after what we saw on Thursday night against the Buffalo Bills. The Bills' offensive line didn't help things at all. But, man, this Texans defense has got to get some credit. Jaden Higgins has kind of been balling the last few games, but this was all with Davis Mills. He's had at least 9.5 points in 3 straight. He's had at least 13 points in 2 of his last 3. He scored in the last game. He's got at least 4 catches in 3 straight games. He had a 32% target share last week with 9 targets, but he's not playing more than like 65% of the snaps. Still a pretty big wide receiver rotation. And the fact that all this game with Davis Mills, I think, is like a little bit nervous, a little bit scary. I don't think Jaden Higgins is like a must start here, even in a good matchup against the Colts. I'm obviously smashing Nico Collins into the lineup. Now, Woody Marks has taken over as the workhorse in this backfield. He's at 70% rush share in his last game. He's at least 65% of the carries now in 3 straight. He's got at least 14 carries in 3 straight games. He's still the best receiving back on the team, too. They've annoyingly been mixing in Agumba Wale a little bit more over the last few weeks. But yeah, Woody Marks he's startable here against the Colts. Running back 20, he ranks, projected for 12 points. Dalton Schultz is a pretty sneaky tight end this week, too. If I hop back over to the tight end ranks quick, Dalton Schultz is up there for us in the tight end ranks. Very strange to see him ranking ahead of Tyler Warren and ahead of Kyle Pitts in Kyle Pitts matchup, too. I won't be shocked to see either of those guys outscore Dalton Schultz, but he's going to be out there over 80% of the snaps. He's going to hit at least a 15% target share in this game where the Texans are underdogs. And the Colts have not been good against tight ends this season. He's definitely got a good shot at a touchdown, good shot at some, he's got a really good floor, and I think the ceiling's kind of sneaky as well. 14 points scored by the Chiefs tight ends a week ago. Kyle Pitts didn't do much. The Steelers tight ends kind of smashed them. The Titans tight ends kind of smashed them. They're allowing 72 receiving yards per game. This is a defense that's really the only defense worse against tight ends this season than the Colts has really been the Bengals. And man, the Bengals have been one of the greatest tight end funnels of my lifetime. We cashed on the Isaiah Likely alternate line props on Thursday night. I hope you guys were riding those as well from the Thanksgiving live. I will get to the free player props here coming up. I have 5 free player props for you after going 6 for 7 on the Thanksgiving live. We're going to see if we can go, what was that? It would be 11 for 12 in week 13. That would be an unreal week 13 here. All right, that's the Texans side of this game. None of the other receivers are really even in question here, so I won't touch on them for too long. On the Colts side, obviously we're starting Jonathan Taylor, but you got to be a little bit scared for Jonathan Taylor. And I talked about this last week on the Sunday Morning Live. I actually was getting some hate in the comments about it, but I'm gonna speak my truth here on the Sunday Morning Lives. And I was talking about Jonathan Taylor maybe isn't the running back one the rest of the season. I mean, there's some other very good running backs, and he has a very difficult schedule. Starting with the Chiefs, last week he only had 8.6 points, his second worst game of the season. It is now his second game in his last 3 games going under 10 points for Jonathan Taylor. Now he gets the Texans, then he gets the Jags, then he gets the Seahawks. All of those are bottom 12 matchups for running backs. I mean, he gets the 49ers there in week 16. Obviously, he can still smash in a tough matchup, but man, he played 90% of the snaps. He had his normal workload last week against the Chiefs. These defenses are going to be going all out to stop Jonathan Taylor, and they're all capable of stopping the run. So a little bit scared for Jonathan Taylor here down the stretch to not be, the league-winning running back he's really been up to this point. I mean, if you have Jonathan Taylor, you're in the fantasy playoffs. Like just 100% you're in. I think his advance rate right now in best ball leagues is like over 50%, which is absolutely insane. Tyler Warren, you're starting him. I think I honestly would be fine starting him over Schultz and Pitts. We have them all really close. Daniel Jones, you got to be pretty scared for Daniel Jones right now. We haven't seen Daniel Jones go over 18 fantasy points in 3 straight games. Now he gets the Texans, who just dominated Josh Allen and the Bills. I mean, he's not startable. Daniel Jones is not startable here in week 13. You got to find a different option than Daniel Jones. Michael Pittman Jr., he still projects pretty high. I think I would start Michael Wilson over him. I honestly might start Marvin Harrison Jr. over him. He gets Stingley in the Texans. Man, I'm pretty scared for him too. He ranks pretty high. I feel like we're ranking him honestly near his ceiling today. We got Michael Pittman Jr. at wide receiver 13. Yeah, I'd start Michael Wilson over him. I think I'd start Jacoby Myers over him. I'd be fine starting Khalil Shakir over him. I'd start Sutton over him. I don't think I'd go with Jaden Higgins or Trey Tucker or Troy Franklin or that tier over Michael Pittman. But yeah, I'd probably move him down like 3 or 4 spots where we have him ranked here on the live right now. Tough matchup here for Michael Pittman. And Alec Pierce, Josh Downs, these guys are not really in the startable category for me right now either. All right, that's the Texans-Colts game. I think the Texans win this one. I think the Colts continue their slide here. They really should have beaten the Chiefs a week ago. Lose that one. Now they get a matchup against the number 1 defense in the NFL. I'm taking the Texans in this spot. They're underdogs here, 3.5-point underdogs in Indianapolis. 3-point underdogs now in Indianapolis. All right, let's go on to another game here. That game's at least in a dome. There's a lot of potential rain across the league today. Only that 49ers and Browns game am I nervous about, though, weather-wise. I'm going to hop back over to the running back rank, seeing some people ask for those. We're going to get to a ton. I promise a ton of start-sit comments on this live today, guys. Shout out to every one of you with me on this week 13 Sunday morning live stream. Jones or Purdy? God, these are both benches for me. Let's hop back over to the bench list. I think I probably would go Daniel Jones over Purdy. Purdy's got the Browns in 30-mile-an-hour wind gusts in the snow. I mean, he's just completely unstartable. Brock Purdy is completely unstartable. Daniel Jones at least has a chance for rushing touchdown. Like he has a pretty good chance at around 15 points in terms of his floor. We have seen him right around that range in his last 3 games. All right, let's hop over to this Dolphins and Saints game. There's going to be a lot of fantasy points in this game. I think this is a very stackable game for DFS. We got the number 1 ranked running back remaining this week in Devon Achane against the Saints. Achane, last time we saw him out, the Dolphins are coming off their bye here. And Devon Achane, guys, has 62 fantasy points in his last 2 games. 62 in his last 2 games. He's only behind Christian McCaffrey in catches per game. He's up to running back 4 in fantasy points per game. He's just not coming off the field. He's played over 80% of the snaps in 3 straight games. I mean, you're getting Achane in an 80% plus snap role, getting 20 plus carries and 5 plus catches every single week. And the Saints defense is really not that scary. They're middle of the pack against running backs. Achane is just locked in to one of the best roles in the NFL. So yeah, he's starting in every single possible start sit. We're not going to see him in any start sits. He's the running back one that's left. Waddle is also a top 5 wide receiver in the matchup. The Saints have been okay, pretty good even against receivers, but Waddle has been a guy I've been buying in fantasy leagues for the last month plus, similar to Bucky Irving. I've made several videos about trading for Jalen Waddle. There's like a stain on the name of Jalen Waddle for some reason. I think it has to do with Tua and Waddle's pretty consistent injuries over the past few years. But yeah, Waddle has consistently been getting 25+% target shares. He had a down game against the Commanders, only 8 points in a game that Achane absolutely dominated. That game was also, I believe that was the Madrid game, if I recall. I believe that game was in Spain. Still a 35% target share for Waddle. We have not seen Waddle go under a 20% target share. Only one time has Waddle been under a 22% target share now since Tyreek Hill has been out. I mean, the floor for Waddle in terms of the targets is just so strong. He's obviously a start. Tua is kind of an interesting sleeper today, like Tua versus Daniel Jones. I actually think it's kind of close here in week 13. Darren Waller is back for this game. All we saw Darren Waller do when he was playing is score touchdowns. He played really 3 games. He got hurt early in his 4th game. So he really played 3 games. He had 4 touchdowns in those games. He had, 10 catches, 4 TDs. He has a 40% touchdown rate this season. Absolutely wild. Not startable here in week 13 in his first game back, but won't be shocked at all to see him get in the end zone. On the Saints side of this game, this game feels very stackable because there's going to be some fantasy points here on the Saints side of the game too. Olave projects as a top 10 wide receiver. You really can't bench him right now. Juwan Johnson, though, is the guy that I'm most excited for on the Saints offense. The Dolphins have been horrible, absolutely terrible against tight ends this season. It's their worst position defensively. And Juwan Johnson's role has been really underrated, really over the course of this season. He's run the 5th most routes per game among tight ends this season. He's averaging over 6 targets per game this season. He's at 49 yards and 4.5 catches per game. He's coming off a game, is his 5th straight game where he had at least 10 fantasy points, 5 straight for Juwan Johnson. He had 6 catches for 46 in a much more difficult matchup last week. I think that's like near his floor in this game. You're going to find Juwan Johnson in my DFS lineup. You're going to find Juwan Johnson in my free player props coming up here in a second as well. Devin Neal. I didn't put Devin Neal in the sleeper category because I don't think he really counts as a sleeper. I do like him, though, and I definitely think he's startable here in week 13. It's a good matchup for him against the Dolphins. The scary thing for Devin Neal is he going to get the goal line work, or is it going to be Taysom Hill that gets the goal line work? They might mix in Audric Estime and Velus Jones today as well. We'll see what running backs are even active, but he played 74% of the snaps to Devin Neal last week. Alvin Kamara is out this week. I'm playing Devin Neal over Tyrone Tracy. I'm playing Devin Neal over Bucky Irving in his first game back. I'm playing Devin Neal over Woody Marks, Devin Neal over Kenneth Gainwell and Quinshon Judkins. It's all pretty close. I think Devin Neal carries a little bit more risk than some of these guys, but I liked Devin Neal a lot as a prospect. He's going to play over 70% of the snaps. He's going to get 5+ targets. He had 7 targets in his last game. He's a capable receiving back who has the all-time most rushing yards for Kansas ever. And he's a good receiver. He had 11 points in his last game against the Falcons. Didn't do much on the ground. He only had 7 carries, 2.6 yards per carry. But I think it's a pretty good matchup here against the Dolphins' soft run defense. I'm down to start Devin Neal today. If you want to start Bucky or Tracy or Marks or Gainwell or Judkins over him, I'm fine with that. Like, those are all guys in the same tier for me this week. But yeah, I'm definitely starting Devin Neal over Tajay Spears, Bam Knight, Tony Pollard, in those types. He's a back end, running back 3, back end running back 2, if you will, this week. Taysom Hill, he did make the sleeper list though, because he's got like a sneaky chance at a touchdown here with no Alvin Kamara. His role's probably only going to grow. He's played over a third of the snaps in back-to-back weeks now for the Saints. He had 10 carries, over a third of the carries in their last game. He's got a good chance to score. We could see it like one of those ceiling Taysom Hill games, I think, here in week 13. He's a very interesting sleeper. I'm pretty in on Juwan Johnson, but he is definitely an interesting sleeper. Yeah, I'll show the defenses here. Seen some people ask for the defense ranks. I'll pull those up. So this Saints-Dolphins game, I think, has fantasy points written all over it. I want guys in this game. I want Devin Neal. I want Juwan Johnson. I want Chris Olave. I think Taysom Hill is honestly a very interesting deep sleeper. And then on the Dolphin side, you're playing HN, you're playing Waddle. Saints are 5.5-point underdogs in this one. I definitely think the Saints are capable of winning this game. The Dolphins are coming off the bye, though, so I guess I'll go with the Dolphins there. They are 5.5-point favorites. I'd probably take the Saints with the points, Dolphins to win the game. All right, let's go to the Falcons and Jets game. We were all over the John Mechie prop last week, did cash that one, and he was in the DFS lineup. We were really close to having an absolutely monster DFS lineup on the live last week. We're going to talk through a pretty sneaky DFS lineup I have this week, but last week we had Gibbs, we had Amon-Ra, and we had the bring back with Winston and Wandale too. And we had the keys to the lineup. We had Mechie in there. Also just missed on the other pieces. Just missed on the other pieces in the lineup. I had a different lineup with JSN in it as well, but didn't make it into that one. And we were really, really close to first place with the DFS lineup last week. We've been really nailing the DFS lineups this season on the live, but we're starting Breece Hall here against the Falcons. He ranks as a top 10 running back, definitely in play in DFS this week. I have a feeling Samps is going to be pretty in on Breece Hall when he comes on the live here in a little over an hour. But John Mechie is in play again this week, guys. I mean, it's hard to ignore the role for John Mechie. We talked about why I was stacking that Jets game last week was I thought Tyrod Taylor was going to have like a more sustainable passing offense here for the Jets, and that's exactly what happened. We had a quarterback for the Jets that was actually able to complete some passes, and suddenly there were some guys scoring fantasy points. 86% snap percentage for Mechie. He had a 26% target share on 7 targets, converted that into 6 catches, 65 yards, and a touchdown for John Mechie. Was the wide receiver 10 last week. He's now been a top 20 wide receiver in back-to-back weeks. I'm starting John Mechie in one of my 14-team leagues today. I'm starting him over Ricky Pearsall in that league. He had back-to-back games now with at least 13 points. He scored in 2 straight games. I like his receptions prop again today, over 3.5 receptions at plus odds. The Jets are underdogs in this game. I believe they're 3.5-point. They're 3-point underdogs at home. There could be some rain in this game too. But yeah, A.D. Mitchell, he continues to play a lot as well. It seems like that's who they want to be their number one receiver, but it's really John Mechie. Yeah, he had a 26% target share, a ton of air yards for A.D. Mitchell as well. He's got a pretty sneaky ceiling here also. But these are the top 2 receivers right now for the Jets. Mason Taylor's really off the radar here against the Falcons. They've been so good against tight ends. There's really not a ceiling for Mason Taylor. So yeah, it's Breece Hall, it's John Mechie. A.D. Mitchell's an interesting ceiling play. That's pretty much it here for the Jets. But Tyrod Taylor is going to be able to complete passes for the Jets, which is very exciting, I think, for Mechie and A.D. Mitchell. On the Falcons side of this game, we got Kirk Cousins starting for the rest of the season. There's no Drake London again for the Falcons this week. So we're starting Bijan, we're starting Pitts, we're starting Mooney. We're starting Mooney again. I liked Mooney last week. He ended up coming through with a 1 big touchdown, 16.4 points. Was a top 15 receiver last week. Only played 66% of the snaps. Only had 3 targets, but caught all 3 of them. That's what he's going to be capable of doing, though. I think he likely leads the receiver room again today. I'm okay starting Mooney for ceiling. Yeah, Kyle Pitts really needs to be started. I don't really know how we're benching Kyle Pitts right now. He ranks ahead of Tyler Warren in this game. He's got 3 straight games under 6 points, but he's out there every single snap. He had a 25% target share. We got him for a 29% target share in this game against the Jets. Jets defense is not a scary defense right now for any of these guys. They did kind of stuff the Ravens offense, but guys, the Ravens, I mean, they're just not bouncing back. Lamar's just not. He's not bouncing back in these great matchups. Yeah, I like Mooney today. I think he's startable. Kyle Pitts is a borderline must start depending on the tight ends that you have. And then Bijan's obviously, we don't even need to talk about Bijan. David Sills is finding the starting lineup in my 32-person league. Went for almost 10 points, massive week in the 32 for David Sills, who I got off the waiver wire last week. Anytime you can get a guy playing 70% of the snaps in that league is massive. All right, that's the Falcons-Jets game. I do think the Falcons take this one. They are 3-point favorites. Jets are at home +3. Should be a pretty competitive game, but I still have some faith in this Falcons offense to turn out some points. All right, on to the two biggest spreads of the week. We got the Rams-Panthers and the Vikings-Seahawks here. Let's talk through this Rams-Panthers game first. Promise we're going to get to tons and tons of start sits here coming up here momentarily. I'll pull up the wide receiver rankings now. Let's go through this Rams team. Matthew Stafford is like pretty much a lock to win MVP at this point. I've been saying that for a couple of weeks now. It's the reality in terms of the odds. The voters are going to vote, guys, for Matthew Stafford. I mean, he really has to tank, I think, down the stretch of the season. There's still 6 games, so it's not a foregone conclusion. But with how he's playing right now, the schedule he has too, he's probably going to win MVP. It's going to be tough for anyone to catch him in terms of touchdowns too. Puka, Devontae Adams, they're both top 7 receivers in the ranks. Kyron Williams is really a must-start here versus the Panthers as well. Blake Corum's kind of an interesting sleeper in this matchup against the Panthers. Played 34% of snaps last week. He's getting about a third of the carries, but yeah, he's really only a desperation play. Was pretty disappointed Terrence Ferguson didn't see an expanded role. Last week, he was in the same role he was in before the Tyler Higbee injury. He still only played 27% of snaps, didn't have a single catch, only 1 target. It was really Colby Parkinson that saw the expanded role. He played 63% of snaps, caught all 4 of his targets, scored a touchdown. He was a top 5 tight end last week with 14.1 points. He now has 3 straight games with a touchdown. Does Colby Parkinson. Harrison Mevis, by the way, the thicker kicker, I believe, is how Sam's referred to him. I think he actually called him out maybe on the live last week. It might have been the week before, but he low-key might be one of the best tight ends here down the fantasy stretch. He ranks as kicker 4 of the kickers remaining this week. He's out there still in a bunch of leagues. I had Will Riker in a bunch of leagues. I'm starting Mevis over Riker like pretty easily at this point. Rams defense obviously in play here too because Bryce Young returned to form last week. I can't believe how out in front of my skis I got for Bryce Young last week on Monday Night Football. I mean, he did actually end up cashing a couple of the props with Coker and Legette's receptions, which I was on. But man, 10 points, 169 passing yards, 2 picks. I mean, a horrible game from Bryce Young. 5.8 yards per attempt, just like completely back to what he'd been most of the season. I mean, it looks like that Week 11 game is just a complete anomaly. There's almost no hope for Bryce Young here against the Rams. I'm fully out at this point on Bryce Young. He let me down one too many times. But you still are starting Rico Dowdle. Even in a tough matchup against the Rams, you really have to start Dowdle. He's in a really strong role right now. The role did regress a tiny bit there versus the 49ers. Only 46% of the carries. He only had 6 carries. I mean, they were trailing most of that game. Only 11 points, but he's had a really consistent receiving role, at least 3 catches in 3 straight. They're 10.5-point underdogs in this one, so he should have a decent receiving role. And then Ted McMillan has been breaking out. Had a huge game in Week 11, only 11.5. Last week, only had 2 catches, but he did see 7 targets. I mean, the target share is so good for McMillan right now. At least a 25% target share now in 5 straight games. He's by far their best offensive weapon in the passing game. Coker and Legette, not startable. Legette is a higher ceiling than Coker. I think Coker's got a slightly safer floor if you're considering either of those guys, which hopefully you're not. And Jatavian Sanders, he's well off the radar too, but my best ball teams are praying. They're praying for Jatavian Sanders, who had 1 target last week. The Rams are a lock to win this game. They're 10.5-point favorites. We've seen bigger upsets this season in the NFL. I do not think the Panthers are capable in this spot. All right, the Vikings against the Seahawks. This is a 9.5-point spread. We got Bosner starting for the Vikings. JJ McCarthy out with a concussion. I think this is a real concussion. There's some chatter out there that's sort of a soft benching. It's Max Brosmer. I didn't even say his name right. Brosmer. Let me pull up the stuff here for Max Brosmer, who's an undrafted rookie this season. His college yards per attempt ranks in the 14th percentile. His quarterback rating in college ranks in the 20th percentile. He played at Minnesota. So he went to Minnesota for college, and so the Vikings do a heartfelt thing, and they sign him as an undrafted rookie not thinking he's ever going to play a game because he wasn't a good college quarterback. His quarterback rating ranks in the 20th percentile in college. His yards per attempt ranks in the 14th percentile in college. This is not an athletic quarterback. He is under 50th percentile in terms of his 40-yard dash. This is not a good quarterback. This guy has to be worse than J.J. McCarthy. I know how bad J.J. McCarthy has been, but man, I do not think Vikings fans should really have hope here for Brosmer. They're 9.5-point underdogs. There's almost no world, I think, for the Seahawks to lose this game. As much as Sam Darnold has, I know there's some fears for Darnold with how he finished the season last year. This is a #revenge game here for Sam Darnold, though, too. But yeah, God. Who's the second quarterback for this team today? Because Wentz is out too, right? Who knows who we're going to see playing some snaps here for the Vikings? It's Max Brosmer. I have no hope for him. Absolutely none. He ranks behind Shedeur Sanders in 35-mile-an-hour winds in the snow. Aaron Jones and Justin Jefferson, I do still think are startable, though. The matchup is not good here, too, versus the Seahawks. Seahawks have generated a ton of pressure. They really are one of the better defenses in the league. They have allowed a lot of receiving to running backs, though. That should bode well for Aaron Jones, who's kind of stepped into this workhorse role all of a sudden for the Vikings. The Seahawks are allowing the second most catches, the third most yards per game to running backs. 5.6 catches, 41 yards per game to running backs. Last week, they allowed 8 catches for 42 yards to the Titans. Running backs, 8 catches. I mean, Aaron Jones could really hit 5+ catches in this game. Would not be surprising. He's got kind of a sneaky floor. I'm still starting Justin Jefferson every single week. I refuse to bench him. If I have him in fantasy, I am not benching Justin Jefferson. You will not get me to do it. You're probably not going to make the fantasy playoffs if you spent your first pick on Jefferson. It's still possible, though, depending on how well the rest of your draft went, how bad the rest of your league is. Running back rankings. Yeah, I got you the running back rankings. Aaron Jones ranks as running back 15 of the running backs left this week. I think he's really more of a floor play, though, than a ceiling play here against the Seahawks. Yeah, he's at 3 straight games with 3 catches. He's playing over 65% of the snaps. He's getting half of the carries. Jordan Mason's still getting about half the carries, too. The Seahawks have been good overall versus running backs, just not very good at stopping the pass. Jordan Addison, completely not startable. No one else in this offense is startable. Guys, Max Brosmer is not good. He's not good. Sometimes, I know Seth makes the argument sometimes, BS fantasy, that these quarterbacks getting their first starts, they have a slight advantage because there's no tape on them. Defenses don't really know how to prepare for them. I don't think it's going to matter much in this case. Again, he was not a good college quarterback. He went to Minnesota, and the Vikings signed him as an undrafted rookie. He's almost 25 years old, so kind of an older rookie as well. I have no hope for Brosmer. Hawkinson's a bench here too. On the Seahawks side of this game, JSN's having one of the greatest wide receiver seasons of all time. I mean, we could see a legit all-time receiver season here from JSN. He's leading the NFL in yards. He's at 7.3 catches per game. The only receivers averaging more catches per game are Puka Nacua and Chase. They're averaging more catches, but JSN's averaging more yards. I think the most impressive stat to me from JSN this season is his yards per route run. JSN is at 4.6 yards per route run on a legit sample size here. This has to be the highest yards per route run in a receiver in history. 4.6 is absolutely absurd. Puka's at 3.5. No other receivers over 3. I mean, usually we see no receivers over 3.2 in a season. I really think this might be the most impressive JSN stat that's out there. 4.6 yards per route run is absolutely insane. He's wide receiver 1 in points per game. He only has 1 game under 18 fantasy points all season. This is a tough matchup for him against the Vikings. It probably does not matter. He still ranks as wide receiver 1 among the receivers left this week. He's got a pretty good schedule coming up over the next 3 games here too. Sam Darnold's not really a guy I want to start. With the Seahawks being such big favorites here, though, Kenneth Walker's in play. Kenneth Walker's role has been growing. He's been the running back you want in this backfield. He's a start this week. Had a season high 63% snap share last week, season high 55% rush share last week, continues to be the preferred guy in the pass game, as well had 4 targets, didn't score, but still had 13 fantasy points. He scores, he's hitting 20 points. He's obviously capable of some big plays in the run game too. Kenneth Walker's, he's a start right now. And Zach Charbonnet is really a risky start. I think he's still probably going to get some goal line work. Yeah, he did score last week against the Titans, despite playing his lowest snap percentage, I think, of the season. Yeah, his lowest snap percentage of the season for sure, but did score, still didn't hit 10 points. He's not startable right now. No one else on this team is startable. We like Shaheed as a sleeper last week. He tosses up half a point with 5 rushing yards, didn't get a single catch on his 2 targets because JSN just gobbles up all the receiving yards in this offense. That's the Seahawks. You're starting JSN, you're starting Kenneth, you're not starting anyone else. The Seahawks defense is absolutely in play. I think there's a very, very real argument that the Seahawks defense should be the number 1 defense for fantasy this week. The Seahawks also have a matchup in week 17 against the Carolina Panthers. Not a terrible matchup next week against the Falcons. I mean, this is a defense that's maybe worth holding on to down the stretch here in fantasy for the fantasy football finals if you have enough bench spots. The Eagles and the Chiefs continue to be the 2 defenses I'm stashing in my leagues, though. They get the Raiders and Titans week 15 and 16 there, respectively. All right, that's the Seahawks-Vikings game. I really do not see worlds where the Rams or the Rams or the Seahawks lose today. These are the 2 locks of the day. The Seahawks are 11.5-point favorites. The Rams are 10.5-point favorites. I know we've seen some big favorites lose in the NFL this season. I do not think this is either of those cases. All right, only a few games left to talk through now. The Raiders-Chargers game. Let's hop to this one. The Chargers coming off the bye. The Chargers, this is such a well-timed bye for the Chargers. This has got to be one of the most well-timed byes in recent memory. The Chargers go into a game against, right before the bye, they go into a game against the Jags. The Jags had just allowed 30 fantasy points to Davis Mills heading into this game. And Justin Herbert goes out there and has by far his worst game of the season. One of the worst games of his career. 4 fantasy points he had. He only had 18 pass attempts, threw 1 pick, got sacked twice. And this game was over before it started. I mean, fourth quarter was not even needed to be played in this game. I think Justin Herbert sat most of the fourth quarter. Now he gets a matchup against the Raiders, who we've seen be pretty up and down defensively, but against most of the good quarterbacks they played, they've allowed at least 15 fantasy points. And I think Justin Herbert probably bounces back coming off the bye. We thought Marion Hampton was going to be back for this game, similar to how we thought Trey Benson was going to be back. Ends up only Bucky Irving being the running back returning. So Kamani Vidal, you kind of have to start him. I think you kind of have to start him in this game against the Raiders. I mean, it's not a bad matchup. Kamani Vidal has been very, very boom bust. Vidal, Woody, or Rico. Oh, gosh. I don't think you can bench Rico. I don't think I'd bench Rico for Vidal. I probably would play Vidal over Woody Marks, though. Yeah, Kamani Vidal, he's been pretty boom bust. He only played 50% of snaps in his last game, but that game, again, was kind of over before it started. He only had 11 carries. The Chargers barely ran any offensive plays. The Raiders have been pretty bad against running backs for most of the season. They just allowed 34 fantasy points to Judkins and Sampson. Javonte Williams, he only had 10, but he did go for 93 rushing yards. Broncos running backs didn't do a ton, but they did combine for over 80 rushing yards as well. They're allowing the 4th most rushing touchdowns on the season. Judkins scored twice last week. I think Vidal is a start. I think he is a start. I wouldn't start him over. I actually don't think I'd start him over RJ Harvey. We have him 1 spot ahead of Harvey. I'm not benching RJ Harvey this week. We're about to get to that game in a second, but I don't think there's a player I'm more bullish on this week than RJ Harvey. I wouldn't start Vidal over Harvey. I might not start him over Kenneth Walker. That one's pretty close. I honestly think I'd probably go Kenneth over Vidal. I might go Kyron Williams over Vidal, and then I'd probably put Vidal right ahead of Aaron Jones, Jalen Warren, Devin Neal, Bucky, and that tier. Yeah, I'm starting Trevion Henderson, Breece Hall, Rico, James Cook, JT, and everyone above there over Vidal. But I do think he's a start. I do think he's a start this week. Ladd McConkey, he's also a start this week. Ranks as wide receiver 10 amongst the receivers left. This week, let me hop over to the wide receiver ranks here. Not many guys I want to start more than Ladd McConkey. I would start Egbuka over McConkey. We have them really close in the ranks if you have to make that call. I also think Quentin Johnson could be in for a bounce back spot here. I think we talked about it on the live last week, but the Raiders have not been very good at stopping the deep pass this season. Isaiah Bond hit one big deep play last week with Shedeur. Jerry Jeudy had a big catch too. He fumbled on that big catch. We saw Pickens absolutely smash this team as well, Troy Franklin as well. I think Quentin Johnson, you could see him take a step forward back to what he was sort of being in the first month of the season coming out of the bye. I mean, if you're the Chargers, Quentin Johnson goes for 0 points on 90% of the snaps in your last game. You look back at the first month of the season during the bye week, you're like, we got to get this guy more involved again. I think we could see him go over 15 points here, Quentin Johnson, in week 13 against the Raiders. He ranks as wide receiver 26 among the receivers left, but kind of an interesting sleeper. I think I'd play him over Debo. I think him versus John Mechie and Darnell Mooney and Troy Franklin and Marvin Harrison Jr., Trey Tucker are all pretty close. Trey Tucker on the other side of this game is kind of an interesting sleeper as well. Keenan Allen, we've only seen one game over 11 fantasy points from Keenan Allen since week 3. I mean, there's not a ceiling. There's really not a ceiling here. Did play 75% of the snaps in his last game. It's not a bad matchup for him either, but I would rather start Quentin Johnson over him for the ceiling. Arondé Gadsden, he took a step back in his last couple games after really breaking out. I mean, he was up to like tight end 5 in the ranks in a few weeks. The targets have still been there, though. At least a 16% target share in 6 consecutive games. For Arondé Gadsden, it's not a great matchup for him, but he's definitely in play. And I don't think he's droppable in most leagues. Still think he has a pretty intriguing ceiling here down the stretch of the season. Tough matchup versus the Raiders, then the Eagles. That week 16 game against the Cowboys for this whole offense, that was pretty exciting. Hopefully we see Marion Hampton come back next week. And Chargers defense is certainly in play. They rank as a top 5 defense. Kittle or Strange? Yeah, I'm still going Kittle over Strange, even in the wind and the snow. And then we got the Raiders team here. Brock Bowers is an absolute must start. He's been a little bit worse than you would have wanted after that week 9 game. He goes for 43 points in his first game back. Hasn't been over 15 since, but does have 13 catches for 130 yards in his last 2 games. The problem is this team's just not scoring. Ashton Genty's a must start here against the Chargers. He's coming off a 25-point game where he had 8 catches for 58 yards and a touchdown against the Browns. The receiving role for Ashton Genty, guys, is extremely exciting. He's got at least 5 catches in 3 of his last 4 games. He's really not coming off the field at this point. Raheem Mostert's coming in for like a few breather snaps, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, you definitely need to be starting Ashton Genty right now, and the receiving role for PPR leagues is really, really encouraging. Ashton Genty now has at least 15 points in 3 of his last 4 games. He's like, I think, getting pretty underrated in fantasy at this point of the season. With how bad this offense has been, he's still producing most weeks for fantasy. Trey Tucker is definitely on the sleeper list this week for me. We had Chip Kelly get fired, and we'll have to watch this whole offense, how it changes after this firing of Chip Kelly, the offensive coordinator. But Chip Kelly got fired after, I believe it was after last week. Trey Tucker's been just running wind sprints for most of the season. He's 3rd among receivers in snap percentage at 93.8%. Only receivers playing more snaps on a percentage basis than Trey Tucker this season are Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. Then it's Trey Tucker. Man, this is a funny list to look at. But yeah, Trey Tucker's there, wide receiver 3. Guys, if you're watching live on TikTok, by the way, come to the YouTube live. It is a better viewing experience. I can share a screen. We're looking at Trey Tucker's game logs here on the screen right now. We just had the rankings of snap percentage up on the screen. Link is right in the TikTok bio. Do I bench Kittle for Juwan because of weather? Look, I'm as in on Juwan Johnson as anyone you're going to find out there today. I'm not benching George Kittle. I don't think I can get myself to do it. Even in the snow, even in the wind, I still think George Kittle has a pretty good ceiling. Man, it's going to be a run-heavy game for sure, but maybe you could make the argument Juwan Johnson's safer if you really need to play it safe. If you need to play it safe, and this is a unique week in fantasy because there's been 4 games played already. Tons of fantasy players have already played. Like if you're down by a lot, I'd go Kittle. If you're up by a lot, I maybe would be okay going Juwan and playing it safe there with the snow and the wind. But yeah, Trey Tucker is definitely an interesting sleeper. Maybe the offense shifts a little bit more towards him with the new offensive coordinator. He's certainly out there a lot. The Chargers are not a great matchup. He had 10 targets in his last game, though, only 3 catches for 28. But I think there's kind of a sneaky ceiling here for Trey Tucker. That's pretty much it here for the Raiders. We talked about the Chargers side of that game already. So let's jump to the Bills-Steelers. Then we just got the 2 primetime games left to talk through. The Bills coming off in a horrible, horrible loss against the Texans. I mean, there's been 2 games this season for the Bills where I'm like, there's just no way the Bills lose. That was against the Dolphins and against the Texans. I was horribly wrong in both those spots. I'm no longer going to say to you guys, there's no way the Bills lose any given week. They're only 3-point favorites. They're 3-point favorites against the Steelers. This is how down bad this Bills team is right now. They're benching their most talented receiver in Keon Coleman because he's not showing up to meetings. He was late to a bus or something. He's droppable. He's been a healthy scratch in back-to-back games. So they're trying out Tyrell Shavers. They signed Brandon Cooks and Gabe Davis off the street. Josh Palmer. I mean, these are just the most dusty receiver room you could possibly imagine of just deep targets here for Curtis Samuel's out too in this game. So yeah, it's going to be Tyrell Shavers and Brandon Cooks we have projected in right now for the Bills. Gabe Davis, they're going to play Brandon Cooks over Keon Coleman. Josh Palmer. I mean, it's really Khalil Shakir and then everybody else. James Cook. Dalton Kincaid is expected to be back this week. I have Kincaid as a start here in week 13. The Steelers have not been good versus tight ends. Kincaid is like the number 2 receiver on this team all of a sudden. It's him and Shakir, and that's it. So I do like Kincaid, honestly, in terms of his ceiling. I like Shakir in the spot, too. I like both them as starts. James Cook, you're obviously starting. And Josh Allen, he's like by far and away QB1. Josh Allen is in his own tier on the slate. I have Josh Allen in his own tier in tier 1. He's definitely in play in DFS this week. We just saw it a couple weeks ago. I mean, he had 45 points against the Bucs. This is what Josh Allen's going to be capable of on this slate. And Drake May, he's QB2 in the ranks. QB3 is Bo Nix. Both those are the primetime games. So they're not even on the main slate. Like the gap between Josh Allen and Matt Stafford's projection is 6 points, 5 points. It's a huge difference. One of the biggest gaps we've seen from QB1 to QB2 on any slate all season. Josh Allen is definitely in play on the main slate. I honestly might move around my lineup a little bit, looking deeper into these QB tiers. I might move my lineup a little bit and get Josh Allen in here. Stack him with Shakir or stack him with Kincaid or both here against the Steelers, but he's capable of a 3 passing touchdown, 3 rushing touchdown game here against the Steelers. I know that the offensive line looked rough against the Texans. It's probably going to look rough again. They are dealing with some injuries on the offensive line. The Steelers' defensive line is not as good as the Texans' defensive line. They are good. They're not as good as that Texans' defensive line. It's probably the best defensive line in the NFL. So yeah, Josh Allen is probably going to smash in this spot. One of my last round 20/round 18 best ball picks on DraftKings and Underdog this season was Ty Johnson. I got him on way too many best ball teams. He has now 2 games over 10 points in his last 4, 3 catches. Like he's like suddenly their wide receiver 3 on the team. He's got over 100 receiving yards in his last 2 games. I hope to see that continue and we see some more Ty Johnson work for my best ball sake. On the other side of this game, the Steelers are only 3-point underdogs. They got Aaron Rodgers playing through multiple, I think it was torn ligaments or broken bones in his wrist. He's playing through some legit injuries. It's his non-throwing wrist, but still, he's going to have to take some hits and potentially land on that wrist. But Aaron Rodgers, I don't think is like too different overall for this team than Mason Rudolph, who we saw in their last game against the Bears. They did end up losing that game versus the Bears. I think the Bills win this one. They're only 3-point favorites. I've been wrong about the Bills multiple straight weeks. DK Metcalf, I do think is a start this week. A scary start, sure. He had 14 points last week, 5 catches, did end up scoring a rushing touchdown in that game to sort of save his fantasy day. Haven't seen DK Metcalf go over 20 points since week 4. That was the only game all season he's been over 20. I think he's got a chance to go over 20 in this game with Aaron Rodgers returning. They're underdogs here versus the Bills. This game should be pretty cold. There might be some rain, I think, in this game as well. But I got a feeling that we could see a big DK Metcalf game here in a potential shootout versus the Bills. Kenneth Gainwell has got to get some love too. Both him and Warren are both startable here. In week 13, Gainwell has now, the receiving role for Kenneth Gainwell is just out of this world. He's now been over 18 points in 3 games. He had 92 rushing yards, but also 6 catches for 30 receiving yards. He now has 13 catches for 111 receiving yards in his last 2 games, plus 2 TDs through the air too. He's playing half the snaps. They're scheming work to Kenneth Gainwell. He's got 14 targets. He's been over 19% target share in back-to-back games. And the Bills have been so bad against running backs this season. Both Warren and Gainwell are both in really good spots. They're both playable in DFS. I think I prefer Jaylen Warren still over Kenneth Gainwell. But yeah, we've seen some really big games against the Bills in terms of running backs. They've been better at stopping the pass than the run in terms of stopping running backs. So that probably also bodes well for Jaylen Warren. But yeah, Kenneth Gainwell is at least startable in leagues this week. I don't want anything to do with any of these tight ends. They're still running 3 tight ends out there. Got to be one of the most fun things in the NFL, though, watching Darnell Washington stiff arm people. Really, does it get more fun than that? I wish I was in a points per stiff arm league. All right, that's the Steelers versus the Bills. I'm starting DK Metcalf. I'm starting Jaylen Warren. Kenneth Gainwell is startable. And I'm starting Shakir and Kincaid. Obviously, we're starting James Cook as well. And Josh Allen is like a very, very distant QB1 here on the slate. Sutton over DK, yeah, I would go Sutton over DK. That's probably a good segue into this Commanders game, which I am extremely, extremely excited for because the Commanders defense might be the worst defense in the NFL right now. Let's start on the Commanders side of this game, though. Offensively, against the Broncos, there's basically not a single player you could trust on this team. They're running 3 different running backs out there with Rodriguez, McNichols, and Ja'Cory Krosky-Mary. None of them are starting. Chris Rodriguez projects the best. He led the backfield in their last game, had 9.5 points, only played 45% of the snaps. This is their lead running back. He got 45% of the snaps, 45% of the carries. That was 15 carries against the Dolphins. But yeah, none of these running backs are startable. And then on top of that, Terry McLaurin is back. In a stone-cold worst matchup here against the Broncos, by the way, Pat Surtain is back. I believe he's back in this game. And this secondary was still really good without him. Marcus Mariota starting. McLaurin cannot be started in his first game back. Cannot be started. And then Deebo Samuel, I don't want to start him either. He did have 21 points against the Dolphins. Much easier matchup than the Broncos. He's startable. He should get at least 5 targets in this game, even with McLaurin back, but the matchup's really tough here. I think the floor is very, very low. So basically not a single start on the Commander side of this game. But on the Broncos side of this game, man, you got to start all the pieces here of this offense. The Bo Nix, RJ Harvey, Cortland Sutton all need to be started. Troy Franklin's startable too. And even Evan Ingram, I would not be surprised to see him have his best game of the season. This Commanders defense is all sorts of banged up. They weren't really good before the injuries. We've seen 5 different tight ends go over 10 points here against the Commanders in the last couple of games. And last week, the last game was against the Dolphins, Dolchich and Julian Hill. That doesn't even count. They still allowed 3 catches for 30 yards to the tight end. So Evan Ingram's certainly an interesting sleeper. But yeah, Sutton and RJ Harvey are going to smash in this spot. RJ Harvey, I think, is getting really underrated heading into this week. He is probably the guy I'm most bullish on here in week 13 in comparison to what his expectation is. His prop line's at 55.5 rushing yards, but even odds to score in the prop markets. But he had a bigger role than I think he's getting credit for. 61% snap share. The peripherals were good. The usage was actually good for RJ Harvey in his last game. 61% of the snaps, saw 52% of the carries, and an 8% target share. 14 opportunities for RJ Harvey. That was in a game against the Chiefs. Now he gets the Commanders. Like this, it might be the best matchup of the season, the best spot of the season for RJ Harvey. The Commanders defense just got annihilated by Devon Achane. Ollie Gordon went over 10 points in that spot too. So 32 points allowed to the Dolphins, 49 points allowed to the Lions. This team has allowed almost 70 fantasy points, like almost 70 points in the last 2 games by the Washington Commanders. We saw that the Seahawks running backs, they combined over 14 points. The Chiefs running backs combined over 20. The Cowboys running backs, they combined over 20. Almost every single week, they're allowing over 20 points. They've allowed over 113 rushing yards, over 24 fantasy points per game to running backs this season, have the Washington Commanders. So, yeah, I like RJ Harvey's rushing prop. I like him to score as well, and I like him in fantasy. I'm not benching RJ Harvey. I'm playing RJ Harvey over Bucky and Vidal. Yep. Pitts or Schultz, PPR league. Yeah, I saw some questions about why we have Schultz ranked so high. The matchup is pretty good for Schultz. I think I probably would play him behind Kyle Pitts and Tyler Warren, maybe Dalton Kincaid as well. I know he had a bad game last week, but he was pretty consistent prior to that. And the Bills have been the number one defense against tight ends this season. The Colts have been much, much worse against tight ends, and he still had a 14% target share in that game. We got Schultz projected for a 20% target share that's near the top among tight ends. He's averaging 19% this season. Dalton Schultz has the 5th most targets per game among tight ends this entire season. I mean, he's got 32 targets in his last 4 games. I know a lot of that was Davis Mills, but yeah, I think Schultz does deserve to be ranking in the top 7, top 8 tight ends. I personally would probably play Pitts and Warren over him. I might play Kincaid over him too, assuming Kincaid's active. All right, one last game to get through, and then we will get to the DK lineup, the free player props, and then tons and tons of start sits. We're going to have Samps joining in about 45 minutes here as well. That is the Patriots against I do like the Broncos in that game, by the way. And I really like the RJ Harvey props. I'll talk to the free play props in detail here in a second. Patriots are 7-point favorites at home here against the Giants. There might be snow in this game. Every single Giants game has been close. The entire left side of the offensive line is out for the Patriots. I'm a little surprised that the spread is 7 here. Jackson Dart's going to be back as well. I really think the Giants have a very real chance to win this game. You're obviously starting Drake May. It's a really good spot for the running backs again. I mean, we talked about it for a while now, but the Pats have such a good running back schedule at this point of the season. They had the Bengals last week. Trevion Henderson, the role was actually pretty good. He had 18 carries, 4 targets, played 65% of the snaps, was the clear lead back for the Pats in their last game. Didn't do much with it, though. Wouldn't be shocking to see this go down a bit here and to see Mondre get a bit more work. But even still, we're not benching Trevion Henderson here against the Giants, who are the second worst run defense in the NFL, maybe the worst right now with all their injuries. Steph Diggs, I think, is a must start here against the Giants as well. I will see which corner that they match up against Steph Diggs, but with the rotational role he's playing right now, I think he's going to get some positive matchups here against a pretty weak and injured Giant secondary. Mondre is kind of an interesting sleeper, but he's not really startable with the role he had last week. So Drake May's a start, Henderson's a start, Diggs is a start. On the Giants side of this game, it's hard for me not to start Jackson Dart in his first game back, and you cannot be benching Wan'Dale right now. Wan'Dale absolutely needs to be started in every single league. Show running backs. Yeah, I got you with the running backs. I'll put the receivers here on the YouTube live. Shout out to every single one of you in this live right now, by the way. This is the best day of the week. I look forward to these lives all week long. This is year 5, week 13 of the Sunday morning lives for me, man. And we are not slowing down. Jackson Dart doesn't have a bad fantasy game this whole season. Hasn't been under 17 points, 17.5 points once. I will say I'm a little bit nervous in his first game back because I'm scared they're going to limit his rushing. And the rushing has been so huge for his fantasy production. He's got at least 55 rushing yards or a rushing touchdown in every game he's played. He only has 1 game without a rushing touchdown. He's averaging 1 rushing touchdown per game across his 6 starts. And he's had multiple concussions. And so maybe they will limit his rushing. I know that narrative is floating out there. They got to run him less. Would not be good news for fantasy, but he's still a guy that's tough to bench this week unless you have, let me hop over to the quarterbacks here. Unless you have Jacoby, Stafford, Bo Nix, Drake May, Josh Allen, I think you kind of have to go Dart. I would play Dart over Herbert, Stroud, Baker, Daniel Jones, Trevor Lawrence. I think I'd start him over all those guys. Tyrone Tracy, I made a straight up trade at the trade deadline here ahead of week 11. Devontae Smith, I gave up for Tyrone Tracy. Got scoffed at a bit in my league. He's gone 18 and 16 in 2 tough matchups. He is in a pretty strong role right now. 71% of the snaps, 20 carries. He's now has 39 carries in his last 2 games and 8 targets over his last 2 games. I mean, he's in a huge role right now. We've seen Tyrone Tracy be efficient in the past. Another really tough matchup here, though I will say the Pats' run defense softened up a little bit last week. The best game of the season at running back came last week against the Pats. Chase Brown won 107 rushing yards. He averaged 5.6 yards per carry against this Pats run defense. Tracy is startable here. I mean, he's a workload start. Like, he's getting enough touches to start right now. He's going to get 20 plus touches, like basically every single week. So yeah, I'm starting Tracy for the floor. I'm a little bit scared about the ceiling in the game here for Tracy, but after the bye, after week 14, he's kind of an intriguing fantasy stash for me right now against the Commanders in week 15, who might be one of the best run spots across the league right now. Theo Johnson has a very real role in this offense right now. And Jackson Dart, the role with Jackson Dart and the connection he had with Dart, I think was even bigger than with Jameis Winston. We saw multiple 14-plus point games with Jackson Dart. Pats have not been great for his tight ends this season. He's going to be out there over 75% of the snaps. He's startable, but not a must start here in week 13. I would start Brenton Strange over him, Juwan Johnson over him, Cade Otton over him. I think I would start him over Zach Ertz. I probably would go Theo Johnson there. I wouldn't knock you for starting him over Cade Otton. I would knock you for starting him over Juwan Johnson, though. Definitely not starting him over Juwan. I think the Giants squeaked this one out, to be honest. I think this could be an upset here on Monday night. Every single Giants game has been close. Every single one. And Wandale is just going absolutely insane. We had him in the DFS lineup last week, 31 points, 9 catches, 156 and a touchdown. Got to give a quick shout out to Jameis, too, who I was stacking in all my DFS lineups last week. This was one of the all-time quarterback games. An all-time game. It's honestly kind of sad the Giants lost against the Lions last week, because this game, I feel like, will be forgotten a bit in history. This was an all-time Jameis game. 366 and 2 TDs. Also caught an unreal receiving touchdown that most wide receivers were not making that play. Samps has continued to call out Hodgins on this live stream. He's continued to produce, man, over 10 points in back-to-back games. His snap percentage did go down last week, though, with the return of Darius Slayton. I think we probably see this trend continue. I know that it seems like the coaching staff likes Isaiah Hodgins a lot. Seems like Jameis liked Isaiah Hodgins a lot, but now we got Jackson Dart in, Darius Slayton in the second game back. I kind of think Slayton takes over that role from Hodgins this week. Very different receivers. Hodgins has been better than Slayton really this season, though. I don't think either of those guys people are thinking about starting. All right, that is the Giants-Patriots game. That is every single game. My thoughts on every single game, who I think is going to win each game. My thoughts on every relevant fantasy player in every single game. Let's get to the DraftKings lineup, the free player props, and then tons and tons of start-sit questions. Week 13, man, what a time to be alive. This is the home stretch of the fantasy season. Seeing a ton of start-sits here. Yeah, Bucky versus Johnson, man. I think I'd probably go Bucky there. I like Quentin Johnson. Man, I'm very curious to see how Samps is approaching Bucky Irving this week too. I think I probably would go Bucky here. I do like the ceiling for Quentin Johnson a lot, but I think Bucky Irving does have a pretty good chance at a touchdown today. I'm okay starting him in his first game back. All right, let's talk through the DraftKings lineup here. Then I'll get to the free player props, and then we will get to a ton more start sits. So I'm going with a Jacoby Brissett stack again this week, and I probably will mix in a Josh Allen lineup stacked with Shakir or Kincaid, maybe one of those other random dusty receivers as well. But this is my core DFS lineup today. I'm stacking Jacoby Brissett with Michael Wilson. I'm hoping the Michael Wilson ownership percentage is going to come down with Marvin Harrison Jr. back in the lineup. I still like Michael Wilson more than Marv, and I'm bringing this stack back here with the Emeka Egbuka. I like the Brissett, Michael Wilson, Egbuka stack. Last week I told you I like the Winston, Wandale, Jahmyr Gibbs, or Amon-Ra stack. That ended up hitting really, really well. I think we could see something similar here. Jacoby's price still too low in this matchup versus the Bucs, and I really do think Egbuka has a really high ceiling here versus the Cardinals. I'm playing Achane against the Saints here, and I'm stacking him with Juwan Johnson. I do like Juwan Johnson a lot. I got Juwan Johnson in the DFS lineup. I got him with the free player props today as well. The Dolphins have been so bad versus tight ends. Chris Olave is coming in with a back injury, too, for the Saints. He is going to play, but Juwan Johnson really might lead this team in receiving today. I think his usage has been really, really underrated. And then I'm sneaking in Kenneth Gainwell and Darnell Mooney into the lineup, Khalil Shakir as well. I'm going with a Kenneth Gainwell, Khalil Shakir stack. Here, I might move some stuff around to get Gainwell out, try to get Jalen Moore in or a different running back in. Looking at that matchup tab against the Bills haven't been bad against receiving for running backs. They've really been crushed on the ground for the running backs. It makes me want to move off Kenneth Gainwell like a little bit here. But yeah, I do like Shakir here versus the Steelers. And then the Browns defense in a snowy game against the 49ers. I do like the other stacks I like to consider here for DFS. I like the Kenneth Walker Seahawks stack. It's a pretty expensive defense. Kenneth Walker's too cheap, though, in his pricing. I like the H.N. Juwan Johnson stack. I already touched on that one. Gainwell or Shakir. I like the Jalen Warren or Shakir probably more. Let me change that here. I think I like the Jalen Warren and Shakir stack more. But these are my favorite stacks. Brissett, Michael Wilson, Egbuka stack. That was in my core lineup. Kenneth Gainwell Seahawks. Defense, H.N., Juwan Johnson, Warren, and Shakir. These are my favorite stacks of the week on DFS. All right, I got 5 free player props for you guys before we jump to, am I blind? Where's DK? I might have accidentally taken the Steelers out here, the receiver rankings. Yeah, I accidentally took DK out of these receiver ranks. That's my bad. I am starting DK Metcalf. We have DK Metcalf at wide receiver 13, just behind Egbuka, ahead of Michael Pittman, Jacoby. I would probably start Michael Wilson over him, but yeah, DK Metcalf should be here in this list. You are not blind. He should be right ahead of Michael Pittman. He should be at wide receiver 13 here in the ranks. I'm starting Metcalf this week. All right, let me talk through these free player props quick, and then we'll jump to the start sits. RJ Harvey over 55.5 rush yards. RJ Harvey over half a touchdown. I'm going to 2 Harvey props and 2 Juwan Johnson props on these 5 free player props. Went 6 for 7, guys, on the free player props on Thanksgiving, which puts us up to 22-11 this season, 67%. RJ Harvey gets the Commanders. I think this might be the stone cold worst run defense in the NFL at this moment in time with the injuries. For the Commanders, we just saw Achane and Ollie Gordon combined for 165 rushing yards. If you include Jalen Wright in there, 169 rushing yards. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery combined for over 200 yards. So we've seen over 300 rushing yards. Over 300 rushing yards, like 325, 330 rushing yards allowed by the Commanders in their last 2 games. I mean, they've not stopped anybody. Achane was at 5.7 yards per carry. Gibbs was at 9.5. Gordon was at 5. Montgomery was at 4.7. Every running back they played, basically, in the last 2 weeks is at least 4.5 yards per carry. And this is injury-driven. There are some injuries here for the Commanders' defense. RJ Harvey played a huge role in his last game. Didn't do a lot with it, but that was against the Chiefs. But he played 61% of the snaps. He is the workhorse running back on this offense right now. The other running backs will mix in. But yeah, I like RJ Harvey to break off a big run, be really efficient here versus the Commanders, and to score. John Mechie over 3.5 receptions. I'm running back the John Mechie prop. We had the receiving yards prop last time. I like the receptions prop this time around. He did have 6 catches in this last game. We're getting plus odds on this one too. He's going to be out there over 85% of the snaps. He's going to be out there and seeing likely another 20+% target share. I don't see why they would scale John Mechie back with how well he's been playing the last couple of games. The Falcons secondary is good, but A.D. Mitchell's probably going to get the tougher matchup against the Falcons today, and the Jets are underdogs, and they have finally a quarterback that can complete some passes. I like John Mechie again this week as a sleeper in fantasy, and I like his receptions prop again this week as well. Plus odds on 3.5 catches coming off 6 catches and a 25% target share feels really strong. And then Juwan Johnson, I already talked about him a bunch on live today, but I like his yards and receptions line. Over 4.5 is at plus odds. And then we got over 42.5 receiving yards for Juwan Johnson. I'm starting Juwan Johnson, guys, this week with a ton of confidence. I would start him over Brenton Strange and Kincaid personally. I put him right behind Tyler Warren. I honestly might start him over Dalton Schultz as well. The Dolphins are such a good matchup here. The Saints are underdogs, 5.5-point underdogs here versus the Dolphins as well. They're going to have to throw. There's no Alvin Kamara in the lineup this week. We've seen so many points for tight ends against this Dolphins team. 6 catches, 69 yards per game allowed by the Dolphins. There's that game on Thursday Night Football I was at that Andrews, Likely, and Collier combined for 7 catches, 100 yards, and 3 touchdowns. We could see a really big Juwan Johnson game here against the Dolphins. All right, those are the 5 free player props. Harvey's yards, Harvey to score, John Mechie receptions, Juwan Johnson receptions, and Juwan Johnson yards. Those are the 5 free player props I'm riding with today. See if we can close out week 13 incredibly strong. We started super hot here on Thanksgiving as well. Convince me to start Bucky over Judkins. Convince you, Billy, to start Bucky over Judkins. Oh, God. Yeah, the Bucky Irving start sits are going to be so tough this week. The matchup is not bad for Bucky Irving. Obviously, super talented player. I mean, I think the WalterPicks App is doing a lot of the convincing here. I would probably argue that Bucky's got a better chance to score than Quinton Judkins just because the Bucs offense should score way more points than the Browns in the snow and the wind. I do not think Shadur Sanders will be able to move the ball in the snow and the wind. So yeah, I argue Bucky has a better chance at a touchdown or higher ceiling touchdown-wise, and definitely more receiving work coming from Bucky too than Judkins, even in a limited role. Then Aaron Jones, Quinton Johnson, or Mooney at flex. Yeah, that one's really close too. I think all 3 of these guys are definitely in play this week. Yeah, the Seahawks have been so bad at stopping receiving against the running backs. I'm okay going Aaron Jones there over Mooney or Johnson. I do think if you need a ceiling, though, I probably would go Johnston if you need a ceiling. Hey, Sam, Diggs or Jefferson, half PPR. I'm not benching Jefferson. You can't get me to do it. I would go Pitts over Strange. Running back rankings, please. Yeah, I got you with the running back ranks. All right, guys, we are heading into the start-sit segment of the live stream today. Shout out to every single one of you in the live right now. It is week 13. It is the best day of the week. It's been a fantastic week. Yeah, I'm going Kyle Pitts over Brenton Strange with no Drake London. Pretty good matchup for him against the Jets. I think it's a better matchup than Strange against the Titans, even though Strange looked good last week. Yeah, I'm going Pitts there. All right, let's hop over to the QB ranks here and narrow in on the QB start sits. I'm seeing a lot of, I'm actually not seeing a lot of QB start sits. Let's go to the tight ends here. If you got a tight end start sit, guys, send it in the chat. I'm going to narrow in on the tight end start sits here for a moment. Pull up the tight end ranks on both live streams. And we'll get to some of these tight end start sits. Kincaid or Jacoby? Yeah, I'm going Jacoby over Kincaid. Up 20 projection, but seeming like a shootout still. Michael Wilson, and Jacoby are new. I'm going Michael Wilson. 100%. Especially if you think it still could be a shootout. Olave or Buka? I'm going Buka over Olave. Any tight end start sits? Let's narrow in on the tight ends here for a second. Kincaid or Otten? Yeah, so let me see if there's been any report yet on Kincaid. So Daniel Jones, I didn't mention this here, dealing with a fibula, I believe a fractured fibula. Report here saying from Schefter, could face issues with lateral movement against Texans, who sacked Josh Allen 8 times last week. Oh my God. What's the wind like in Cleveland? Yeah, it's not great. Tyler Warren is expected to play. Yeah, nothing yet on Dalton Kincaid. I do think he's going to play, though. The last thing I saw was they're optimistic he's going to play. Let's assume he's playing for this question. Obviously, if he doesn't play, a little bit easier of a start sit. I think I lean Kincaid here. Yeah, I would go Kincaid over Otten. Schultz or Gadsden? Yeah, it's Schultz. We're pretty high on Schultz in the ranks here. Probably a bit too high. But his target share has been really consistent, and the matchup here is good for Schultz. So yeah, I'm going Schultz. Strange, Kincaid, or Theo Johnson. Yeah, I think Strange versus Kincaid is really, really close. We have them back-to-back here in the ranks. I would start them both over Theo Johnson. Man. Yeah, if Kincaid plays, I'm going Kincaid. If Kincaid plays, I'm going Kincaid. The ceiling is high here. There's no receivers for the Bills. I mean, he is their second best receiver after Khalil Shakir. Schultz or Strange. I'm going Schultz over Strange. Hunter Henry, Jacoby or Bam Knight. I'd go Jacoby here over Hunter Henry. Sam the GOAT. Remove one. Bucky, Vidal, Wandale, or Tet. Yeah, I think you remove Bucky here. I think I would remove Bucky. I'd play. It's either Bucky or Vidal. I'm playing Wandale and Tet. Tyler Warren, Helm, or Taysom in a PPR league. Love to see me some Taysom Hill in this question. We did have Taysom Hill. I do have Taysom Hill as a sleeper this week in my sleeper list over on the TikTok live. I do think he's a legit sleeper. Like, I would not be surprised to see a big rushing day from Taysom Hill against the Dolphins. But you still have to go Tyler Warren here by like a decent margin. Yeah, you're still going Tyler Warren over Taysom. You're still going Tyler Warren over Gunnar Helm. Actually, Gunnar Helm is a sleeper as well. Both these guys kind of interesting sleepers. I think worth shouting out. Definitely not worth starting though over Tyler Warren. Taysom or Henry, Vidal or Jay Jettas. Yeah, guys, I'm not benching Justin Jefferson. I'm not doing it. Hunter Henry. Who's the tight end you were between? Warren or Strange? You're going Warren over Strange. Waller or Gadsden? I think it might have been Gadsden. They pull up Waller here too. Yeah, I'm going Gadsden, I think, over Henry. I'm not starting Darren Waller in his first game back. Oronde or Strange, Dowdle or Vidal. Joey, how we doing? Great to see you back for the Week 13 Sunday morning live. This is the final stretch, man. These are some difficult start sits, and I'm going Strange. Yeah, over Oronde Gadsden. Strange is the leading receiver for the Jags this season in games that he's played. Brian Thomas Jr. is back today. He is back today, but yeah, I'm still going with Strange. Dowdle or Vidal, I'm not benching Dowdle. Brian Thomas Jr., Shakir, or Gainwell. I'm going Shakir. I think over Brian Thomas Jr. Let me actually pull this up. I really do like the ceiling for Brian Thomas Jr. I feel like the floor for Shakir is a lot safer. Yeah, it's a tough call. Walter agrees basically with exactly what I just said. If you need a ceiling, guys, Brian Thomas Jr. has the ceiling here against the Titans. This is not a good Titans secondary. Tons of injuries in the secondary. They're like the dead worst secondary against outside receivers. That's part of the reason I like Jacoby Myers today too. But Shakir is safer. I think I probably would personally go Shakir over Brian Thomas Jr. And then Wandale, Wilson, Shakir, Brian Thomas Jr. pick 2. Yes, you can't bench Wandale. And I'm not benching Michael Wilson either. Yeah, I'm benching Shakir and BTJ for both Wandale and Michael Wilson. You're playing Michael Wilson over Debo and Quentin Johnson. I'm seeing that one in the TikTok live. Guys, we got to start Michael Wilson. Like we have to. Even with Marv back, he has 25 catches for 300 yards in his last 2 games. Pick 2, Jalen Warren, Aaron Jones, or Vidal. Oh, God, this one's really tough. Vidal projects a decent bit ahead of these guys. I honestly don't know if I would bench Jalen Warren. I think I'd bench Aaron Jones here. I'd play Vidal and Jalen Warren. I don't want to bench Jalen Warren here versus the Bills. They've been a horrible, horrible run defense this season. Walker or Judkins? Yeah, it's Kenneth Walker over Judkins today. Pitts or Kincaid? It's Pitts over Kincaid. Devin Neal or Gainwell? I think I would go Devin Neal. Yeah, I accidentally left DK off this. He should be at wide receiver 13, DK Metcalf, ahead of Michael Pittman. Good morning, Sam. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday to you as well, Luke. Should I start Strange over Aaron Jones? No, I don't think I'd start Strange over Aaron Jones. Full PPR, worried that the Seahawks defense will dominate. Yeah, I understand that. But the Seahawks defense has been pretty bad at stopping receiving backs. If you're really, really concerned, it's close enough that you could push it with Strange. But, God, yeah, the Seahawks have been so bad against the passing game to running backs specifically. And that's exactly the role Aaron Jones is going to play. You got to think they have Brosmer dump it off as much as humanly possible against the Seahawks pressure. They're allowing 5.6 catches, 41 receiving yards per game to running backs. That's both are bottom 5 in the NFL. We just saw 8 catches allowed to running backs last week by the Seahawks. And the Titans aren't terrible against tight ends either. Like I do think the Jags outside receivers should do well today. I would play Brenton Strange, I think, over Cade Otton. Why Diggs over Wilson? Yeah, so I actually would play Wilson. I would play Michael Wilson all the way up above Olave and even Tet. I would go Michael Wilson over Tet, Olave, McConkey, Diggs. I would put Egbuka above Michael Wilson also, though. That's how I would adjust these rankings like a little bit. I'm not benching Michael Wilson or Egbuka this week. Yeah, I'm playing Wilson over Mooney. I'm playing Brian Thomas Jr. over Debo. Yeah, I would do that. I think the ceiling for Brian Thomas Jr. is like considerably higher than it is for Debo against the Broncos. Guys, if you're just joining the YouTube live, smash the like button. Hit the subscribe button. We're still going live every single week, multiple times a week here on this YouTube channel. And we're still posting weekly content to help you bring home the Fantasy Football Championship. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Does help a lot. Hit the follow button on TikTok. Do appreciate that as well. Why is Chris Olave ranked so high? Yeah, I mean, the target volume for Chris Olave is just insane. He had 9 catches in his last game, 30% target share, 13 targets. Chris Olave is now 4th in the NFL in targets per game. 4th. He's at almost 10 targets per game. He's coming in with a back injury, though. I would play Egbuka and Michael Wilson over him. But yeah, he deserves to be ranked pretty high. Debo or Quentin Johnston? God, I think I'd go Quentin Johnston there. I think I'm going Quentin Johnston over Debo. Wow, yeah, they both project for 9.5 points. I think Quentin Johnston's ceiling is much higher here. Guys, smash the like button if you're just tuning into the YouTube live. Do appreciate it. I need to win these last 2 weeks. Yeah, you're not alone, man. We got to churn out wins, get into the fantasy playoffs at this point in the season. This is what it's all about, man. We worked too hard to get here to fall off at this point. Need to. Vidal, BTJ, Sutton, or Egbuka flex PPR. Yeah, you're going these last 2. You're benching Vidal, you're benching BTJ, you're playing Sutton, you're playing Egbuka. You're playing, oh man, RJ Harvey versus Michael Wilson. These are 2 guys that I really don't want to bench this week. Terry McLaurin was not accidentally left off the wide receiver rankings. You can't start Terry against the Broncos. Just unstartable against the Broncos, in my opinion. Harvey versus Michael Wilson. Harvey's going to project better here. Oh, God. I don't want to bench Michael Wilson, but I think I would go RJ Harvey. I think I would go RJ Harvey. Yo, start Devin Neal. Yeah, you can start Devin Neal. He's definitely startable. He had 7 targets last week. Played 70% of the snaps in his last game. This is a good prospect here. In a pretty good matchup. Played 74% of snaps, had 7 targets, only 7 carries. He had less carries than Taysom Hill. Like, that's a little bit concerning. It's part of the reason Taysom Hill is a sleeper this week. But the target volume, like, if he loses the goal line work but still gets that target volume, that's going to be pretty strong still. I'm playing Harvey over Franklin, yeah. Bucky or Vidal in a must-win game. Oh, man. What a tough call with Bucky Irving this week and so many start sits. Well, let's talk through the Bucky Irving situation here. So, should be active for Week 13's game. Expected to be on some type of touch count. But he could get a big role if he's playing well. Like, this is also kind of a hot hand backfield, and all reports suggest he's like fully healthy. He's had a lot of time to get healthy. It's a good matchup for him too. Oh, man. But Vidal, he's got a good matchup as well. He's more locked into a pretty big workload. I would argue Vidal is safer. Bucky has a higher ceiling. Do you need the ceiling or do you need the floor? The ceiling is with Bucky. The floor is with Vidal. Happy Sunday, Sam. Happy Sunday to you as well. Happy Sunday to every single one of you tuned in right now. Seriously, appreciate you guys all a ton. It is the best day of the week. We only have so many Sundays left in the fantasy season at this point. Rico, Nico, or Michael Wilson. Flex, yeah, I'm not benching Nico Collins. Not even for Michael Wilson. Michael Wilson versus Rico Dowdle, too. That's pretty close. I probably would go Rico Dowdle there, too. Yo, Sam, back another Sunday. Shout out to you, man. Mechie or Marv, and 2 of Genty, Harvey, or Kyren. This is a good one here. Mechie versus Marv. First Maserati Marv question I've seen that makes a lot of sense. I mean, this is a close call. You know, I think here in week 13, it's a very unique week since we've already had 4 weeks played. If you're down by a lot here in week 13, I'm okay risking it with Marvin Harrison Jr. If you're projected to get crushed or you're projected to lose right now, I'm okay pushing it a bit with Marvin Harrison Jr. I think John Mechie's safer than Marv. Appendicitis Marv missed the last 2 games with appendicitis. Probably not going to limit him in his first game back. Man, Jacoby Brissett's been balling, but the connection with Michael Wilson's real. We have Michael Wilson projected ahead of Marv. Meanwhile, John Mechie, he's been over 13 points in back-to-back games. I think his floor is safer. I like the John Mechie over 3.5 catches prop today too. I think if you're just trying to lock in 10 plus, you go Mechie. If you need a 20 plus point game, I'd go Marv. And this other question here is good too. I'll talk about Rico Dowdle, why he's so high in a second. Saw a question about that. Harvey, Genty, Kyren Williams. Honestly, might go RJ Harvey versus over Rico Dowdle this week. Looking at those ranks. Wow, yeah, in this order. This is a super tough call. You got Genty in the most difficult matchup of the 3 here against the Chargers. Not a terrible matchup, but coming out of the bye. The Chargers, the Raiders have a horrible offensive line. Genty he only has 1 100-yard rushing game this season, but he's got 14 catches in his last 2 games. Huge receiving role right now for Ashton Genty. Had an 81% rush rate, 17 carries and 8 targets. He's got 16 targets in his last 2 games. Tough to bench that. And then I'm not benching Harvey against the Commanders, but Kyren Williams, he's got a really good role too, and he gets the Panthers. We were getting chirped last week on the live. Why is Kyren Williams ranked so low? He has his worst game of the season at 5.8 points. Still has a really good chance at a touchdown in this game versus the Panthers, but yeah, I think he's the bench here. He's the worst receiving role definitely of the group. Metcalf, Mechie, or Alec Pierce? Yeah, it's Metcalf. I'm going Metcalf here. I think Mechie's the floor, Metcalf's the ceiling, but the ceiling justifies Metcalf here, I think, over Mechie against the Bills. What's up, Sam? How we doing? Shout out to doing the super chat, or I don't even know what this is called. I think it's super chat. Testing out this new feature in the YouTube. But yeah, if you really need a comment answered, I know there's a lot of comments. I'm going to get to hundreds of comments. But yeah, shout out to you for supporting the live here. Bucky, Woody, or Neil? Man, this Bucky. I think I'd go Bucky here over Woody Marks and over Devin Neal. Neal might project the best here. Yeah, he does. Oh, God. Yeah, if you need a floor, maybe it's Devin Neal. I still think I'd go Bucky. I think I'd go Bucky over Devin Neal. It's a close call. He did play 70% of snaps. He got out-carried by Taysom Hill. But he also had 5 catches on 7 targets. And he's a capable receiving back. And I think he's a better runner than we saw last week, too. But yeah, I still think I'd go Bucky Irving over Devin Neal. I think the ceiling is higher for him. Rico or Judkins? Yeah, it's Rico. Someone asked earlier in the TikTok live, why is Rico ranked so high? Yeah, why is Rico ranked so high here? I would probably argue RJ Harvey over Rico. He ranks his running back 6 among the running backs left. I might play Brees over Rico too in the matchup that Brees has. The role did take a step back a little bit for Rico Dowdle last week. Only 65% of the snaps. He was over 70% in the previous 3 games. He only had 6 carries. That was the fewest carries we've seen from Rico Dowdle since week 2. But the Panthers were getting blown out in this game. They did not have a lot of time of possession in the game either. He still, though, had over 11 points because he had 4 catches. He now has 9 catches over his last 2. He's got 11 targets, 9 catches on 11 targets in his last 2 games. The target share has been at least 13% in 4 straight games. They're projected to get crushed. The matchup is tough, though, against the Rams. So, yeah, I think he's probably ranked a little bit too high. A little bit higher than he probably should be. I would be okay starting Trevion Henderson over him. I would be okay starting RJ Harvey over him. I'd be okay starting Breece Hall, even Ashton Genty over him. Then it's probably Rico, though. I probably still would play Rico over Kenneth Walker and ETN. But that's probably closer to the tier he should be in. Got a tough one today. Pick 2, full PPR. Dowdle, Henderson, ETN. God, we just what time here to go to this one? Henderson versus Dowdle is such a tough call. I honestly think I might go Henderson here. And then ETN is in a good matchup versus the Titans. This is a good question to see where I'm at here with Rico Dowdle versus where we even projected. Let's look at this matchup tab for Dowdle against the Rams. The Rams' run defense is definitely scary. The receiving role for Dowdle is really good. McCaffrey is 2 of the good games. There's only been 3 good games against the Rams. There's Kenneth Walker, McCaffrey, and McCaffrey. Derrick Henry only had 14. Jonathan Taylor only had 14. They're allowing only 17 points per game. A couple of rushing touchdowns recently, but not many this season. They have been kind of bad against the pass, which is, I think, good for Dowdle. Oh, God, yeah, I think I would bench Dowdle here. I think I'd go both Henderson and ETN. I think I'd move Dowdle down in that Kyren Williams, Aaron Jones tier. Maybe the very bottom of tier 3 is where I think Dowdle should actually be, not the top of tier 2. So I would start Kyren. I think I might go Kyren over Dowdle too. It's close because Kyren, it's that same game. Game script definitely favors Kyren, but the receiving role favors Dowdle. Yeah, I would play ETN, Kenneth Walker, RJ Harvey, Kamani Vidal, Ashton Genty, Breece Hall, Trevion Henderson, all over Dowdle. Man, there's maybe even a case for Jalen Warren too in that matchup. But Gainwell's mixing in a lot too. I probably would go Dowdle there. Vidal, Neal, or Tracy PPR. Oh, man. This is also a tough one. We got some really good ones here in week 13. Tracy is a really interesting case where it's like, how much do you care about the matchup for Tyrone Tracy? Sorry, I went to week 14 by accident there. How much do we care about the matchup for Tyrone Tracy? Because last week the matchup was even worse. Last week the matchup was against the Lions, right? They were number 1. Yeah, he's got the number 1 run defense last week in the Lions. Not the number 1 run defense, I would argue, but the number 1 defense in terms of fantasy points allowed. He still had 16 points. He's got now 119 receiving yards in his last 2 games on 7 catches. Plus, he's been over 60 rushing yards in 3 straight games. Plus, he's coming off a season high 70% snap percentage since week 1. He's playing over half the snaps. He's getting consistent targets. The Giants are underdogs. The Patriots just allowed the worst rushing performance of their season to Chase Brown. But then you got these other 2 running backs in like true workhorse roles. They both project better than Tracy, and I think I'd play both these guys over Tracy. Neal versus Tracy, super, super close. But yeah, I'm going Vidal here. I'm going Vidal. Brissett or Dart? Yeah, it's Brissett, man. It's Brissett. Yeah, there's not very many QBs I'm playing over Dart. I am a little bit nervous about Jackson Dart's rushing and that they're going to limit his rushing a bit coming off the concussion. There's been a lot of narrative around they got to protect their young QB, and that's not going to be good for fantasy. I would start Brissett over Dart, but after that, it's Dart. I'm starting Brissett, Stafford, Bo Nix, May, and Allen over Dart. That's it. Then it's Dart. I play Dart over Herbert, Stroud, Baker. Vidal or Metcalf? Oh, God, that's close too. I do like Metcalf this week. I think there's a legit ceiling for Metcalf this week with Rodgers back. We've only seen 1 game over 20 points for Metcalf all season. Vidal's been pretty boomer bust himself. Vidal's safer. He's definitely safer. I would argue Metcalf's ceiling is higher. I would make that argument. Wilson, Harvey, and Dowdle pick 2. Yeah, you're benching Dowdle here. You're playing Michael Wilson and RJ Harvey over Dowdle. You like Michael Wilson today with Harrison back? Yeah, I still like Michael Wilson. I still think Michael Wilson's a must start. I mean, the coach speak out of Arizona has been, they're not just going to phase Michael Wilson out all of a sudden. He has 25 catches for over 300 yards in his last 2 games. Happy Sunday, Sam. Must win. 53% chance to win. Bucky, Egbuka, Ted. Yeah, you probably have to bench Bucky here, and you go Egbuka and Ted, the 2 rookie receivers here. I'm definitely playing Egbuka over Bucky. And yeah, you got to start Tet right now too. Yeah, it's Egbuka and Tet. Neal or Judkins? Man, the receiving role difference here, it's honestly a really close call. So Judkins, the Browns, they're playing in 30 to 35 mile an hour wind gusts and snow. So be aware of that in all your Browns and 49ers start sits today. It's not necessarily bad for Judkins, but yeah, I'm going Devin Neal. I think I'd go get Devin Neal over Judkins today. Wandale Shakir, Troy Franklin, pick 2. Yeah, I'm going these first 2. I'm benching Troy Franklin. It's a good matchup for Franklin. I really like the spots for Wandale and Shakir, though. Waddle or Sutton, I'm going with Waddle. I don't think you can bench Waddle right now. Start 1 wide receiver and 1 flex. Franklin, BTJ, Michael Wilson. Yeah, starting Michael Wilson over BTJ, over Pittman, over Franklin. And then 1 flex is probably Kenneth Walker. Oh, man, Kenneth versus Vidal. Do we have Vidal ahead of Kenneth? I think we do. Yeah, it's really, really close, though. I'm going to toss Brian Thomas Jr. in here, too. I do really like the ceiling for Brian Thomas Jr. Brian Thomas Jr., you're probably your first or second round pick in fantasy. I know this was a while back you made these picks. First or second round pick in fantasy. Here you are in a must-win game in week 13, and you're going to bench him for Kamani Vidal. I mean, the projections say to do so, but man, it's going to be tough to stomach a big Brian Thomas Jr. game on the bench with that context, man. And he's playing the Titans, who have been really bad against outside receivers. The role, I think, will be there for Brian Thomas Jr. today. But Kenneth is in a really good matchup, too, against the Vikings. I mean, the matchup's not good, but the game environment should be really good. Yeah, this is a really difficult one here between these 3. Kenneth, Vidal, Brian Thomas Jr. Vidal is like locked into this workhorse role. Emmanuel Wilson did smash the Vikings in their last game. He was at almost 4 yards a carry on like 30 carries, scored twice. Yeah, I think my gut here was Kenneth. I think I'm sticking with my gut on this one and going Kenneth Walker over Vidal. I think I'd move Vidal a couple spots lower. I'd probably put him below RJ Harvey and Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker's role is growing too. Woody or Gainwell? 49% chance to win. Yeah, guys, let me know your percent chance to win in your matchup right now based on what your platform's saying in these start sits, because this is a unique week. You have Wilson over Marvin Harrison Jr. Yeah, I do. I would go Michael Wilson over Marvin Harrison Jr. just straight up. I would. I think Marvin Harrison Jr.'s ceiling is high, but Michael Wilson's, you can't just ignore 25 catches and 300-plus yards. You can't ignore that. I'm not ignoring it. I refuse to. Let me know your percent chance to win in your start sits, because it could impact my answers here in some of these start sits here in week 13. By the way, guys, if you have not checked out the WalterPicks app yet, I do not know what you are waiting for. We only run 1 sale a year, and it's going on right now. It's the Black Friday sale. It ends tomorrow. You got less than 24 hours left of the Black Friday sale. If you've been on the fence for the WalterPicks app premium features for both fantasy and props, you can get that for as little as under $2 a week right now in the WalterPicks app. Check that out if you haven't yet. Use code SAM when you sign up. That does help me out. Woody or Gainwell, PPR in a close matchup. Oh, man. Woody Marks is the safer role, I think, to bet on here. The matchup's really good against the Bills. The problem that we saw earlier, though, for Gainwell is he's had a huge receiving role, but the Bills have actually been crushed on the ground. Do you think Kenneth Gainwell can have a big rushing game? We have seen good rushing games from Gainwell, too. He did have 92 rushing yards in his last game on 10 carries, 9.2 yards per carry against the Bears. Now he gets the Bills. He's been a top 10 running back in back-to-back weeks, man. But he has 13 catches over that span. I do not think he gets near 6 catches here versus the Bills. And then you got Woody Marks against the Colts, who's like in a workhorse role now. He's getting over 60% of the carries. He's still one of the better receiving backs on the team. If they're going to keep giving Agumba Wale work in the receiving game, it's going to be frustrating. Man, I think you go Woody Marks in a close game. Gainwell's, I think, the more of the ceiling and risky play, but I think I'd go Woody Marks. Sam, good morning. Vidal or Neal? 55% chance to win. Yeah, it's Vidal for me. It's Vidal over Neal. I'm going Bucky over Gainwell. I'm going Brian Thomas Jr. over Michael Pittman. I think Pittman's a bench. All right, we got a 26% chance to win here. So this is why I'm asking. I think when you put this context in, it could really change some of these decisions. Henderson, Etienne, Ladd, Waddle. Who should get benched? Yeah, it's Dowdle. You bench Dowdle here. I think the rest of these guys have a higher ceiling than Dowdle here in week 13. Dowdle, I think, is more of a floor play for the receiving upside in a tough matchup versus the Rams. 25% chance after Thursday, Friday. Face JT and Jamar week 14 too. Yikes. Start 2 PPR. Troy Franklin, Marvin Harrison Jr., Mike Wilson, Woody Marks, Devin Neal. I think you probably go Franklin and Michael Wilson here, or you go Marvin Harrison Jr. and Michael Wilson. You hope for just a huge shootout from Brissett against the Bucs, but I definitely would not be benching Michael Wilson in this spot. And I think you got to stick with the receivers here if you're looking for the ceiling. It's crazy to start Michael Wilson and Shakir over Pittman and Egbuka. I think it'd be crazy to start them over Egbuka, but not Pittman. I would start Shakir over Pittman, I think. The matchup for Pittman is really scary. Daniel Jones is dealing with a fibula injury against the number 1 defensive line in the NFL that just sacked Josh Allen 8 times. Like, I really don't want to start Michael Pittman this week. Michael Wilson or Ladd. I think I said Wilson over Ladd earlier. I think I said I would put Michael Wilson right above Egbuka and Wilson above 10 in these rankings that are up on the TikTok live right now. I think I would go Michael Wilson over Ladd. Mechie or Myers? Yeah, Myers. Myers has a really high ceiling against the Titans. They've been really bad against outside receivers. I would go Myers. DK, yeah, I accidentally left DK off those rankings, but I would play DK over Pittman. I have him at wide receiver 13. Brissett or Herbert? Yeah, it's Brissett. We haven't had too many QB start sits, but it's Brissett over Herbert. I do think Herbert bounces back coming out of the bye, but this is a really good pass funnel matchup here for Brissett against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who should also be able to score points against the Cardinals. This game should be pretty high score. Tight end rankings, please. Yeah, got you the tight end ranks. Pull those up here too. Weatherman Sam's here for you guys. All season long, Weatherman Sam's here. There's going to be some real fear mongering, I think, in the weather streets today for NFL weather reports. The only game I'm really concerned about is this Browns 49ers game. There was 30 to 35 mile an hour wind gusts and snow throughout the whole game. Like, this is, I think the snow gets a little bit better in the second half, but it's still going to be snowing, I think, the whole game. So pretty concerned. There's possible rain in the Jaguars at Titans. There's possible rain. I think likely rain even at this point. Let me actually refresh the weather report here. Yeah, it's going to rain early into this game. There's not really much wind. These guys can play through the rain. I'm really not scared about the rain. And then there's possible rain in the Rams at Panthers too. But yeah, it's really just this 49ers game. But yeah, I would go Brissett here over Herbert. Herbert's playing in the dome at least. There might be rain in that Bucs game. I don't think there's going to be much of an impact though. Rico or Genty? I'm going Genty over Rico. I'm going Aaron Jones over Pittman. I think Pittman's a bench. Gainwell, K9 or Sutton? Yeah, I'd go Sutton, I think, over Gainwell. But I don't think I'd start him over Kenneth Walker. Good matchup for Sutton today. Yeah, I'd go Kenneth Walker there. I'd go Vidal over Franklin. I'd go Vidal versus Rico. Oh God, I don't think I'm ready to go that far. I think I did say we're going to move Rico down there though. Man, Rico, Barry Sanders Dowdle. He has not looked like Barry Sanders for many weeks now. Doesn't have a game over 15.5 since week 9. He only has one game. Rico only has one game with at least 16 points since week 6. I mean, it's been 2 months since we've really seen a big game from Rico. Now he gets the Rams, the third toughest matchup for running backs. I'm going Vidal, man. I'm going Vidal over Rico. What do I do with Lamar? Yeah, you just got to go, into the shower and just cry, with Lamar at this point. I talked about it on Thanksgiving. I don't know. I expected, back-to-back bounce back games from Lamar now. It just has not happened. He does not look like a good passer right now. The passing has not been there. The rushing has also not been there for Lamar. It's rough right now. And it's too late in the fantasy season. You kind of have to go down with the ship, with Lamar if you have him in fantasy. I'm going to have to do that in one of my high stakes leagues. God, yeah, it's tough. It's really tough right now for Lamar. He's had 2 great matchups, 2 great bounce back spots, and just completely flopped in both of them. Shout out to Isaiah Likely, though, for cashing his alt line prop there against the Bengals. Gainwell or Vidal? Yeah, I'm going Vidal. Sutton versus Devin Neal versus Gainwell. I think this one's really between Neal and Sutton. Neal projects better. Bless you. Thank you. Yeah, Neal projects a little bit better. I think Sutton's ceiling is honestly the highest here. I'd play them both over Gainwell, though. I think I lean towards Devin Neal. I do think the Broncos are going to be able to lean on the run in that game. McConkey or Diggs? I'd go McConkey over Diggs. Bless you. Thank you. Appreciate you. Gadsden or Strange? I'd go Strange over Gadsden. I'd go Mooney over Parker Washington. 49% chance to win. Pick 3. Tet, Egbuka, Shakir, Michael Wilson. Here you bench Shakir here. You play Egbuka, Tet, and Michael Wilson, I think, over Shakir. Pull up the must starts, must benches here again on the TikTok live. Pull up some more comments here on the YouTube live. Keenan, Franklin, or Parker Washington PPR, 65% chance to win. You probably got to go Franklin here. I don't trust Parker Washington with Brian Thomas Jr. back, Jacoby in the lineup now, Strange back. I mean, Parker Washington does have a pretty low floor here. Shout out to you for doing the super chat. Appreciate you. Morning, Sam. Jalen Warren or Sutton, PPR, 68%. I want to start Jalen Warren today. I do. Gainwell's increasing role makes it like a tiny bit scary. I think the ceiling for Sutton is high against the Commanders, but yeah, the Bills have been so bad. They've been so bad against the running backs. I mean, the Bills defense is not good right now. They're allowing 118 rushing yards per game. They're allowing the most rushing touchdowns per game. They did fine against the Texans last week, but Woody Marks was still at 4.6 yards per carry. Man, the ceiling is higher for Sutton, though. But yeah, you're already at 68%. You lock it in with Warren. This is why the win probability is really helpful here on this unique Week 13 slate. Hey, Sam, happy Sunday. Happy Sunday to you as well. Happy Sunday to every single one of you. I'm playing Michael Wilson. Play Michael Wilson and Marv. 50% chance to win. You got Michael Wilson, Marv, and Mechie. I like Mechie. He's a free player prop today, over 3.5 catches. There's going to be some rain in that game, but just locking the two Cardinals receivers, it's a super high floor and high ceiling play. All right, we got Wandale or Vidal. I don't know how you bench Wandale right now. They're 7-point underdogs. He's coming off a 9-catch, 156 touchdown game. I know that was with Winston. But the floor is pretty good still for Wandale. The target shares have been unreal for Wandale Robinson. The 6'10's back to some of these games with Jackson Dart too. I think you got to go Wandale over Vidal. Vidal isn't a good matchup. But yeah, I'm going Wandale there. Sam, Tyler Warren or Jawan Johnson? Yeah, so Xavier, if you've been tuned into this live, I think you're well aware that there's no one higher on Jawan Johnson than me. Maybe someone's as high, but no one's higher on Jawan Johnson than me here in Week 13. I still think you go Tyler Warren over Jawan. But yeah, I like Jawan to go over 3.5 catches. I like Jawan Johnson to go over 44.5 receiving yards. Those are two of the free player props today. The Dolphins have been so bad versus tight ends. Olave's coming in with a back injury. There's no one else on this offense. Kamara's out. I do like Jawan Johnson a lot, but I don't think you can start him over Tyler Warren, even in a tough matchup for Warren. I honestly wouldn't knock you. I wouldn't knock you for going with him. It's a tough pill to swallow, though. But yeah, I have Jawan Johnson in the free player props and in my DFS lineup. Vidal, McConkey, Egbuka, and Neal. Rank these four PPR. I'm putting Egbuka number 1, McConkey number 2, Vidal number 3, Neal number 4. I think that's how I would rank it here. You could definitely argue Vidal at number 2. Like, he probably has a little bit of safer floor over McConkey, but McConkey's ceiling is definitely higher. And like the floor for Vidal is actually like still kind of scary. He's been really boom bust. Yeah, I would go like Egbuka, McConkey, Vidal, and Neal. That's how I'd rank it. What's going on, Uncle Sam? How we doing, Zane? Good to see you back in the YouTube live here, Week 13, Sunday morning. If you guys are just tuning in, guys, smash the like button, hit the subscribe and follow button. Appreciate the follow there over on TikTok, John. Thank you for that. Pick 3, DK, Michael Wilson, BTJ, Scary Terry. Yes, so Scary Terry can't be started. Like, he's just off the radar, I think, completely here in Week 13. So remove him from this question. Brian Thomas Jr. and DK Metcalf, I actually see kind of similarly here. In Week 13, they're both ceiling plays with somewhat scary floors, but I like the ceiling for both guys in their respective matchups. Michael Wilson's a must start. So you're starting Michael Wilson, DK, and BTJ here. Yeah, you're benching Scary Terry. Also, you got any props today? Yeah, I have 5 props. We went 6 for 7 on the free player props on Thanksgiving Day. I mean, my best betting day of the year came on Thanksgiving. You'll love to see it. I've got 5 more for today on the live today. I'm going with RJ Harvey's rushing, RJ Harvey to score, John Mechie receptions, Juwan Johnson over 4.5 receptions, Juwan Johnson over 42.5 yards. So there's 3 players, but 5 props here. I'm going with 2 RJ Harvey props, 2 Juwan Johnson props, and the John Mechie receptions prop. These are my favorite free player props of the day here. A good question here from David. Taysom Hill or Arondé Gadsden? I have Taysom Hill listed here on the TikTok Live as one of my sleepers of the week. I think he has to be noted coming off a game with 10 carries and now no Alvin Kamara. Like, he probably is the goal line back for the Saints in a good matchup versus the Dolphins. I would not be surprised to see one of these big Taysom Hill games here this week. I mean, I really would argue that his ceiling is like substantially higher than Gadsden's even here in week 13, but the floor is low. I mean, the floor is, close to 1 point as well. So he's a risky play, but at tight end, if you're already looking at some of these lower end tight ends, all projected under 10 points, like, why not take the dart throw with Taysom? I'm in one non-PPR league, which I absolutely hate, but in non-PPR especially, I mean, Taysom Hill, like, really could smash in that format. 10 carries. He's got 17 carries, does Taysom Hill, over his last 2 games, and this is the best matchup he's had all season against the Dolphins. Very interesting one, man. I want to say Taysom. Like, I want to say Taysom here. I think I would chase the ceiling, honestly, in a spot like that with Taysom Hill. Michael Wilson, Steph Diggs, Cortland Sutton, RJ Harvey, 70% chance to win. Yeah, you're going Michael Wilson and Harvey. Go Michael Wilson and Harvey. Bench Diggs. Diggs is, I think, a little bit more of a ceiling play too. He ranks pretty high in our ranks, but he's only playing like half the snaps, and it's possible the Pats can really lean on the run. Sutton, I think, is more of a ceiling play. Harvey and Wilson, both really good floor and ceiling there. Start sit, Dortch, Jennings, Tez, or Hodgins. 61% chance to win. Yeah, these are the ones that get me out of bed, man. Every Sunday morning, we got Dortch. We got Juwan Jennings playing in the wind and snow. We got Tez Johnson. I really don't think we can start Isaiah Hodgins right now. Juwan Jennings still projects the best. Marvin Harrison Jr. back. I really don't think we can start Dortch. Man, Tez Johnson is maybe in play here, given the weather for Juwan Jennings. It's a close call. I think you kind of have to go Juwan Jennings, even in the snow. I'm not playing Hodgins. I feel like you could make an argument Tez Johnson's a little safer, though, since you're already projected to win, but I think I'd probably go Juwan Jennings here. QB, let me pull up the QB ranks here. Pull up the QB ranks on both lives. I'll pull up the DraftKings lineup here in a second as well. We'll have Samps joining the live here momentarily. Kittle, Michael Wilson, Woody Marks, one flex, PPR, need a win. Thanks for doing the super chat here on the YouTube live. You really need your chat answered. I got you in the super chats. Kittle, Michael Wilson, Woody Marks, one flex. It's Michael Wilson. It's Michael Wilson over Woody Marks. It's Michael Wilson over George Kittle. This is a good matchup for Michael Wilson, guys. He's coming off 25 catches for over 300 yards. Pat, man, appreciate the super chat here. 42% chance to win. Got to get these wins here. This is very, very winnable. 2 running backs and 1 flex. Dowdle, Vidal, Kyron Williams, Gainwell, and Michael Wilson. God, these are tough calls here. So I'm definitely flexing Michael Wilson. So this is a choose 2 running backs. I really don't know how we can see what Michael Wilson's done these last couple of games. I know Marvin Harrison Jr. has been out, but guys, he's got 55 fantasy points, over 55 fantasy points in his last 2 games without a touchdown. He hasn't even scored. He's got 25 catches for over 300 yards. I'm not benching that. In a great matchup versus the Bucs. This is the best matchup he's had in the last few games. I mean, the Bucs have been a pass funnel defense. Like, they've actually been pretty good against the run. The Cardinals have no running backs. It's Bam Knight, Michael Carter. I know Marv's back, but I'm going Michael Wilson here in the flex. And then it's Dowdle, Vidal, and Kyron Williams. And we have Dowdle ranked higher than these guys. I actually think you bench Dowdle here and Gainwell, and you go with Kyron Williams and Vidal. Man, Vidal over Dowdle. Such a tough call. Yeah, Dowdle projects the best. But his role did go down last week, and he's playing the Rams. The third toughest matchup. He hasn't had a big game since week 9. He's only had one big game in his last month and a half. The receiving role has been good for Dowdle, but the matchup's way better for these other two guys. I think the role, like, I wouldn't be shocked to see Vidal and Kyron Williams get more touches than Dowdle. So yeah, I think I'd go Vidal and Kyron Williams here. I'd bench Dowdle. I'd bench Gainwell. I'd play Michael Wilson. That's how I'd play it. Appreciate the super chat, man. Happy Sunday, Sam. Myers, Tucker, Bam, Mooney, or Rodriguez. Yes, Myers. Go Myers. And Trey Tucker's he's actually on the sleeper list today. I think without Chip Kelly, maybe we see Trey Tucker in a more expanded role. He did have 10 targets in his last game with Chip Kelly. He has 18 targets in his last 2 games. He's playing every single snap. The only players that have played a higher snap percentage at wide receiver than Trey Tucker, we looked at this earlier in the live, it's Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. That's it. That's the end of the list in terms of snap percentage. That's a real stat here on the Week 13 Sunday morning lives. You know, he's been really running wind sprints this season, but he's a sleeper. But yeah, I like Jacoby Moore, the former Raiders receiver. Really good matchup for him against the Titans. The outside receivers have just smashed versus the Titans this season. They have been a really good secondary to target. I think I would go with Jacoby here. I don't want to start Bam Knight. I really don't want to start Bam Knight or Michael Carter. Vidal, Pittman, Marv, pick 2. Warren, if he plays, or Juwan. Warren's playing. Is Warren questionable? I think you got to go Warren over Juwan. Pittman, Maserati Marv, or I heard some calling him appendicitis Marv. Here, I'm not starting Pittman in Week 13. I actually think we haven't projected maybe even a little too high here versus the Texans. This is a really tough matchup for Pittman. I would start Michael Wilson over him, Jacoby Myers over him, Khalil Shakir over him, Sutton over him. Haven't seen many Jaden Higgins questions, but he projects up there too. So then it's Vidal versus Marv. And I would actually argue Vidal's ceiling might be high. Marv's ceiling might actually be higher, but the floor is low here for Marv coming off the appendicitis. I think you go Vidal here versus the Raiders. Oh, it's a pick 2. Yes, you bench Pittman. You play Marv and you play Vidal. I'm benching Pittman there. I'm benching Pittman. I'm playing Marv. Shakir or Sutton, it's Shakir versus the Steelers. Yeah, it's Shakir. 44% chance to win. Zach, how we doing? Appreciate the super chat here in the YouTube live. Appreciate all the support, guys, and in both live streams. Seriously, look forward to these Sunday morning lives a ton. Like the super chat feature that we are testing out here on this live. Bo Nix is who you're playing against. Pick 3: Sutton, Franklin, Dowdle, Neal. If I lose them out, more than likely, so willing to gamble. Oh man, yeah. I mean, if you had a higher percentage chance to win, then maybe you do risk it. With you play some defense, you play Sutton and Franklin here. But yeah, since you kind of need Bo Nix to have a bad game anyways, I think I'd probably bench Franklin and play these other 3. Let's do Franklin versus Sutton. It's probably pretty close. I know Franklin's been out targeting him. We still have Sutton with a slight edge. Yeah, look at this. At least 8 targets in each of his last 5 games for Troy Franklin, which has been straight up outplaying, out-targeting Courtland Sutton. Man, tough call between these two. I think I still lean Sutton just barely over Franklin, though. And yeah, I would go Dowdle and Neal. Here, I think that makes sense. I do think there's a real shot, too, where the Broncos are forced to lean really, really heavily on the run. Super sticker. Appreciate you, Cam. Gadsden, Sharp, or Tucker at flex and half PPR. Let me pull up the running back ranks here. I don't want to start Sharp at all. Why is DK not on here? That was a mistake. DK Metcalf is a start for me. I would start. I have him ranked as wide receiver 13. Pittman or Mooney? I'd go Mooney over Pittman. I'm benching Pittman in pretty much all cases that I've seen today. Gadsden, Sharp, or Tucker at flex and half PPR. Half PPR makes this even tougher. I think it's Tucker, though, in this one. If I have Tucker as a sleeper, I'm not going to say Tucker in this question. I don't know what I'm doing. Saying that he's a sleeper. Him versus Gadsden's close. The half PPR makes me want to consider Sharp. It is a good matchup for Sharp, or game environment at least for Sharp. Let's actually toss him in here. Let's change this to half PPR. Yeah, it's still Trey Tucker. I'd go Trey Tucker. Third in snap percentage behind JJ and Jamar Chase. Good morning, Sam. Bucky, BTJ, or DK PPR? Yeah, it's Bucky or Brian Thomas Jr. I'm not playing DK here. Imanor is back as well this week, and Chigokonku is going to be playing as well. DK has definitely been good of late. So I switched this back to PPR. It's a really interesting one. Two guys coming back for their first games, Bucky and Brian Thomas Jr. here. I think I lean towards Bucky Irving, but man, it's so hard to ignore the ceiling for Brian Thomas Jr. for me. I think it's Bucky Irving, though. We've only seen one game over 12 points from Brian Thomas Jr. I think he goes over 12 today. I think there is a real ceiling, but it's a good matchup for Bucky. I do think Bucky's going to be at full health and full strength here in his first game back. Hey, Sam, Benson being out hurt me. Yeah, a lot of people were waiting for Trey Benson, and it just didn't end up coming to fruition here in week 13. Both Benson and Hampton not back this week. Guys, if you're just tuning into the YouTube live, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button. Do appreciate you all here on the week 13 Sunday morning live. We're going to get to as many start sits as we possibly can. A ton to get through on the week 13 slate today. Let me pull up the free player props for those just hopping on. Let me get back to this comment here. Oh, I actually lost that comment. My bad on that one. Happy Sunday and God bless. Yeah, thanks. And same to you. Full PPR running backs. Pick two running backs here. Gainwell, Judkins, or Vidal. I think, Gainwell versus Judkins is close. You got to go Vidal here. And then it's Gainwell versus Judkins. Gainwell has a great matchup versus the Bills. The problem is the Bills have been really good at stopping the receiving work from the running back. They've been bad at stopping the run. They've been one of the worst run defenses in the NFL and of late. And then you got Judkins playing in the snow and wind in Cleveland. It really is, I think, a floor ceiling decision here. I have been asking a lot of people on the live today, and I appreciate everyone in the chat. What is your percentage chance to win based on what the platform's telling you? Yahoo, ESPN, Sleeper, CBS. What's your percentage chance to win? Toss that in with the start sit this week, because some of these floor ceiling decisions, like if you're down, projected to lose by 20 right now, you're at like a 40% chance to win or less. I might go Gainwell here and risk it. Otherwise, though, I think Judkins' floor is a little bit safer. He's probably going to get near 20 carries in the snow and wind against the 49ers, whose their defense has not been great, but this game could be pretty ugly too. I mean, this Bills-Steelers game should be higher scoring. We have 13 catches for Gainwell the last couple, man. Oh, God, tough call here. And then defense, I should stream. I have Cards defense. Yeah, so let me pull up the defense ranks here. Broncos, Falcons, Chargers, Seahawks, Jags. I stream all those defenses if you can. The Browns, if they're available, they're probably not. The Rams, I would stream over the Cardinals. The Colts, I would probably stream over the Cardinals. I don't feel as good about that one. The Dolphins, even over the Arizona Cardinals, I probably would go with them too. Yeah, I'd probably go with them too. Tracy or Vidal, Ladd, Tet, BTJ. I'm going Vidal over Tracy, though I do like Tracy. I'm going Tet, I think, over Ladd and BTJ. Vidal, Harvey, or Kyron, half PPR, pick two. I'm not benching Harvey this week. I'm not benching Harvey. If you guys just saw the free player props that were up, I like Harvey's rushing prop over 55.5 rushing yards and to score. The Commanders might be the worst run defense in the NFL right now. So, yeah, I'm not benching Harvey. And then Vidal versus Kyron Williams and half PPR. It's a tough call. I honestly think Kyren Williams is safer. I think I'd probably go Kyren Williams over Vidal. Vidal has been pretty boom bust. It's a good matchup. I think the role will be there for Vidal. But yeah, he's either been over 17 or under 8. I think I'd go with the safety with Kyren Williams, not knowing how close that matchup is. But you can't really go wrong with either of those guys, in my opinion. Warren with his virus and good Texans defense, or Waller. I'm going Warren over Waller. You could give me any scenario you want to play. The virus, the matchup. I'm going Warren over Waller like 100% of the time. There are some tight ends though. If you are really nervous about Warren, I play Taysom Hill over Waller this week. Taysom Hill, guys, has 17 carries in his last 2 games. And now he gets the Dolphins, his best matchup of the season. I'm personally not going to trot him out there over Tyler Warren, but I think Taysom's got like a legit ceiling here against the Dolphins. He's probably the primary goal line back for the Saints right now. 17 carries in his last 2 games. He had 36% of the carries in their last matchup. Didn't do much with it, 1.7 points, but yeah, I would probably play him over Waller. All right, and then Mooney, Debo, DK, or Jaden Higgins PPR. Yeah, I'm going with DK and Mooney here over Jaden Higgins and Debo. Jaden Higgins has been balling, but it was with Davis Mills. I'm a little nervous that's not going to carry over Stroud. I would play both Metcalf and Mooney over him. Good morning, Sam. Bo Nix or Brissett. Good morning to you as well. It's almost not morning. We're going to have Sam's hopping on the live here momentarily. Looking forward to that. Is he answering questions from Discord? I'm answering questions from both the TikTok chat and the YouTube live chat. We do have super chats on the YouTube live. Guarantee your comment get answered. That's what the comments I'll be prioritizing. I will get to as many as I possibly can, though. Every single live. We get to hundreds here. Sam will come on, help me with some of these soon as well. I will get to the DFS lineup here in a second, too. If you want to watch live on YouTube, come over to the YouTube live from TikTok. Link is right in the TikTok bio. All right, Bo Nix or Brissett. Yeah, I think Bo Nix might be one of the few QBs I got over Brissett. He is. Yeah, so the main slate for DFS this week, I think it's either Josh Allen or Brissett. The gap between QB1 and the rest of the QBs on the main slate is the biggest gap I think we've seen all season. Because we have like none of these elite QBs on the slate other than Josh Allen. That QB2 and QB3 in our projections are both in prime time, so they're not on the main slate. That's Drake May and Bo Nix. I would play Bo Nix over basically everyone left other than Drake May and Josh Allen. I do like Brissett a lot. I would play Brissett over Mayfield. Yeah, like pretty easily. I like Brissett a lot here versus the Bucs. Sutton, Trevion Henderson, or Metcalf in the flex. I think you probably have to go Trevion Henderson. All three, I think, have similar levels of risk, but I would probably go Trevion Henderson. And then Jennings or Parker Washington. All of these are PPR. Yeah, I assume they're PPR. Appreciate you letting me know that. If you guys haven't checked out the WalterPicks app, by the way, it will be giving you recommendations adjusted to all your different scoring settings. You can sync your league if you haven't checked that out yet. Definitely check it out. Man, this is the second question where I'm saying Juwan Jennings, I really don't want to start him in the snow, in the wind against the Browns, but I don't like Parker Washington much this week either with Brian Thomas Jr. back. He did do well last week. He probably still has a role here, but the Titans are worse on the outside than on the inside where Parker Washington's playing. So I probably would go Juwan, but Parker Washington's safer than Juwan if you really need to lock in some points. That's how I would approach this one. All right. Let's get to this one really quick. Tracy or Marvin Harrison Jr. or Myers. I'm going Myers, I think, over Marv. First, Tracy is a tough call. I think I might go Tracy there for the floor and Myers for the ceiling. Appreciate everyone. Let me know their win probability here in this unique week 13. Yeah, 63% chance to win. I think I might just go Tracy there then. He already projects better. His floor is better. Yeah, I think that's reasonable. 40% chance to win. Jalen Warren, Harvey, Diggs, Olave, PPR. Yeah, this one's Harvey and Olave. I'm a tiny bit nervous about that back injury for Olave. If you want to play it safe, you probably go Warren. But yeah, I think it's Harvey and Olave. For both the ceiling and the floor. Man, maybe Warren has a higher ceiling than Olave, touchdown-wise. I could get behind that. Maybe it's these first two. I'm definitely starting Harvey here, though, for sure. All right, Samps is here. We're going to bring Samps on to the live. Pumped to have him join, get to some of these pretty difficult start sits, I'd say, here in week 13. Hear some of his takes as well. Sam, how are we doing on this wonderful Sunday morning, week 13, man. How are things?
Not too bad. This slate's a little grody. Not a super huge fan of it. The Sunday night game is a crime. That is awful. That's just. I feel like you really got to be a sicko to tune into all 60 minutes of that game. But I'm happy to be here. Had a good holiday. Hope you did the same. And did a little Black Friday, shopping for Christmas. And we're here now, so let's get it.
Likewise, yeah, I had a great Thanksgiving. So it's my personal favorite holiday of the year. It doesn't get better, man. You got family, you got football, you got food. I mean, what else really could you ask for? And I also had my single best betting day of the year on Thanksgiving. We absolutely smashed the props on the live on Thursday. I parlayed a couple of those alt lines that we talked through as well, and I hit a 50 for 2K alt line parlay with likely. It was likely Xavier Worthy on that miracle pass at the end of the game there. And then I think it was Dontavian Wicks, all of them over 50 yards, alt line 50 to over 2K there. So huge Thanksgiving for me with the props. Fantasy starts its today. Samps are tough. So I want to dive right into it. I mean, there's a lot of different guys being asked about really frequently. I'll just toss some of the names out there and then we'll get some of your takes. If any of these names are a part of your takes, I want to toss these out so you can prioritize those. We got Gainwell in a ton of start-sits today against the Bills. We did look at their matchup tab. They haven't allowed a lot of receiving to running backs, but they have been smashed by running backs just like consistently this season. One of the worst run defenses in the league. We got Maserati Marv. Some people calling him appendicitis Marv. He's back in the lineup today. Him versus Michael Wilson. Him versus a bunch of other guys. Michael Wilson is in a ton of start-sits again this week too. I'm very curious how you're playing that. Bucky Irving's back in the lineup today. You've seen a ton of Bucky Irving questions as well. I think those are some of the most common names. Kamani Vidal with no Hampton back. Hampton and Trey Benson not back here in week 13 like we kind of expected a few weeks ago. So a ton of Kamani Vidal questions. A lot of Rico Dowdle questions as well. I think we have him ranked too high. I've been saying to bench Dowdle over some of these guys immediately below him, but tough call for sure there. Devin Neal. He's thrust into a big role. He's been in a bunch of start-sits here as well. Brian Thomas Jr. is back. He's been in some of these start-sits as well. I think those are some of the most common names we've seen. Lots of work through there across all those names. But yeah, any of those names you got takes on, and then any other takes you want to share that you're really confident about here in week 13?
Yeah, I see someone in the chat writing Mitsubishi Marv, and I think that's hilarious. That's pretty funny. I feel like appendicitis Marv is unfair. That's just a bodily function. You can't control that. But I'm still pedal to the metal with Michael Wilson this week. Jonathan Gannon's normally kind of tough with like the coach speak, but he said like, you're going to give it to the players that are making plays, and Michael Wilson's making plays. I still like him. I see a lot of tough questions with him, like him or Justin Jefferson, whatever, stuff like that. Like, it's just like, I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, I like Michael Wilson a lot. You mentioned him before I hopped on, but Jacoby Brissett, I think he's a good stack with either one of these guys in DFS. Just got to get it right. It just feels like one of these weeks, Jacoby Brissett, don't you think he's not going to finish top 10? Don't you feel like it's going to happen? But it's like, it's just not happening. So I don't know. I love the Steelers' backfield this week. I think both. I mean, that's really with Rodgers' injury. I think they're going to rely on the run a lot, and I think Gainwell he's the PPR merchant above all. Like he will catch 6 passes for 30 yards, and your opponent will like it. Like he's going to be like, all right, well, there's nothing I can do about it. So yeah, I really like Kenneth Gainwell. I really like Jalen Warren. And you know how I feel about Devin Neal in the rookie process. I was a huge fan of Devin Neal. I don't think people realize he caught 5 passes last week. Devin Neal caught 5 passes. And now they're playing 7 targets. Now they're playing the Dolphins. I'm a little worried Taysom Hill vultures him on the goal line, but I think Devin Neal's in for a good game here.
Yeah, he's definitely startable. I'm excited about him too. He did have less carries than Taysom. Last week, 10 carries for Taysom, 7 for Neal. But Neal was out there 75% of the snaps after the Kamara injury. And like they don't have another running back to like realistically play. It's him and Estime, who was cut, by multiple teams, I think, at points this season. Evan Hull. Like there's just no reason to get these guys out on the field over Devin Neal. It's going to be Taysom and Neal, like in the backfield. Today, I do think Taysom's probably the goal line back. But yeah, the receiving stuff gives me some hope for Devin Neal. I think our projection here is reasonable for him as well. I'm excited to hear you're still in on Michael Wilson. I don't think you can possibly look at these game logs for Michael Wilson, I know that Marv was out and not start Michael Wilson here in week 13. This is the best matchup he's had in his last few weeks. I mean, this is a good matchup for the Cardinals passing attack. This is the best matchup, arguably, that Brissett has had. I know the 49ers defense is pretty banged up when they played them, but he has 25 catches for over 300 yards in his last 2 games, and he hasn't even scored. Samps, he's got over 50 fantasy points in his last 2 games without scoring. I mean, wild stuff from Michael Wilson. I think he scores today, honestly, too, for the first time. And there's the coach speak is one thing, but there's also just clearly a connection with Brissett and Michael Wilson that I don't think can be ignored too. So yeah, I do agree with that one. Another question, a guy we've been asked a lot about, Samps, is Michael Pittman Jr. In so many start sits, I've come around to just calling him like a must bench. We have him at wide receiver 14. I think that's way too high. I'm benching him in like every single start sit I feel like I've seen. He's playing against Stingley and the Texans, the number 1 defensive line in the league. They just sacked Josh Allen 8 times, and Daniel Jones is dealing with, they call it a fractured fibula. Is that what they determined the injury was? There was a Schefter report this morning. He can't move laterally against the Texans. I mean, I'm pretty nervous for Pittman to like be near 0 points today. I feel like that's what his floor is. I like Jacoby Myers too today against the Titans. I think his ceiling's really high. One of him or Brian Thomas Jr. I think is going over 20 today. So yeah, I would go Jacoby Myers over Pittman personally. Have Pitts, Taysom Hill, and DK on my bench 50%. So yeah, I would not risk it with Pittman here. I wouldn't play any of these tight ends, I don't think, over Myers either. But do you agree? Would you go Myers over Pittman? Are you as nervous about Pittman as I am?
Yeah, I would go Myers over Pittman. I like Jacoby Myers this week. I liked him last week as well. I kind of feel like the entire Colts offense is just going to be horrendous today. I don't really see a world where they put up a whole bunch of points against the Texans. And I don't know. It stinks. I mean, Jonathan Taylor's got a lot of people clinched into a playoff spot right now, and now a lot of people are kind of scared. It's like, oh, boy, I don't know. The Colts have a tough stretch, but then they have a few, like particularly for Tyler Warren in the fantasy playoffs, great schedule. And Tyler Warren is dealing with a stomach virus, and he's playing. Like, I feel like one hit to the stomach, he could throw up on the field. I don't know what's going to happen. So I think if Tyler Warren, you're still going to play him, but little concern there.
I like the Texans to win that game, Sam. So they're still 3-point underdogs. Stroud is back. I like the Stroud stuff today too. We have Stroud right now in the WalterPicks App as the best value play on DraftKings. He's only at $5K priced. Like, he's like almost near min priced against the Colts as an underdog. Like, not a weather game there. Like, there's some weather out there today too. So kind of an interesting, like, Stroud, Nico Schultz, or even Jaden Higgins stacks, I think are somewhat intriguing. It's hard for me to get off Josh Allen, honestly, on the main slate. I know you heard me saying that, I think, just before you hopped on, but like, just the gap between him and the next best QB on the slate is pretty wild. Let's jump to this one here. Another 3 guys I've seen a ton of starts is for Sutton, Bucky, or Aaron Jones. I'll hop over to the running back ranks on both lives. Sam, I'll let you go first on this one. I'm very curious about your thoughts on Bucky Irving specifically, and then you can maybe answer the start sit, because, man, he's got to be one of the toughest start sits of the season here today. Pretty good matchup. First game back. Really just weird circumstance, too, around how long it took him to come back off what seemingly initially wasn't a major injury. Then there was 2 injuries. Then there was some mental stuff being reported outside of the injury. Now he's back. Should be the starting running back to start the game. Maybe a touch count here. What are you doing with Bucky today? Do you have any expectation for him?
Well, to put it through the lens of this question, it's a little bit interesting because he says guillotine. So I would like to know where he ranks among the other teams before making this answer. But I kind of feel like, last year when we were talking about rookies, before the season even started, I'm tooting my own horn here. I said I like Bucky Irving. That's before the season even started. He turned into an absolute force. So I'm always going to love Bucky Irving. He's always going to have a soft spot in my heart. And with that being said, I think in that question specifically, I would go with Bucky Irving. I think it's a great matchup. The Cardinals are without Walter Nolan, who's their rookie defensive tackle who was dominating. He's out. Baker Mayfield's dealing with an injury. I think they're going to get Bucky Irving hitting the ground running here because they need to start winning some games. They can't be like, oh, let's be cautious. Like they're going to put him out there, I think. So I think he's an interesting DFS play too. I think a lot of people are concerned about him. And one of my favorite, it's kind of gross, but like because we're talking about DFS, so it's a little bit through the lens of DFS, but I think if you're feeling real risky, you're in a tough spot. I like Cam Ward this week. He did well against Seattle last week. He's making throws that aren't being seen because no one watches Titans games, But I'm actually excited for his future prospects. I also think a sleeper tight end this week is Gunnar Helm. I always talk about Gunnar Helm, but he saw a bunch of targets last week, and that was Witchig playing. I think he's going to see targets again this week. And then, I mean, Shamir DK, certainly intriguing. I saw a stat, he's on pace for the most all-purpose yards in a single season in NFL history of any player, if you include return yards.
God.
Yeah, he's on pace for like 2,800 or something insane.
I talked to someone the other week who's in a punt return yards league or kick return yards league, and he's like wide receiver 3 in that league. It's like JSN, Puka, and then DK in points per game in the kick return leagues. I mean, crazy stuff in those niche leagues there. Going back to this start sit quick, I think I agree. I would go Bucky. Aaron Jones is kind of interesting versus the Seahawks. He is kind of in a workhorse role now. I have no hope for Brosmer. We can maybe talk about that in a second too. Like, no hope. I really think he's worse than JJ McCarthy, and Seahawks fans are maybe have some false hope to see someone other than JJ McCarthy. Also, like, I'm very curious who's the backup quarterback for them today, because I don't think it's Wentz.
It's John Wolford.
My God. Yeah, he might honestly be better. I've at least heard that name before. But the receiving role for Aaron Jones is kind of intriguing. The Seahawks have allowed a lot of receiving production to running backs this season, and you got to expect a lot of dump offs from Brosmer. But yeah, I like Bucky. I think in this start sit as well. I think you gave me some confidence there too on Bucky. Let's get to this start sit quick. Hey, bro. And then I really want to talk about Cam Ward too, because I talked about him earlier as well. Full PPR start too. Myers, Pearsall, McLaurin, Wandale. Strange over Warren, with Warren being sick. Yeah, so I don't think you can start Pearsall or McLaurin, like in almost any league right now. McLaurin is just a complete must bench against the Broncos. And maybe I'm overthinking or underthinking this one a little bit, because we obviously know McLaurin has a ceiling. But it's his first game back. He hasn't played since week 8. Prior to that, he hadn't played since week 3. He's only played 4 games this whole season. Hasn't had a game over 15 points in any of those games. Now he's playing with Mariota against Pat Surtain is back this week against the Broncos secondary on prime time tonight. I don't think you can start McLaurin, especially like Wandale. He's a top 10 play this week. And then Jacoby Myers, I think his ceiling is really high too. We have Wandale Samps ahead of Justin Jefferson in the projections. And man, that just makes my stomach sick to say that out loud. I'm also, by the way, I know you mentioned some fear around Justin Jefferson. I feel like I have a similar rule in my mind that you do with Lamar. Like, I'm not benching him, man. Like, I cannot go into these must-win fantasy games and put Justin Jefferson on my bench in good conscience. I just can't do it. I know Brosmer. I have no faith in Brosmer, and I still feel like you can't bench Justin Jefferson. I want to bench Addison and Hawkinson, but yeah, I'm going Wandale and Myers here, and then Strange over Warren. Samps, would you consider this? The Warren questions have been tough for me because I'm not that scared about the illness. I'm more scared about the matchup. And I know Strange has been good. You were right about Strange last week. I was being a little too scared, I think, in his first game back. Strange is leading the Jaguars in receiving in the games that he's played in. He's their leading receiver in those games. I mean, pretty crazy. Brian Thomas Jr. is back this week, though. We have the projection pretty close. The illness, I don't think, is enough to move me off Tyler Warren, though.
Yeah, it's Tyler Warren, and you have a 30% chance to win. I think you got to go with Myers, Robinson, and then Tyler Warren. I think Warren's ceiling is just higher than Strange's is. Warren could be the only guy who could see like okay targets today, like genuinely. Strange
is also, he's been allergic to the end zone. No touchdowns this season for Strange. Just not really like a focal point for them in the red zone for whatever reason. So yeah, I think I'd still go with Warren there. Let's talk about Cam Ward for a second, and then we will get to some more comments here.
I will say real quick, got a message on the projections team that the projections are up to date. So maybe we should reopen the app here and
we'll refresh that. I'm definitely going Nico over Sutton. I do not think you can bench Nico right now. Let me just rapid fire through some of these. My flex, do I go Judkins or Michael Wilson? I'm going Michael Wilson over Judkins. Tet, Franklin, Harvey at flex, half PPR. Harvey definitely over Tet and Franklin for me, especially in half PPR. Tet's close in a PPR. Warren, Waller, or Parkinson? Yeah, it's got to be Warren. A lot of people panic, Samps, out there about Tyler Warren for sure. Brissett or Herbert? Yeah, it's Brissett. Marv, Wilson? Yeah, just play the 2 Cardinals receivers. I think it's a really high floor, high ceiling stack, honestly. The 2 Cardinals receivers, I think, is a pretty sharp move. Okay. Let's just pull up Cam Ward here for a second. I'll pull up the QB ranks again, because I don't think anyone like really realizes, since this team's kind of irrelevant and Cam Ward's having a horrible season. I actually called the Cam Ward best game of the season. I think that was week 8 maybe against the Colts. And he did have his best game, but he only had 13.8 points. So I wasn't too excited about that. But his actual best career game, like a legit game here from Cam Ward for fantasy at least. He had 24 points last week. QB4 on the week, went for 256 and a touchdown, also ran for a touchdown. After the game, the coach says, yeah, this is the next progression for Cam Ward. We want him running more. We expect him to run more moving forward. That is exactly what I want to hear for fantasy purposes. So, that has me gives me some confidence. Now he gets the Jags, one of the best matchups for quarterbacks, unless you're Justin Herbert this season. So that's kind of exciting too. I do think Cam Ward's kind of a sneaky DFS play. I think he's priced like about the same though as CJ Stroud. So I think I still probably would go Stroud, at least on DK, but the rushing is definitely pretty exciting, I think, for fantasy. I don't think it's super relevant for most people in most leagues, but I agree with you on the Cam Ward stuff. I'd Gunnar Helm as a sleeper too. Does sound like Chig is going to go today, but I think Helm is just sort of like taking over as the lead tight end.
I was a little early on that. Early in the year, I kind of said I thought he was better, and I was a little early on it. I think we're finally come to the point where that's the case, and I'm excited for that.
Are you as in on RJ Harvey as I am, Sams? Because I'm like really in on Harvey. Actually, let me pull up the free player props here. I would go Harvey, I think, over Olave. Olave's back injury has me like a tiny bit nervous, which is enough, I think, for me to kind of confidently say Harvey. I just don't want to bench Harvey this week. So I have 5 free player props today, Sams, but only 3 players. So Harvey over rushing yards, Harvey to score. Juwan Johnson receptions, Juwan Johnson receiving yards, and then John Mechie over 3.5 catches. Those are the 5 free player props. I think the Commanders might be the worst run defense in the NFL right now. And there's some bad run defenses out there. I know the Giants have been rough. I know there's been several defenses that have like really, really struggled. The Commanders, though, Sams, they've allowed, I think, around 60 or 70 fantasy points in the last 2 games, like combined. They've allowed over 300 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground in their last couple of games, just 2 games. All of these running backs, granted, they played some good running backs. Gibbs, David Montgomery, Achane, and Ollie Gordon, all over 4.5 yards per carry in their last 2 games. They've got a ton of injuries on defense. They're big underdogs in this game. I know you said this is a stinky Sunday night game. I'm like very excited just because of this RJ Harvey stuff for this game. And I think RJ Harvey's role in his last game is getting a little underrated because he didn't do much, only 8 points, only 30 rushing yards, but he played 61% of the snaps, got 52% of the carries and had 3 targets. He's the clear lead back on this offense right now coming out of the bye. I think they really get him going. And we haven't seen the explosive RJ Harvey play. Like he scored touchdowns this season. He's been a pretty good touchdown scorer. But we haven't really seen the explosive play from him. And I think we start to see him here against the Commanders. So I'm really in on Harvey. Are you in on him too? Do you like him over Olave, or what do you think about that?
Yeah, I just don't see the scenario where RJ Harvey doesn't smash this week. I don't know what game script happens where he doesn't just absolutely have a great game. I love RJ Harvey. I don't really think there's much else to say that you didn't just cover.
I think we have you said to refresh the projections here. Let me refresh, see if anything's moved around here, but I would play Harvey over Dowdle this week. I think we had Dowdle like a little too high before. We'll see if any movement here in the projections changes that, but Dowdle gets the Rams. Yeah, it looks like we moved him down maybe slightly. But yeah, I think I'd play all of these guys, Brees, Genty, Vidal, Harvey, and Kenneth, and maybe ETN over Dowdle. Like I think Dowdle should be like in this range. I definitely would play Dowdle over Aaron Jones, and Jalen Warren's honestly close too. It's tough because they're splitting that backfield, but Dowdle hasn't really looked like Barry Sanders in quite some time. I mean, he had 28 points in week 9 against the Packers, but if you just look at his last 6 games, he's only had 1 game over 16 points. And he's coming off his lowest snap percentage in that span, 65% of the snaps, lowest rush share. He only had 6 carries last game. The game kind of got away from the Panthers. I mean, I can't believe I was excited for that game, Sam. So I'm so done with Bryce Young. I can't believe I talked myself back in after 1 good game. I'm better than that, man. But yeah, Rico Dowdle, I'm honestly a little nervous about against the Rams. Do you agree with that, or would you start Dowdle over some of these guys?
I have 2 kind of takes on some of these upper echelon running backs. I definitely am out on Rico Dowdle this week. There's just no reason to be excited, especially with the usage he got last week. It didn't make any sense. It was just like malpractice. I don't understand why they used him the way they did. And also, this might be if there was ever a take that's going to be wrong, if I'm on the wrong side of it, it's this one. I kind of am. You have to play him, obviously. I'm a little worried about CMC this week. I really am, because the snow, the good run defense, and I don't think the pass catching. I mean, maybe, but like it's going to be gross. Assuming the weather is what I saw yesterday, nothing's changed. He's gonna. I mean, you got to play him, but like I don't think 25 to 30 is in the question. I really don't.
Yeah, the weather has not changed. It's going to be snowing the whole game. The snow is going to be worse at the beginning of the game, but it will snow the whole game. And there's 30 to 35 mile an hour wind gusts throughout the game. I mean, this is not a good weather report here in that 49ers game. The rest of the games, I actually think there's some like fear mongering going on weather-wise. I'm not that worried about the rest of these games. There's a bunch of like potential rain across the league today in some of these other games. Jets, Falcons, I think is the most notable game with some projected rain. The rain does not scare me at all. I really am not worried about the rain. It's when the rain is combined with the wind, or the snow is combined with the wind, that I really get nervous. But yeah, I mentioned earlier too, I hate to put this out there, but like I just have flashbacks to the last McCaffrey game of last season in the snow. And he was actually playing really well in that game, but did end up going down with an injury. Just kind of slipped like on the snow. I'm a little scared to watch him in the snow, but yeah, I'm still starting McCaffrey, obviously, but definitely reasonable. I think across the board, like everyone on this team, on both teams, it should be a pretty low scoring, ugly game.
Yeah.
Woody Marks versus Devin Neal, two rookie running backs here. Neal getting his first start of the season, competing with Taysom Hill for work here in the backfield. Here we are in week 13, man. This is a close call. I think I probably would go Devin Neal though over Woody Marks.
Yeah, I think there's some interest. If it's PPR, like you could say Woody Marks, but Devin Neal just caught 5 passes. And honestly, Kellen Moore is not a dummy. I think Kellen Moore is actually one of the better offensive minds in the league. And he sees every time Taysom Hill touches the ball, it's like 1 yard gain, loss, 1 yard gain, loss. Like you'd have to think, give Devin Neal some run, man. Maybe I'm being biased. I love Devin Neal, but I'd go Devin Neal over Woody Marks personally.
Yeah, I think we're both in agreement there. Thanks for the gift in the TikTok live. Appreciate the super chats too today on the YouTube live, testing out this new super chat feature. Sam's has been
lots of super chats. I'm loving this.
Yeah, it's been great. We will try to get to a ton of comments here. We'll prioritize the super chats, but we'll try to get to a ton. Of course, as always, need a flex and running back. Full PPR, T-Mac, Wilson, Judkins, Neal, and K9. 57% chance to win. Appreciate you guys tossing the win probability here in the chat on this unique week 13 where we've already had 4 games. Tons of fantasy players have already played. Does, I think, impacts make some of these decisions more clear, Sam's. And I think you need a flex and a running back. Man, Tet McMillan versus Michael Wilson. I think you do have to go Tet over Michael Wilson. I think that's like right where the line is for me. It's like Devontae, then we have Tet. I think it's either Michael Wilson just above Tet and right behind Devontae, or just behind Tet, right ahead of Olave and McConkey in those types. For me, with Michael Wilson, I have Buka, I think, right up there too. This week, I'm very high on him as well. I would actually play Buka over Michael Wilson this week, but yeah, T-Mac versus Wilson's close. And then if you don't, then you need to play one of these running backs. Yeah, I think it's probably Kenneth Walker here over Devin Neal and over Judkins. What would you do with these two receivers, Sam? I think it's a super close one.
Yeah, I think I disagree on the T-Mac over Wilson. I think I'd go with Michael Wilson. I cannot trust Bryce Young to do anything productive against the Rams. They are 6-5, yet they're 10-point home underdogs against the Rams. We're not like, if you have to pick one of those two, which this person doesn't, but I'm not going to go with Tet. Now, the dog in their profile picture looks like an absolute beast. So I think I'm going to say K9's probably who I would choose. It's kind of apropos. Little dog picture, go with K9 here. I like all those running backs, honestly. I think Judkins has a great chance of like scoring in this game. Snow, goal line. The Niners defense doesn't scare anybody. They don't want Shedeur. Do you think they want Shedeur Sanders airing it out in the snow? I don't think so. I don't think that's what they want at all.
No, I think that I'm pretty conflicted on Judkins because he's not going to get any receiving work in this game. And like both teams, I think, are just going to completely sell out, stop the run in this game too. Neal or Marks? I think we just said Neal over Marks in the previous starts. It. Alvin, morning, Sam. Morning to you as well, Alvin, long-time listener of the Sunday Morning Live. Appreciate you, man. Zay Flowers and Loop Hurtley started 68% now, 50-50 to win. Yeah, I had Loop in the league too. This was Zay Flowers' worst game of the season too, Sam. So I'm so.
But before we address this question, I want to make. You mentioned my rule about Lamar earlier. I want to make a statement about that. A little referendum. I stand by that But I will say the current Lamar Jackson on the field is not the Lamar Jackson I'm referring to when I make that rule. This watered down, hurt, messed up Lamar Jackson is not who I'm referring to when I say you can't bench Lamar Jackson. Now, next week we have an interesting question with him. He's just been flat out bad. He's been flat out bad. There's no other way to describe it. He's one of my favorite players I've ever seen, but he's been flat out bad. And I think he can turn it around.
Back-to-back games, Sam's, I expected him to turn it around. I don't know if I can keep expecting it. I mean, he's two good matchups too, but yeah, he's in 3 straight games or 8 points. I mean, no way we've seen a stretch like this in his career. He's not running. He's not throwing accurately. It's really rough.
He's removing teams from the playoffs. He missed time, and then he came back, and he's been bad except for 1 game since coming back. It's just like he's hurting people. Sorry, let's get back to this question from Alvin here.
He has Ibuka. He's considering Baker for the stack. It's a 50-50 matchup. So, like, I would only force the stack if I was like 40% or lower, because I do think the stack is worth considering if you need a big ceiling. But yeah, you can't bench Stafford right now. Stafford is the shoe-in favorite for the MVP. I mentioned this multiple weeks ago, and now it's reality. He's like a distant favorite to win MVP, and it's because of the touchdowns. And like they're just going to keep throwing Sam's inside the 5. They're going to get Stafford this MVP. He's going to get 2 or 3 touchdowns like every single game the rest of the season. I like Baker this week too, but yeah, I'm not benching Stafford, I don't think, in this spot, and then still have Brock and RJ. Yeah, I think you're in a good spot, man. I would still play Stafford, and I think Ibuka's in for a really big game today, Sam. So I have Ibuka in my DFS lineup stacked with Brissett and Michael Wilson. I'll pull that DFS lineup up in a second. We've only seen 1 game, Sams. Let me pull this comment down so you guys can see the game logs. We've only seen 1 game over, was this 10 points? Since week 5 for Ibuka. I mean, he started the season so hot. 1 game over 10 since week 5. I think we see him have another big game here today. The usage has actually not been bad. Like, the usage is good. He's been over 25% target share in 4 straight games. If he keeps seeing this type of targets, this type of volume, I do think we're going to see some more big Ibuka games here down the stretch. I don't hate this schedule. Cardinals, Saints, Falcons too over the next 3. Like, I think we're going to see some big Ibuka games here. I think starting this week against the Arizona Cardinals. I don't think the Cardinals offense is going to be slowed down by the Bucs either. So I do like Ibuka like a decent amount today. This is the DK lineup, Sam, so I'm rocking with. I'm going with the Brissett, Michael Wilson stack and the Ibuka bring back, like I just said. I'm getting Achane and Kenneth in there. I really like Juwan Johnson today, like you saw from the props. I think he could be in for a really big day against a Dolphins defense that struggled versus tight ends. I'm going with Darnell. The 2 guys I feel the worst about here is Darnell Mooney and Kenneth Gainwell. Looking at the Steelers stuff, like I actually think Jalen Warren's in for a better spot than Gainwell. Like, so much of Gainwell's production has come through the air, like you mentioned, but the Bills have actually been pretty good at stopping receiving against the running backs. They're 7th fewest allowed receptions, 3rd fewest receiving yards per game allowed to running backs, and they're bottom 3 against all the rushing categories. We have seen multiple 6-catch games, 1 from Bijan, 1 from Achane. You know, Gainwell's like certainly not on that level. Achane actually had two 6-catch games here against the Bills. He had 7 and 6. We saw 13 catches from Gainwell's last couple of games. I don't think he's going to hit that 6-catch mark here against the Bills, but he could get it done on the ground, maybe score a rushing touchdown. But they're splitting the work too, so I might try to get Warren into this lineup. He's a lot more expensive, but yeah. Any other thoughts on this DFS lineup? I do like the Kenneth Seahawks stack, the Kenneth Walker Seahawks defense stack. The Seahawks are really expensive, so I don't think their ownership will be too high. And I think this is an interesting slate where you could get lineups with them in there. I also do kind of want to make a lineup with Josh Allen with how big the gap is from him, I think, to everyone else on the slate today. But yeah, any other DFS thoughts you have on this lineup or anything else?
Yeah, well, Kenneth Gainwell should have had 2 rushing touchdowns last week. I don't want people to forget about that. He had that 60-yard rush where he got tackled on the inch-yard line, and then he had another rushing touchdown where they called it back for a flag, and they didn't score. When he got tackled on the one, they handed it to Jalen Warren for a touchdown. It was total garbage if you're a Kenneth Gainwell fan. So I'm not super concerned about it. I really do believe with Aaron Rodgers' injury, they're going to run the ball a lot in this game. And I think it's not super pertinent to what you just said about your lineup, but I think AJ Barner is going to score a touchdown today against the Vikings. I have just a strong feeling about that. The Vikings are weak against tight ends. Barner's been a good red zone threat. Darnold's going to air the ball out in this game, I feel. And in that same game, I disagree that Brosmer is worse than JJ McCarthy. I don't think that's possible. I really genuinely, I know all the kidding aside, 9 stinks, whatever, but like everything I've seen is I've done a lot of research about Max Brosmer. I haven't won my dynasty team, so I wanted to dive into the weeds and see what I'm getting into here. The big thing about him is that he's prepared. He knows he knows football well. Like in JJ McCarthy doesn't seem to have the same trait. So I do think we see Justin Jefferson's best game in the last month, which isn't saying a lot because it's been like 11 points or whatever. But I think O'Connell's going to say, hey, Brosmer, get the ball to Jefferson. Here's what the concept's going to be. I think he's going to be composed. And our colleague Seth always says they don't have the rookie film on Max Brosmer. And I don't know exactly what he brings to the table, but it's true. They struggled against a rookie with not a lot of film on last week, Cam Ward. So, I mean, you never know. I mean, you're not playing Max Brosmer or anything, but he cannot be worse than JJ McCarthy. It's simply not possible.
The only counterpoint I have, I did mention Seth's take there because it certainly applies here to Brosmer. I'm not sure if it matters here for Max Brosmer. So let me just the 2 counterpoints I have.
Yeah.
I mean, he was not. My fears. This is like a, dare I say, like a little bit of a charity case here for the Vikings. So Brosmer he played at Minnesota.
He did.
He went undrafted because he wasn't good in college. His yards per attempt in college was in the 14th percentile. That means 86% of quarterbacks had a better yards per attempt in the past like 20 plus years than Brosmer in college. And his quarterback rating was also in the 20th percentile. So 80% of college quarterbacks, these are, not just the drafted college quarterbacks, just all college quarterbacks in the last like 20 years had a better quarterback rating than Brosmer. He has no good physical traits. He went undrafted and they were like, oh, he went to Minnesota. He can be our third QB. That's like a fun story. And now suddenly McCarthy was so bad. Wentz gets hurt. They were trying to play a hurt Wentz over McCarthy. That's how bad he's been. I know he's been so bad. Like, I don't disagree with the decision to see what we have here in Brosmer. I just don't think he's good. Like, I do not think he is an NFL quarterback. Maybe he's more prepared. He's got the mental stuff, between the ear stuff better than McCarthy. And this is a really good quarterback-friendly environment. So, I mean, like, this is maybe the best-case scenario for someone like Brosmer to get a chance with the weapons they have. But, yeah, I'm still starting Jefferson, too. I'm in with you that maybe we see Jefferson's best game, but I think it can always be worse. I think it almost always can be worse in the NFL, and we might see it be worse. All right, let's get to the start sit here. What's up, gents? 28% chance to win. I read this one in advance, and like I think if you're a 28% chance to win, like I don't hate Taysom, Sam's in these like long shot matchups. I mean, if you're just telling me to play it safe, you're definitely going Schultz or Strange. I mean, Schultz or Strange have a way better chance at 10 points, I think, than Taysom. I would argue Taysom's got the best chance here at like multiple rushing touchdowns, like a big rushing day. Versus the Dolphins, he had 10 carries last week. He's got 17 carries in his last 2 games, and this is the best matchup of the season for Taysom in that role. And the Dolphins really might be a really good matchup for Taysom with how bad they've been at stopping the run this season. I don't think it's crazy to go Taysom Hill if you're down bad this much. We have Schultz ranked really high, Sam's. His target share has been really consistent. The matchup is good for Schultz. Right now, we have him ranked ahead of Tyler Warren, which I don't agree with. We have him ranked ahead of Kyle Pitts, which I don't think I would agree with. Ahead of Kincaid and Strange and Juwan Johnson, which I think is like more so the tier he's in. But he's been like in a really good role. He's got the 7th most catches. He's got the 5th most targets among all tight ends per game. Like he's going to be seeing 5, 6, 7 targets in this game, and they're going to be losing against the Colts. Most likely. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm going Taysom, though. Yeah, I think I'm going Taysom here if I'm down this big.
Yeah, I think if you're 28% chance to win, I don't know. I kind of feel like there is a scenario where the Colts do score and the Texans need to throw a lot. I do see that scenario. I will say a lot of Schultz's main production this season came with General Mills. So, I don't know. I think Taysom Hill is interesting. I actually have a question about Taysom Hill myself because I have him in our 32-person league, and I'm really sitting here trying to figure out whether I should play him or Isaiah Hodgins tomorrow night.
It's definitely Taysom. It's got to be Taysom.
You think so?
I think so. I know you're high on Hodgins.
Yeah.
I do think Dart's back kind of throws a wrench into Hodgins like a little bit. His snap percentage did go down week over week 2 with Slayton's first game back. I feel like that trend could continue. I still think he's better than Slayton. I do think there's something
agree.
there. Coaching staff likes him better, but yeah, I don't think the ceilings are comparable there. I don't know what the matchup looks like for you in the 32, but
I'm projected to win by like I think 15 or so at this point, which is rare for me. The trade I made last week's kind of helping me out here. So, I mean, I kind of think I should go Taysom. I got Booty tomorrow night, so I can kind of like not have two guys.
I'd personally go Taysom, but I feel like every single start sit I've given you for that league on this live has been wrong so far.
Yeah, it's your inside job. You're trying to stir me wrong.
It's a really tough one here, Samps, because I do want to start Michael Wilson. I really want to start Ibuka today though too, and then Waddle. Like I just don't feel like
it's so tough.
He has Brissett too. He didn't say what the win probability is. I assume it's pretty good though, just based on the players he's sharing here. I think I probably would bench Michael Wilson. This one, I don't think Diggs is even in contention in this start sit here across these 4 players. I just took him out, but yeah, I think I'd probably go with Buka and Waddle over Michael Wilson. Yeah, I think that's how I'd play it. Would you force Michael Wilson in over either of these guys, and which one?
It's very tough. I would consider him over Emeka with Baker's injury. I don't love it. I do kind of feel like Diggs could disappoint this week. If the Giants decide that Flott maybe is a good shadow corner, they put him on Diggs. Maybe Diggs has a bad game, which is kind of one of the reasons maybe Booty has a good game. Yeah. I don't know. And then they might just put him on Booty and have him do it with JMO. Similar skill sets. I could see that. So yeah, I feel like no, you shouldn't force. But like, I don't know if the Bucs get a lead and Jacoby's slinging it. Like, I don't know. I mean, that's a really tough one. That guy's team's really good. That's a tough one.
Yeah, it is reasonable. The AC joint sprain for Baker is a little bit scary. There definitely is a chance they succeed on the ground too. Maybe you can't. I think if you're projected to lose, I'm okay going Mike Wilson over Buka there since you have Brissett too. But otherwise, I think I'd probably go Buka. Waddle. Running back 1 is Brees. Running back 2, Gainwell, Judkins, Vidal. 45% chance win probability. Yeah, these Vidal question, Samps, are really, really tough for me this week. He's been so boom bust. And like this should be a really good spot for him. He's the clear lead back against the Raiders. Noah Hampton again. But we've seen like multiple games under 5 points in this like sort of same situation. And you got Judkins in the snow and the wind, but should see 20 carries like around. Good chance at a touchdown. Then you got Gainwell, who's just getting so many catches in a pretty good matchup for him too. But Vidal projects like so far ahead of these guys. Like I really do think it's Vidal, and then it's between Judkins and Gainwell. And if it's a PPR league, which it is, he needs the ceiling too. I think you probably go Gainwell and Vidal and you bench Judkins. I think that's probably how I would do it. Judkins, like the over-under for him catches-wise today should probably be half a catch. I think he has 0 catches in his last 2 games. And plus the snow, like maybe they get some short stuff going, but it's going to be Sampson and Ford in that role in Fannin. Yeah, he's 0 catches in his last 2 games, 1 target in his last 2 for Judkins. Like he's in the Nick Chubb role. He is Nick Chubb 2.0, Samps.
Yeah, it's a compliment. It's honestly a compliment. It's just like not great.
Not ideal when the offense isn't good. Just kind of too. So yeah, I think I'd probably bench him. I think these other guys have higher PPR ceilings. Yeah,
for sure, no doubt about it.
Any other takes you got, Sam, before we jump to some more of these start sits?
Yeah, I don't love John Mechie this week. I saw him in some of your prop picks. I'm just a little skeptical. Don't love the matchup. I heard a stat which is so funny to me about that game is that Kirk Cousins and Tyrod Taylor matched up against each other in 2011 in a head-to-head matchup. They both finished as top 5 fantasy quarterbacks in that game.
Wow.
So don't think that's going to happen today. Let's make that clear.
The expectation's a lot different today for sure. I mean, what you don't like the matchup for Mechie? I think AD Mitchell is going to get the tougher matchup than John Mechie, who's been moving a little bit more in the slot. It feels like they want AD Mitchell to be like their alpha wide receiver 1. He just like sort of isn't. I think he does have a ceiling today too. There is going to be some rain in this game, which I don't love, but I mean, Mechie is clearly have some type of connection with Terod. 6 catches, 65 and a touchdown last week. Much better matchup to be fair, but yeah.
For me, it's just I think the Jets are going to run the ball a lot. I've been really impressed with the Falcons D line. I think that they've actually been a sneakily good unit. A lot of people are giving them crap for giving their first round pick to the Rams this year, but with that first round pick they drafted a defensive lineman who's like probably going to be a beast for the years to come. So like they're not going to get credit like for that because it's like they thought they were going to be better than they were or whatever. But I think it's more if they're going to run the ball with Brees, run funnel defense, and you're really going to need Mechie to score a touchdown, which he has the last 2 weeks, but I just don't love it happening 3 times in a row.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be this like elite touchdown scorer. I mean, I think like 4 catches, 40 yards is like a realistic stat line. No touchdown for him today. I do think, like, to me, I think Tyrod Taylor I don't think people are realizing just how big of a change in this passing attack. Like, they can complete passes now. Like they can complete passes. Like, that's the baseline that they didn't have before. It's not like he's good, but like he can complete 20 passes in a game. So like there's receptions to go around suddenly, I think, for the Jets, like very, very sneakily. I do think that the Falcons win that game too. Christian Watson, did you write with Christian Watson? Yeah, I was in on Christian Watson on Thanksgiving. I called out Christian Watson and Wicks on the Thanksgiving Live.
Wow.
Lions play a lot of man coverage, and these are the 2 guys that dominate man coverage for the Packers this season. That definitely worked out quite well. And yeah, it's got to be Aaron Jones over Mondre. I think it's like a good matchup for the Pats running backs. I get it, but Henderson was so far ahead of Mondre last week. I do expect that to get closer this week, since Henderson didn't do a lot with the carries he did have. But I still think all the receiving work goes to Henderson. I know you're very scared about I'm scared about Brosper too, but it's the receiving role for Aaron Jones that makes me confidently say Aaron Jones here. When you look at these stats for the Seahawks, I mean, what else is the plan other than dump off to Aaron Jones and just funnel targets to Justin Jefferson today? Seahawks are allowing the second most catches, the third most yards per game to running backs, like 8 catches to the Titans running backs last week for 42 yards. I mean, I think there's like a 5-catch game here for Aaron Jones in the cards. That's kind of why I lean that way. But yeah, I know you don't have any faith in the Giants' run defense. And
Well, nor should I. I mean, they have a new defensive coordinator who might change things up a little bit, but I think Ramondre's got goal line opportunities in this game. Yeah. And my thing, I was just more so surprised by how quickly you made the decision, because you were saying Brosmer might be worse than McCarthy, and then taking his running back against Seattle. I'm kind of like, oh, I don't know. I don't necessarily know if I agree. But it's like the workload is going to be more for Aaron Jones, obviously. But is that workload going to be good on the road? Max Brosmer? I don't know. We'll see.
I think I'm going Aaron Jones still there, but yeah, I am conflicting myself a little bit there with Brosmer. I mean, even with JJ McCarthy, though, Aaron Jones was scoring. Like, I think he can, like, scoring points. I mean, I think he was doing over 10 points the last few weeks. Let me pull these game logs up again. Maybe under 10 last week, but yeah, he's been like 8.7 was his low over the last month. Like, he's got a floor here with the role that he has in the Vikings system. Start Flowers. I need big points. Feel the Rams will have Bryce under too much pressure to get Tet the ball enough. 30% chance to win Tet or Franklin. Oh, God. I still think you got to go with Tet. I get the Bryce concern, though, for sure. I mean, Tet still scored last week. He still didn't really do much because he only had 2 catches in that game. Like, really wasn't on the same page. Franklin has been the leading target earner for the Broncos over the last month. I mean, he's getting more targets, like, consistently than Courtland Sutton. I still like Sutton a little bit more.
My thing, I feel like if you say you only like Sutton a little bit more than Troy Franklin, I think the answer is Troy Franklin over Tet, though. If that's the case, it's such a good matchup. The targets. Bryce Young couldn't get it done against an objectively bad pass defense last week. Yeah. And now he's going against the Rams, who are literally, it's not even close, Super Bowl favorites, mowing through everybody. Like, that person asked about starting Stafford earlier. I was going to say, Matt Stafford in his last 9 games, 25 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He's playing like a robot. Like, he's just in another world. You play Matt Stafford this week with tons of confidence. So I would go Tet here. I think I'd go Tet. Or not Tet, Troy. I'm not going Tet. I'm going with Troy. Their names are similar in my head. But it's just like, do you think Tet scores a touchdown? I don't. And if he's not scoring a touchdown, then what is he gonna? Is 8 for 60? Like,
yeah,
8 for 60, 6 for 80? Like, I don't know.
I'd be okay going Franklin. I think Sam's talked me out to Tet there a little bit as well. I've seen a lot of questions about the Bills receivers on TikTok. I like Shakir the most, and Kincaid, assuming he plays, I think is wide receiver 2.
Yeah, is he playing? Let me see. I didn't get anything about him.
Yeah, we should have gotten that report now at this point of the Sunday Morning Live. Steelers will use a lot of pistol shotgun formations. I've seen that report here. Chris Olave's in. Tyler Warren's active. I don't see.
Last night, yesterday, the Bills did elevate another tight end from the practice squad to their roster. Not a good sign, I feel.
Keon Coleman and Brandon Cooks both expected to be active.
Yeah.
Today too. Maybe that points to. Did they not play at 1 o'clock? We didn't get the official injury report. I don't think for them. They must not play at 1. Yeah, they play at the late window. That's very, very annoying. It sounds like too what you just said. We can't be trusting Kincaid.
Well, yeah, in first game back too, I wouldn't feel lovely. I will say the entire Bills team offense is better when Kincaid plays. There's like a crazy record stat about, I don't know what the numbers are, but they need him back.
Yeah, he's been really efficient on a per route basis. Marvin Harrison Jr. versus Devin Neal. To me, This is a floor ceiling thing here. I know some people were asking Marv questions in TikTok live too. I saw a lot of Marvin Harrison Jr. questions today, understandably, because he was actually doing well, Sams, before the injury too. That I feel like it's almost like people have forgot now, but he was like kind of breaking out like a little bit, not as much as Mike Wilson has in the last 2. Like suddenly he's not maybe the number 1 receiver on his own team, but he was back-to-back games over 14 points, scored a touchdown. I mean, that game against the Cowboys, he really balled out in that spot. Good matchup against the Bucs. Good game environment here versus the Bucs. This is half PPR too, which I think leans more towards Devin Neal than Marv as well. Maybe Marv has better touchdown potential with Taysom maybe sealing the goal line work too. I could see an argument there, but I think I'd lean Devin Neal here over Marv.
I agree. Jonathan Gannon had a weird quote about Marvin Harrison. He said they need his presence. And to me, the verbiage was kind of weird. It's like, you don't need him, you need his presence. So does that mean decoy sort of stuff? He's competing with McBride. He's competing with Michael Wilson. He's competing with Greg Dortch, who's actually been playing really well. I don't know. I think I'd go with Neal, more locked in workload first game back.
Warren, Gainwell, Judkins, or Dowdle. Pick one here. I'm going Warren, Sams, over Gainwell.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. That's the answer.
It's Warren. Oh, God. He doesn't project the best, I don't think, in the app right now. I think I don't feel good about this Dowdle.
You can't play. Not saying you can't play Rico Dowdle in general, but in this circumstance, you cannot go with Rico Dowdle. I don't see it. It's
got to be Warren over Dowdle. Dowdle over Judkins, I think, is reasonable. Longtime WalterPicks fan and sub. Appreciate you, Suyal. Yeah, guys, thanks. Everyone who's tuned in right now, make sure, if you haven't yet, you check out the WalterPicks app, especially if you don't get to your start sit comment. Samson and I have been grinding for the past 5 years, helping build this app. We can't get to every start sit. We're going to try to do our best, but we can't. And we appreciate everyone who's subscribed to the app. It's the best way you can support us. We have a one-time-a-year sale that's going on right now. It's the only sale we do all year in the WalterPicks app going on right now that ends Monday. So you can get the premium features for an unreal price right now as well if you haven't checked those out. We'll help you crush fantasy down the stretch here, but also player props all year. We're adding more and more sports every single month to the betting side of the app. All right, projected to win by a lot. Sit 1, Nico, Ibuka, Jay Jettas, Wandell. Oh, God, Samps, I know what you're going to say. I feel like to this one, maybe it's like Ibuka with the Baker injury. I feel like you've talked me out of him like a little bit, but you're not benching Nico or Wandell. Like you can't bench either of those guys. I really don't want to bench Justin Jefferson still either. So yeah,
sounds to me like you believe in Max Brosmer. I'm just kidding. But yeah, I think it does boil down to Ibuka and Justin Jefferson. And I wouldn't blame you for going to Ibuka if you like the matchup more. You said you're projected to win by a lot. I wouldn't be too worried about it. I would just honestly default to Walter's rankings, and I would go from there maybe.
Yeah. I'd be okay going Jefferson, I think, over Ibuka. I don't want to bench. I just feel like if you're at this point in the season in these must-win games too, like I can't stomach watching Jefferson go off on my bench. Like that's just similar thing with Brian Thomas Jr. I know that's an easier bench this week, but like you got tough starts with like Brian Thomas Jr. versus Cortland Sutton, and you're in a must-win game. Like which of those guys is going to be more painful to watch go off on your bench? You spent your first or second round pick on Brian Thomas Jr. He's in a great matchup versus the Titans. It's his first game back, like a little risky. I would go Brian Thomas Jr. there, I think, still over Sutton. All right, we got a Sutton question here. Sutton, Diggs, McConkey, pick 2, projected to lose here. Oh, God. Sutton.
You're going McConkey for sure, I think. That one's no doubt.
I agree. Yeah, Sutton versus Diggs is close. We have Diggs projected pretty high. Certainly, depending on who matches up against him, like he could really fall out versus the Giants. And I do think Diggs is like a difficult player to shadow because he's only playing like half or 60% of snaps, and they do move him around the formation like a lot. He plays a lot in the slot as well. And if the Pats are throwing in this game, like I don't really think the Giants are stopping Diggs, but Sutton has a really good matchup too tonight. And I did say I like him a little bit more than Franklin.
Well, yeah, like I said before, I think it's worth noting the Giants' defensive coordinator was fired. So they have a different guy calling the plays this week who, from what I've been reading, completely different mentality. He's more aggressive. He's going to do some more, Wink Martindale-esque stuff where he's blitzing a lot, stuff like that. But then again, I'm pretty sure Drake May's awesome against the blitz, so I don't know if that's a good idea. But I think it's really close. I think I worry more about the Broncos blowing out the Commanders than honestly I do the Patriots blowing out the Giants. I kind of feel like Dart is going to be one of those guys that comes alive in primetime games, and they're competitive every week. They're fighting in every single game. So I think I go Diggs. It's very, very tough though.
Yeah, I think I lean Diggs here as well. Agrees with our projections in the app. Also, and yes, Sam's, I think the Giants win. I think the Giants upset the Pats on Monday night. They're 7-point underdogs. I'm like pretty surprised by that. I have no faith in the Giants. I don't think the defensive coordinator is really the problem for the Giants.
Yeah, it's a little bit of both.
I'm not convinced that some defensive coordinator will like solve the Giants' defensive problems with all the injuries that they have in the secondary. But yeah, the Giants have been in only close games. And the Pats are without their entire left side of the offensive line. Like
that's bad. Yeah, Brian Burns could have like 3 sacks. Like that's not good.
Yeah, so I do think that like this game will be closer than that 7-point spread. I do think that the Pats probably succeed offensively still, but yeah, the offensive line stuff I think is scary. I was surprised at the 7-point spread. I mean, the Giants should have beaten both the Packers and the Lions in the last 2 games. I mean,
should have beat the Broncos.
I think they were over 80% win probability in the fourth quarter in both of those games.
That's happened several times this year. So it's a trend.
Yeah. Pick a running back here. Marks, Tootin, Knight, and Flex. Parker, okay, let's do the running backs here first. I think it's Marks. I like Tootin as a sleeper. This week I got him on my sleeper list. This week I was kind of in on him last week too, though. So I feel like I'm obliged to lead with that because he was a dud last week, under 2 points for him last week. I think the Jaguars have a bit of a hot hand approach with him, where if he's playing really well early in the game, like he could out carry ETN in a given week. He was on pace to do that a couple weeks ago, but he wasn't the hot hand last week, and so he only has 1.7 points last week, 17 rushing yards on just 7 carries. A really good matchup against the Titans. They're favored here against the Titans. I do think he's capable of a big play, but yeah, still, I think it's got to be Woody Marks in this spot.
I think for the workload, I would go with Woody Marks. But I think Tootin's going to have – I think he's going to have a big play today. Don't know if it's going to be a volume thing, but I think Tootin breaks one loose today, and maybe that is more than what Marks gets in total. But I'd go with the workload for Woody Marks.
What do you think about Quentin Johnston today? I don't like Parker Washington and Brian Thomas Jr. back. I think the matchup for the Titans is better on the outside for the receivers than inside. Bam Knight's safer than Tootin. He projects better than Tootin. He's the lead back for the Cardinals. I don't really trust either of the running backs for the Cardinals today, but like Michael Carter and Bam Knight probably combined for close to 30 touches. It's like one of these guys might have a good game. The problem is like they're pretty near 50-50 split, and Michael Carter's getting a lot of the receiving work too. I think the ceiling for Quentin Johnston is actually pretty high today, Sam. So I don't know how the Chargers, they go into the bye, perfectly timed bye, by the way, after a horrible, horrible game for them against the Jags. You go into the bye, I don't know how you don't evaluate what Quentin Johnston was doing in the first month of the season, how poorly he was doing in the next month and a half, 2 months of the season. He's coming off a 0-point game versus the Jags. He only had 3 targets in that game. I think they try to get him back going here in week 13. The Raiders have been kind of bad at stopping the deep pass as well. I think there's like a real ceiling for him. I think Knight's floor is maybe safer just because he plays running back. He's like locked into 12 plus touches, but I would probably go Quentin Johnston here in the flex.
I still believe Tootin makes that big play, but I think in that question, I honestly think I would go with Bam Knight over Quentin Johnston. The Bucs don't really scare me as a matchup, and I think Bam Knight could score a touchdown in that game. I think the workload just be a little bit better. I don't like what you said makes a ton of sense logically. Quentin Johnston should have a bigger role coming out of the bye, but like I don't have a reason to believe it. I don't have like concrete. Like the Lions said, we're going to get J-Mo the ball more. They did. Like, no, I don't know. Maybe Harbaugh's not that kind of guy, but I don't trust QJ.
Let's talk some defenses here quick, Sams. The Rams, the Falcons, the Texans. or the 49ers defense. Man, the 49ers got to be in play too with the weather report in that game against Shadur. Even though their defense is still all types of banged up, they did play pretty well against the Panthers in their last game. The Texans, I think, are like in the lead of the conversation to be just the best defense in the NFL, like right now. The defensive line is the best in the league. They have a really strong secondary too. God. And then the Falcons, I think they actually rank the highest among our projections right now against the Jets. That game is also going to be rainy. And then you got the Rams, who are also a really strong defense, and they get the Panthers, who looked horrible, against the 49ers defense, who's even worse, even worse than the Rams defense. All these defenses are in play. I don't know if one stands out to you the most here, Sam. I think the Rams honestly stand out the most to me. The 49ers are interesting, though, too, against the Browns. Shadur's not going to be able to throw. There's going to be a completely one-dimensional game here. And like maybe the Browns can succeed in that one dimension because they're like a pretty effective running game, and the 49ers defense isn't great right now. So that's like a little bit scary. But yeah, I'd honestly probably rank these maybe in this order, thinking about this a little bit more.
There's an argument for every single one of them. Also, someone in the chat complimented my beard. Thank you very much. The Rams got Bryce Young. That's just easy money.
Yeah.
Falcons were actually on my list of starts of the week. I think in a wet game that they could do well against the Jets.
Yeah.
But then you got the Texans, who might just be the best defense in the league, going against Daniel Jones, who can't move laterally. And Daniel Jones has a history of turning the ball over.
Yeah.
I would strongly consider the Texans. I think the Rams and Texans have a great shot of just dominating today defensively.
Yeah, that's
tough
fair.
call.
Yeah, I feel like the 49ers don't have enough talent to start in that defensive spot. I do like the Seahawks defense a lot today too against Brosmer. Michael Wilson or Strange, 2 points PPR for tight end. We got Euros here. Someone in the European district. Michael Wilson versus Strange in 2 PPR for Strange. I feel like that's actually really, really close. Let me see if I can.
It's a good thing the WalterPicks app can adjust to your settings and give you those sort of insights, by the way, in case people didn't realize. I think in this situation, it's very, very interesting, this question. You'd have to think Strange. Yeah, Strange is going to project for more. And I think that's what it means. In premium, I think you got to go Strange. It's 2 points for a catch. He can do half of what Wilson does and score more points than him.
Yeah, I love being able to see the game logs here in the tight end premium view as well. He hit 19 points last week.
Yeah, 100%.
In his first back. Yeah, God, I think it's Strange. I don't like benching Michael Wilson, but you do have to adjust for these scoring settings. Part of the reason the WalterPicks app is like so helpful because it really is sometimes hard to. It is really sometimes hard to adjust in your mind. I feel like with the different scoring settings. Yeah, I got some DFS takes. I'll pull up my favorite stacks here of the week. I do like the percent Michael Wilson Egbuka stack. I think Egbuka is going to come in really low owned with the Baker injury and just how bad he's been doing as well. I still kind of want to play that in DFS, but I feel like in season long I'm a little bit more scared about Egbuka talking to Samps for some of these start sits. Kenneth Walker Seahawks defense stack I like a lot. HN Jawan Johnson stack. I feel like this HN Jawan Johnson stack is pretty sneaky. HN could break the slate. I think Jawan Johnson has a chance to be the tight end one on the slate too. I know McBride and Bowers both on the slate today, but Jawan Johnson I think is in for like a really good role. And then this is Jalen Warren in Shakir stack as well. Some of my personal favorite stacks. Would you start Quentin Johnston or Keenan Allen? I'm going Quentin here. I talked about this one earlier, Sam. So I mean, it's a close call, but to me, Quentin Johnston has a way higher ceiling than Keenan. Keenan did play a lot more in their last game. He was at the 75% of the snaps for the first time in like a while. 75% of the snaps, first time since week 4. Sam, so he was like near that snap percentage. He had 9 points. He has one game over 10 points in the last like 5 games. He has no games over 10 points since last 4. Good matchup for both guys. I think the matchup's better for Johnson, though. I personally would go Johnson. I don't know if you have a strong take there, Sams.
Both of those guys could be a 0. It's just a matter of which one do you think has less of a chance to be a 0, and then maybe you factor in who has a higher ceiling. Johnston has the better ceiling, no question there. But I do think he's more likely to have 0 points than Keenan Allen is. I kind of feel like the Raiders are a matchup Keenan Allen can succeed in. I would not be afraid to start Keenan Allen this week. I think he has a good chance to be okay for you. This question is gross. I don't really want to touch Trey Tucker with a 10-foot pole. I don't know what another crazy stat. The interim offensive coordinator for the Raiders, this is his third different time being the offensive coordinator for the Raiders. What are the odds of that? That's insane. And also his name's Greg Olson, but it's not the Greg Olson that everyone likes. It's
that we want it to be.
Yeah, it's not the Greg Olson we're hoping it would be. It's Keenan. It's Keenan, right?
We were looking at this earlier, Samps. This list is absolutely unreal. The snap percentage leaders: Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and then Mr. Trey Tucker has just been running so many wind sprints.
Cardio Trey.
This season, he had 10 targets last game, 8 targets the week. He's got 18 targets in his last 2 games. Did go for 12 against the Cowboys. I actually have on my sleeper list today. I think maybe there's definitely a world where the new OC is good for Trey Tucker. I could see it going both ways, like for sure. A lot of variance there. But yeah, I think I lean Trey Tucker over Keenan, but Keenan's safer. Keenan's definitely safer. I think Trey Tucker's the ceiling. And I feel you, man. I'm in a couple 14-team leagues as well, and I'm staring down, Don Mechie and Darnell Mooney and Trey Tucker too in one of those leagues. I definitely get the 14-man grind. Michael Wilson or Brian Thomas Jr. I think it's got to be Michael Wilson. Here we are, Sam. It's week 13. I confidently saying Michael Wilson. I do think the ceiling for Brian Thomas Jr. is really, really high today. I would not be surprised to see a really big Brian Thomas Jr. game, but I also wouldn't be shocked to see it be Jacoby Myers get the big game for the Jags in this matchup versus the Titans. So yeah, I think you go Michael Wilson. I think he has a similar ceiling, probably a better floor. I don't want to, overlook the ceiling for Brian Thomas Jr., but I don't want to bench Michael Wilson.
I agree tentatively. It's so crazy that this is where we're at. Because is Brian Thomas going to be fully healthy? Strange is back. Myers is there. Parker Washington's emerging. They have 2 running backs who can get them. It's just there's so much, and they're playing a bad defense. So it's just I think a lot needs to roll Thomas's way. I don't know how you leave the hot streak of Michael Wilson. That's one of those players you leave him on your bench. You're well, that was overthinking it. Why did I do that when he, is grittying in your face on the screen while he's sitting on your bench? Yeah,
I feel similar with Brian Thomas Jr. Yeah, definitely. Him and Jefferson and Brian Thomas Jr. I feel similar. I'm just scared to have them on my bench here in these must-win games in week 13 with the capital I spent to get them and the expectations heading into the season. We got an interesting Jefferson one here. I think we both agree Justin Jefferson, Sam's over.
Yeah.
I've talked about both those guys already on the live today. Sam's, I think I mentioned it to you maybe off the live. Michael Wilson was one of my 5 most drafted receivers in best ball. Sometimes in fantasy, you get the right answer for the wrong reasons. I was in on him just to stack with Kyler. Almost every team I have Michael Wilson on in best ball. I have Kyler also dragging those teams down, but Michael Wilson dragging them up from the grave.
Something's got to give.
He's been one of the best ball picks of the season. All of a sudden, we're confidently ranking him ahead of Brian Thomas Jr. here in week 13. Not many guys you want on your team more than Brian Thomas Jr. right now in fantasy. Than Michael Wilson in these best ball leagues. Michael Wilson, Juwan Jennings, or wide receiver 2 with that. Yeah, it's Michael Wilson over Juwan by a lot with the weather in that game. Would you start Juwan Jennings, Samps, this week? Ricky Pearsall, I think, is an obvious must bench. He's I think 1 catch, 2 catches or something in his last 2 games, combined. Pearsall, he's out there. Doesn't feel like the Pearsall bounce back game. They have a bye and they have a pretty good schedule. I don't think you can drop Pearsall, but to me, he's one of these guys we've seen the course of the season. Can't start him, can't drop him right now. Yeah, he's 3 catches.
Don't you hate that?
Yeah, 3 catches for 6 yards in his last 2. He's playing 75% of snaps, but
in that game, the players that you start, it's Christian McCaffrey, even though I don't love him, and George Kittle. End of list. Both teams included. That's it. I'm literally in our dynasty league. I'm benching both Shedeur Sanders and Brock Purdy to play a non-quarterback in our super flex spot. I'm starting Max Brosmer over both of them just because I'm so worried about that weather. I think Brosmer can get me 10. I don't know if Shedeur and Brock Purdy can do that. So
that is crazy. Yeah, gosh, bro.
That league is insane. By the way, there's 8 teams in the playoff hunt with only 2 spots.
That was me hyping up your beard. We got to get to this question.
Let's go. Thank you, Brian.
Hyping up your beard. Someone's screaming Judkins too. Yeah, Judkins could be started in that game, but I don't think the ceiling is that high. He's not going to catch a single pass, most likely, in that game. Max 1 catch for Judkins. So he needs to score in a game where they only are going to be able to run. There's a little bit nerve-wracking, I think, for Judkins.
Yeah, I was just referring to like locked-in starters to that person saying Judkins is definitely be started, but I'm not confident.
Jacoby Myers, Alec Pierce, Hunter Henry, Bam Knight, pick 2, half PPR, and then 0.75 tight end premium here too.
Very interesting.
Chance to win currently. Yeah, it's Jacoby and Henry. I think it's either Jacoby and Henry or Jacoby and Bam Knight. But the tight end premium, I probably would go Hunter Henry.
Yeah, I would go Myers and Henry or Henry and Knight. I'm with you, but I would pivot. I think Henry, you got to go against the Giants. Yeah.
BTJ or Metcalf? We haven't talked about Metcalf at all, Sams. I like Metcalf today. I do think we see a lot of jump offs to the running backs. I think the game runs through the running backs today, but I do feel like there's a ceiling game coming for DK Metcalf. This is one of these next 2 games is going to be it. They have gotten a lot of short work to DK Metcalf this season too, where he creates after the catch. Like, I feel like he's very capable of a big play. In this Bills game, his target shares have been pretty consistent the last 3 games, at least 7 targets. We've only seen 1 game, Sams, this whole season where Metcalf goes over 20 points. That came in week 4. I mean, it's been a while since we've seen a 20-point game from Metcalf. I think we could see that today for Metcalf, but I don't really want to bench Brian Thomas Jr. either. Like, I think his ceiling is arguably higher than DK Metcalf's. Metcalf projects a bit better in BTJ's first game back. What do you think about this one?
I don't like DK Metcalf this week at all. It's been all over the place. It's been on Twitter. It's been on podcasts, whatever. But in the month of November, the Steelers have not completed a pass of 20 or more air yards the entire month. Jameis Winston had 5 of those against the Lions in the same game. They're not throwing it. If you want DK to have a good game, he's gonna have to go crazy yak, like dump off, gone, like Odell Beckham back in the day. You're gonna need something like that. And I don't know if we see that because the Bills are probably just gonna make Rodgers take the short stuff and just tackle, like run and tackle. Like you said, I'm not worried about I like Gainwell and Warren, so I like the running game this week. If Brian Thomas is 100%, I'm going with Brian Thomas. Both of these guys could heavily disappoint you. No doubt about it.
This guy needs some serious help, Sams. I mean, I think we got.
Oh no, this is gross.
I think we got to steer him to someone on the waivers probably. Here, I think I probably would go McLaurin over Godwin. I mean, it's been rough, man. For Godwin, I feel like is droppable in fantasy right now. I think Mike Evans is actually going to come back soon. Sam,
good point. People check your waivers right now. I was in a money league where Mike Evans was just sitting on waivers and I have an IR spot. I'm like, I'm picking him up. I'm in the playoffs. Like, that could be a huge move you can make right now. Go do it. See if he's available.
Yeah, I feel like I got to make a video about that soon too, because I actually think, it certainly would be like very, very, very tough to do, but I actually think he could hit 1,000 yards still, Sams. I feel like he could have a couple 200-yard games, and suddenly it's like, oh wow, he only needs to average like 120 in these last couple games, and he needs like 800 yards still. He still needs like 800 yards. But like he's going to come back and have like a big role, I think, for this Bucs team. And Godwin has just not looked like himself since he's returned from this injury.
Terrible, debilitating injury. He might never.
Yeah, it's really tough to trust. He's not had over 7 points in a single game, over 6 points in a single game. Like, just not. He's like Tez Johnson is better than him right now. McLaurin in his first game back versus the Broncos is also just rough.
No,
but I probably would go with him over Godwin. I mean, there's a lot of receivers we got ahead of both these guys, though. Guys like Pat Bryant, Devon Bailey, guys like Alec Imanor and Josh Downs. I mean, all these guys I would probably start over McLaurin.
I recommend this person go see if Jaden Higgins is available. I think Jaden Higgins is very interesting this week against the Colts.
Yeah, I mean, I would start Mechie.
Someone like that. Mechie, yeah.
Too.
Because you got to remember not only the Commanders playing the Broncos defense, Marcus Mariota is at quarterback. It's just a total disaster. No way.
Shout out to everyone who's done these super chats today. By the way, we appreciate all your guys' support, whether you do these or not. Appreciate the support of Sam's and I, the entire WalterPicks brand. If you guys haven't checked out the WalterPicks app too yet as well, you got to check it out. If we don't get to your start sit today, the app's got you covered. You're going to get machine learning power projections. It's machine learning plus our expert projections team, which Samson and I are both a part of, that combine to build these projections custom to your league settings too. You can sync your league for all your custom settings. Going to help you down the stretch of fantasy, but also the app's super powerful for props as well. It's where I start all my player prop research in the WalterPicks app. And we have a one-time-a-year sale going on in the WalterPicks app right now. The lowest price you'll get for the app all year happening right now ends tomorrow. So check that out as well as the WalterPicks app. You can check it out for free in the App Store. All right, need a quick start sit help. We got you. Mechie, Bowers, Gatson, Patriots D, and Carlson. Benches, Johnston, Dart, Pearsall, Parker, Washington, Sean Tucker. Any changes? I don't think there's changes here. I mean, would you swap Mechie out for Johnston? I think that, or would you put Johnston in for Gadsden? I don't think you could start Parker Washington or Pearsall. I think Parker Washington's probably droppable. Honestly, now I know that he's been kind of scary to drop because he's been doing well, but with BTJ back and Jacoby in the lineup, I'm kind of out on Parker Washington. Pearsall, I said earlier, he's like can't start him, can't drop him. Sean Tucker is like probably droppable too with Bucky back if we're being realistic.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's not startable. Definitely not. Dart versus.
It's interesting. Let's say he is Dart listed, but no quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, what QBs would you start over Dart? Maybe be a quick way to help him. I mean, Josh Allen, May, Nix, Stafford, Brissett. That's it that we have, and I think that's a pretty good list there. I don't think I'm starting any of the QBs over Dart. Maybe his QB already played too potentially.
Maybe. Yeah, I like Jackson Dart this week. I don't think he's going to stray away from running. I just think he's going to be more cautious. I think he's going to slide. He's not going to be a dummy. He wants to play. If he keeps taking hits, he won't be able to play. I think he's a smart guy. Yeah. He knows the math. But I would consider – well, no, I wouldn't. I was going to say I consider Johnson over Mechie, but he has Gadsden too. I think he keeps it as is.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I might play Johnson over Gadsden. Personally, I think that's pretty close. I mean, they play somewhat similar roles. I think Johnston's ceiling is higher than Gadsden's, though.
It's interesting because he didn't put the position, so I'm like wondering if Gadsden is. Well, he has Bowers too, so yeah, he could do Johnson over Gadsden.
Johnson over Gadsden. And I do think the Pats' defense is a little scary this week, potentially too. Need to fill a tight end slot and flex slots. Kincaid, Schultz, Taysom. I assume that means.
Yeah, exactly.
Higgins and Parker Washington need to fill tight end and flex. Kincaid, we're assuming, is out. I think he might play, but he plays in the late window.
Well, they activated that tight end from the practice squad yesterday. I kind of think he misses.
They activated tight end from the practice squad, and they have Brandon Cooks and Keon Coleman active, who like neither of those guys have been active in recent games. I mean, like this is the king of teams that just bring off these guys off the street. Brandon Cooks, Mecole Hardman,
Gabe Davis.
I mean, these are like just clones of each other here. I mean, crazy stuff.
The GM's like in like 2018 or something.
Yeah, so I think if you're playing it safe, you go with Schultz and Higgins. You play both Jaden Higgins and Schultz. If you're going for the ceiling, I think I told someone else earlier, I'd play Taysom over Schultz. If you really need a ceiling game, like you're projected to only win like 30% win probability or something, then I would consider Taysom against the Dolphins. I think he could have like a huge rushing day here.
I'm banking on you. I'm not the coach. I'm banking on you. I put Taysom in there. We'll see. You told me to play Coker that one game, and it was like 0. So we'll see. I'm banking on it. On. We'll see.
I would go Jaden Higgins here though for sure. And then I think it's Schultz if you're playing it safe, and it's Taysom if you're going for the ceiling. Half PPR 16-team league.
Wow.
Mechie, Trey Tucker, Pierce, that's Mechie.
Yeah, I agree for sure.
Trey Tucker versus Mechie for me here too. I really don't think we can start Pearsall right now.
They're also different too, you know.
I don't think we can bench.
You remember when Trey Tucker dropped 40? That was fun.
Dude, I think he's still that's gone over 40. Season.
I think he is, which is crazy. That's like a crazy stat.
Must win 50-50, Dowdle or Bucky. God, the running back stuff this week
Easy.
Is so tough.
Easy. Is Bucky, man. That is Bucky. You can't bank on if it's 50-50. Keep the hope the rest of your guys do well. I just obviously Dowdle's a great player, but it's the toughest matchup possible. Bad game script. I'm not worried about Bucky. I think he's gonna. Maybe I just love Bucky Irving. So
I love him too, man. He was balling earlier this season. I mean, he's at 18 points. Yeah, 18 points per game. That's wide receiver or running back 7 on the season. Only 6 running backs averaging more points are James Cook, Bijan, Achane, Gibbs, JT, and McCaffrey. That's it.
Pretty good company.
You look at the receptions per game, and it's only Achane and McCaffrey ahead of him. He's got more catches per game, Samson, Bijan, and Gibbs. I mean, like he had a legit receiving role prior to the injury too. He didn't have a game under 4 catches this season. So yeah, I'm okay going Bucky here too. I'm honestly kind of out on Dowdle. The more we talk about him, start one, Judkins, Jaden Higgins, or Strange at flex. Oh man, I assume
Depends on your matchup.
I'm not starting Strange here, Sam. So I would go Jaden Higgins.
No, I'm not either.
And Judkins. Yeah, I think Judkins is the safer play because he's going to get around 20 touches most likely in this game. Not going to get many catches though. I think Jaden Higgins has the higher ceiling in the game. Yeah,
I mean, we could get who are the Patriots playing in that one game where they didn't throw the ball like except for one time to Jonnu Smith? Do you remember that the wind game?
It was the Bills.
It was the Bills. We could see that today. We could see a no throw game for the Browns.
I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't go that far.
But
that game had 60.
Yeah,
that win game had 60. It was like you could not. And the Bills did start throwing at the end of that game still because they had Josh Allen. Which is like crazy. They were trying to throw in 60-mile-an-hour winds, but we could see under 10 completions.
And here's the thing that I haven't seen many people talk about is like when they got to the red zone, the Browns just make Judkins the quarterback, and they run these running back like draw like just powers with no QB on the field. He's getting all the goal line work.
I'm surprised we haven't seen more Addison questions today. It makes me think no one's even considering him.
Probably shouldn't.
Yeah, I think I would go Mechie.
I would, yeah, 100%. Like, is there where Prosmer maybe does well? Maybe. Like, I believe that he could, but I'm not going to bank on Addison doing well. I'm going to go with the guy who's been doing all right.
Debo or Quentin Johnston? Oh God, I think it's Johnston, man. I do think Johnston has a legit ceiling. Debo has been actually playing pretty well recently, but that was without McLaurin. I think he still gets the ball a decent amount. He had 7 catches for 74 and a touchdown last game against the Dolphins. He's 12.5 points in back-to-back games. He's been over a 20% target share like almost every single game. And he could get some rushing work too, but God, I think Johnston's ceiling is higher.
I'd go Debo coming off the bye. I'm going to go with Debo. Don't feel good about it, but it's just like the guaranteed touches. I just really don't trust Quentin Johnston. If he does well today, I could be back on the train. And I'm sorry if he does well. I apologize if you took my advice. But
yeah, it's close. We do have Debo projected just slightly higher. We do have Johnston with the higher ceiling too. So I do usually side with the higher ceilings. Debo does have a high ceiling any given week too with the role that he plays. But yeah, I think the floor is safer for Debo for sure. I still would lean, I think Johnston. Tough call there for sure. Addison, Parker Washington, Debo, Mechie, pick 2. So I think Addison's a bench and Parker Washington's a bench. I would kind of by default go Debo and Mechie here, Sam. Would you play Parker Washington or Addison over either of these guys?
No. It's kind of going back to that last question. Kind of weird that it worked out that way. But yeah, what a crazy question this is.
What do I do with Hodgins? I have Metcalf. Yeah, we're not playing Hodgins. I don't think over either of these 2 guys. I mean, Sam, so you are Mr. Hodgins. I mean, on this live,
yeah,
called him in back-to-back weeks. And I actually did sneak him into one of my DFS lineups last week after the live, and that worked out well in the Jameis stack. He was min-priced again, 10.7, 12.2, back-to-back games. Like he's like had usable fantasy weeks. The thing that I'm a tiny bit scared of is the snap percentage drop. Slayton did come back, and his snaps went from 79% to 66%. He still had 6 targets though, and like he is better. Like he's been better than Slayton. Like he had a great touchdown catch in this last game.
That was such a nice catch. I was like, dang, that's much better than that.
Slayton was not making that catch, to be clear.
No, he wouldn't have caught if he was open. It was a good throw to his chest. Yeah. Slayton, he just drops it so much.
The Giants are, honestly, though, too, like, we haven't seen Hodgins and Dart play together.
That's what I was just going to say.
Maybe it actually meshes really well. Like, I could see, like, he has, like, Theo Johnson a lot, like, kind of the bigger body on the offense. Like, maybe him and Hodgins mesh actually pretty well. I could see it going both ways, honestly. But yeah, we're not starting him over Metcalf or Brian Thomas Jr.
That's why I'm struggling with the Taysom call because it's like either you wait a week, see how it goes, or it goes great first week. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, Taysom is like not every week can be a Taysom week. You know, you have to take your shots. Like with Taysom Hill, we'll see.
I think Hodgins is a hold, by the way, before we get to the next question. Like, it's like the Giants' playoff schedule is interesting. They have a good playoff schedule. If Dart and Hodgins have a good rapport, you could be looking at a guy you're starting in the fantasy playoffs, like with some confidence to an extent.
Yeah, that matchup versus the Commanders for the Giants is looking really good. I do really like Tracy in that game too, with how he's been playing. All right, a few more here, Sam. So I want to make sure we get any other takes you have too. Brissett, Knicks. This is close, Sam. We have Knicks just ahead of Brissett in the QB ranks right now. Oh, God. But I do kind of want to consider Brissett in this spot. It's such a good matchup for Bo Nix, though. Coming off the bye. You're coming off the bye, right? The Broncos?
They are. Yep.
Yeah. Man, I think it is Bo Nix, but it's a close call.
I think it's Bo Nix also. I mean, his rushing is going to give him a floor that if Brissett has a bad game, you're not going to get. So that next question is tough.
This has got to be Kenneth. It's got to be Kenneth. Kenneth's role has been growing. Like there's not been many weeks this season where we went into a game and like thought there was like a real chance of like a workhorse role for Kenneth. He's coming off his highest snap percentage of the season. He's coming off his highest rush share of the season and his highest target share of the season. I mean, across the board, it was the best role of the season last week for Kenneth Walker. Didn't end up scoring, still had 13 points. Like, this is the type of running back I want, man. Like, he doesn't need to score. He still could hit 13, 15 points, and he's obviously capable of a big play. We think the Seahawks are going to crush the Vikings in this game. The game script should be there. I feel like it has to be Kenneth over Devin Neal, who's a little bit just more speculative. Like, I like Devin Neal too, but I just feel like it's a lot less speculative than Kenneth.
A lot of questions will be answered today because Kenneth got a lot of work last week, yet they gave the goal line touch to Charbonnet.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like really annoying. Like they flipped it almost. And yeah, Devin Neal, this is his chance. So we'll see.
This is a great one to end on before we get to any final takes.
All
We have Stevenson, Tootin, and Chris Rodriguez. These are the ones that get me out of bed, Sam's, every Sunday morning, man.
Can't be Chris Rodriguez.
Yeah.
I don't think.
God, the Commanders are just so brutal for fantasy. They're playing 3 running backs. All 3 of them are going to play. Jeremy McNichols is playing the Eckler role. And then you got Chris Rodriguez playing the primary ball carrier role and the goal line role. And then Jacory Grasky-Merritt, who's like the big play between the 20s guy. Then you got a rushing QB and Debo in the mix. Also, I mean, it's just disgusting when it comes to the rushing attack for fantasy. Rodriguez is the projected best running back in the backfield. So I get why he's in some of these starts. He actually projects the best here.
Yeah.
So
he's looked the best. I think he's got that going for him. He looks the best.
God.
You're just really hoping that they can stay in the game. I just don't think that happens. I think the safest one is Stevenson, but he needs the score, which maybe he doesn't. Tootin, like I said, big play guy. He's just, after last week, how can you have any sort of confidence in playing him? I think the answer is Stevenson, but I can see the argument for Rodriguez too.
I think I was going to say Tootin. There's Sam. So there's a
wow.
To end on. I feel like Stevenson is the safest. Tootin's the ceiling, and I honestly would stay away from Chris Rodriguez, even though he projects the best there. Like, it doesn't mean as much to me, those lower projections. Devin Neal, Quentin Johnson, Michael Pittman. I'm not playing Pittman. I play these other 2 guys personally. Sam's, any questions, any takes that you didn't get off your chest here that you wanted to get in?
I think top 3 kicker this week, Kaimi Fairbairn against the Colts. They're going to get past the 50 a lot and not be able to finish drives. I think Fairbairn can hit 4 field goals from like 30 plus, and you're so happy with that performance. And like I said, I love the Falcons defense. Those are 2 that I really like, and I'm just excited to see how this week goes. It's kind of a gross slate, but whenever we see those, the Phoenix rises from the ashes sometimes, and you see a game you weren't expecting. So let's see how it goes, man. Maybe we get the Taysom Hill 50 burger today. That'd be awesome, wouldn't it? For my team, that'd be fun.
I would enjoy that. I might try to get a DFS lineup in with Taysom here before close. Sam, thanks so much for hopping on, guys. We appreciate everyone's support of the live time. It's the most valuable thing we have. Appreciate you guys spending some time with us today. Good luck in week 13, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, Sam.
See you guys. Thank you.